The man dropped out of school for 2.5 years and worked at a convenience store. But now he has suddenly come to a new school as a transfer student. This is because the school bullies have become so rampant that they no longer follow the teacher's instructions. And the only ones who can make them afraid are bullies who are even more dominant than them. For this reason, the local education department had to implement a supervisor plan to manage these bullies. That is to send more powerful bullies back to school, and then use them to manage other bullies. So they approached Daegun Kwon, who had dropped out of school for 2.5 years. Before dropping out, Daegun had already dominated the entire R district. Just one person could suppress all the bullies in our district. But now Daegun is just a convenience store clerk. Not only does he have to endure his unscrupulous boss's lectures every day, he also has to read a bunch of books he doesn't understand to improve his education, which makes Daegun really regret not persisting with school. That day, when just 2 students who looked like troublemakers came to the convenience store, the boss got scared and made an excuse to go to the break room, leaving Daegun alone at the counter. The man immediately showed off his tattooed arm and watch, telling Daegun to get him a pack of cigarettes. Daegun was confused for a moment. Don't these 2 know that they give off the aura of students? He then asked if they could show their ID cards, otherwise he couldn't sell them anything. The woman beside them became displeased, saying, "Why are you a part-timer making such a fuss?" The tattooed man also threw money at Daegun, telling him to hurry up and give him what he wanted. Daegun tried to remind them, but was grabbed by the collar by the man. "Four eyes bastard, can't you understand human language? Just get it quickly. Why so much nonsense?" This scene was also clearly seen by the boss hiding nearby. "These students forced me to sell to them like this last time too." Then he hurriedly rushed out, saying, "Can you go outside to resolve this? There are other customers in the store." Hearing this, Daegun was stunned. The boss was trying to push everything onto him. After that, Daegun was taken to a nearby alley. The tattooed man grabbed Daegun, saying, "Try to act tough again." Daegun just calmly said, "I'll give you 3 seconds to let go of me." Who knew these few words would directly anger the tattooed man, who swung his palm to hit him. The next second, there was a loud noise. The girl anxiously shouted, "Wake up!" Then the tattooed man opened his eyes in bewilderment, finding he had been slapped, while Daegun was completely unharmed. The girl hurriedly helped the tattooed man up. "You punk! You dare to sneak attack me!" Then he whispered to the girl, "Go call the others over." But the girl had trouble hearing him. The tattooed man cursed angrily, "Damn it, I told you to get the brothers over here, did you hear me clearly?" Hearing this, the girl hurriedly went to call the others, and Daegun didn't stop her. Instead, he came to the tattooed man, pat his shoulder and asked, "You're a student, right?" The tattooed man wanted to talk back, but the next second, a sharp pain came from his shoulder, hurting so much that he hurriedly admitted he was a student. Daegun then said, "If I see you buying cigarettes again, you're finished." At that moment, the tattooed man's friends also arrived at the alley. One of them, a fat guy who seemed anxious, asked, "What are you doing, punk? Where are you from?" Daegun looked at the newcomer and asked uncertainly, "You should also be a student, right?" The fat man immediately said, "I'm Oh Daehan from Naendong High School, although I don't know who you are. But take a slap from me first." Saying this, the fat man raised his arm, but the next second, Daegun's palm landed on the fat man's face. One slap knocked him unconscious. Then he looked at everyone. "I don't have time to play with you for too long, so come at me all at once." Hearing this, everyone rushed forward together. One of them, unable to hold back, swung his fist and charged. Daegun just slowly took his hand out of his pocket and gave the man a lightning-fast slap, directly sending him flying. Another person found an opportunity to sneak attack. Daegun moved to the side, followed by an elbow strike that deformed the man's face. Then he turned his gaze to another person, who was now charging at him. Daegun quickly made a turn, then used the momentum to swing his fist and hit the man hard, sending him flying. At this point, the tattooed man picked up a beer bottle from the ground, intending to fight back, but saw a fist flying towards him. He was hit hard in the abdomen by Daegun. The huge force made him fly back several dozen meters. Then Daegun looked at the last person. "Only you left. Aren't you going to attack?" At this moment, the bald man was too scared to move. It must be him. Only one person can be this powerful. Then the bald man asked, "Are you the big brother Daegun Kwon, who used to attend Naendong High School?" The girl beside him was amazed when she heard this. "He is Daegun Kwon, the one who unified the entire R district in just 1 week 2 years ago. Wasn't Daegun Kwon supposed to be a handsome guy? Rumors really can't be trusted." The bald man immediately bowed and apologized. "We were blind not to recognize you." Daegun patted his head and said, "Don't you feel ashamed gathering in a group and acting tough?" Then Daegun told him to wake the others and bow with their heads on the ground. While Daegun sat on the tattooed man, "If you dare to cause trouble at this convenience store again, don't blame me for being ruthless." After dealing with these troublemakers, Daegun was about to return to the convenience store, but was stopped by a bespectacled woman. At first, Daegun thought she was selling products, but then he saw the woman take out her business card and say, I'd like to ask you to do something. It turned out that the woman was Sami Lee, the person in charge of the Golden Dragon Education Foundation's bully management plan. After hearing the woman's plan, Daegun couldn't help but feel it was very feasible. It turned out that Daegun was once a victim of bullying. Any slight resistance would result in a severe beating. And at that time, no student would step forward to stop it. Even when teachers saw him being bullied, they would pretend not to see and continue with their lessons. But once, he was discovered by a more dominant bully. Someone had stuck a note on his back saying, "Has no mother." Coincidentally, this bully also had no mother. So when he saw this note, he became very angry. He directly intervened and beat up the bullies tormenting Daegun, and they didn't dare fight back. Afterward, he directly stated, "Whoever dares to bully Daegun again is going against me." Because of those words, no one ever bullied Daegun again. This incident also made Daegun understand that in school, any word from a bully was more effective than a teacher's. After that, in order to become stronger, Daegun constantly trained, learning various fighting techniques. After 2.5 years of training, Daegun was finally transformed and single-handedly took down all the bullies in the R district, becoming the undisputed ruler of the R district. But after that, Daegun left school and became the convenience store clerk he is now. Now facing Sami Lee's invitation, Daegun asked, "You mean you want me to go and deal with all those bullies?" Sami Lee immediately said, "That's right, just deal with those bullies." Daegun then said, "How can you as an education foundation be plotting behind the scenes?" Sami Lee leaned forward and said, "Although we're plotting, I've also looked into your past. While this plan is indeed a bit absurd, I know you have no reason to refuse. This is also a good opportunity for you to make up for your past mistakes, isn't it?" The next day, Daegun stood at the entrance of the new school. "I never thought I'd be back in school at this age. Let's see how rampant the bullies are now." Now Daegun has come to the new school as a transfer student. His cool and handsome appearance immediately attracted the attention of most of the girls. This scene also caused dissatisfaction among the class bullies. One immediately said, "Watch how I deal with him later." After the teacher arranged a seat for Daegun, she left. Through conversation, Daegun learned that the person next to him was called Min-soo Kim. Seeing the teacher leave, a bully from the back row got up from his seat, slowly walking behind Daegun and Min-soo Kim. Min-soo didn't notice Hojang behind him. Suddenly, Hojang slapped Min-soo hard on the head. This sudden scene startled Daegun, wondering what this guy was suddenly doing. Hojang looked at Min-soo and said, "What are you looking at? Go buy me a sausage bread." Min-soo didn't dare to resist. He could only say that class was about to start, and he might not be able to go. This remark made the blonde behind laugh. Hojang's face changed as he shouted, "Everyone close your damn eyes!" The next second, everyone in the class actually closed their eyes, and Hojang slapped Min-soo in the face. "You little punk, are you tired of living? When I tell you to go, you go. You dare to talk back?" Seeing this, Daegun couldn't hold back and wanted to act. But he remembered the many rules Sami Lee had set for him. He couldn't figure out if she wanted him to intervene or not. Suddenly, Hojang looked at Daegun and said, "Why didn't you close your eyes? You know, you're sitting in the seat of the person who used to run errands for me. Why don't both of you go?" Daegun naturally wouldn't run errands for anyone, so he said, "Isn't one person enough?" Hearing this, Hojang laughed. "What, you two want to compare who's stronger?" Suddenly his face changed and he said, "Punk, you'd better not waste words. When I tell you to go, you go." Daegun then stood up, saying, "Sure, but give me the money." Hojang was stunned by this move. He didn't expect Daegun to dare ask him for money. He grabbed Daegun's head. "Punk, who are you asking money from? When I tell you to buy something, of course you use your own money." Daegun finally couldn't bear it anymore. "You really have no manners. Remember, you started this." The next second, Daegun attacked, a punch hitting Hojang's ribs hard, making Hojang throw up his lunch. Then another punch hit his face, completely stunning Hojang. But Daegun showed no sign of stopping. "Since I've started, I must finish you." Another heavy punch hit Hojang's face. Finally, Hojang passed out completely. The blonde nearby stood up in shock. Daegun said, "All kinds of trash dared bully me. Blondie, come out here. Weren't you laughing hard just now?" At this moment, the blonde was already scared by Daegun and didn't dare to move. Seeing this, Daegun walked over. "Since you won't come to me, I'll go to you. You'd better clench your teeth." The blonde immediately took a few steps back. Suddenly, a flying kick came towards Daegun, but he dodged it with a sidestep. The blonde then threw a straight punch but missed. A right hook also missed, angering him to curse, "Why do you keep dodging?" The next second, Daegun landed a super heavy punch on the blonde's abdomen. One punch made the blonde cry, almost losing his life. "You told me not to dodge. Let's see how many more punches you can take." The blonde immediately said, "Hitting the chest is too dangerous. People could die." At this moment, Hojang suddenly woke up, lifting a chair to smash Daegun. Daegun wasn't worried at all. "This is the first time I've seen someone who can take so many hits." Then Daegun punched Hojang in the face again. "You'd better settle down." Finally, Hojang and the blonde were thrown to the back of the classroom by Daegun. Then he grabbed Hojang. "You really like bread, huh? How about this? You go buy bread now, and get mine too." Hojang replied, "You think beating me makes you the boss of the class? I'm not the boss of this class. Just wait, when he comes, you're dead." Suddenly, the back door of the classroom was opened. A red-haired man walked in, looking at Daegun, saying, "Who are you?" daring to cause trouble in our class and hurt my underlings. Manho no looked at his two beaten underlings and said helplessly, "You two couldn't even beat one person? And you, the new transfer student, you dare to be so arrogant on your first day?" Dagon watched Manho slowly approach, thinking he was about to fight. People around gradually backed away. But unexpectedly, Manho said, "What are you hiding for? Who said I was going to fight?" Hearing this, Dagon laughed. "That sounds nice." But his body was already prepared to punch at any moment. Looks like he's learned some kickboxing. Hojong, on the other hand, had full confidence in Manho. He then started ordering other students to buy him popcorn. But the next second, he found Dagon had turned his head to look at him, scaring him into saying, "Never mind." Seeing this, Manho understood that if he didn't teach Dagon a lesson today, it seemed no one would listen to them in the future. He pretended to ask Dagon's name. Dagon was about to answer, but saw Manho suddenly attack, using a groin attack. His palm instantly blocked Dagon's vision. The next second, Dagon looked down and saw Manho raising his leg, instinctively thinking Manho was going to attack the weakness all men share. This guy is so despicable. This is the forbidden technique acknowledged by all men. Dagon hurriedly reached out to block. However, Manho suddenly withdrew his leg and threw a punch at Dagon. "Ha ha ha, you fell for it, punk." Dagon had no time to block and was hit hard in the face. At the critical moment, Dagon quickly retreated, reducing most of the force of the punch. Hojong and the blonde shouted, "Well done," when they saw this. Meanwhile, Manho had charged forward again, but this time Dagon wouldn't give him a chance. A sweeping kick hit Manho's leg. Manho instantly lost balance and began to wobble. Dagon grabbed his collar, throwing him flying, smashing him hard against the wall, then said helplessly, "You're really despicable using that move even though we're both men." But Manho didn't mind. "What, you have a problem with that? I didn't actually kick you. That was just a greeting. Now you'll see my real strength." At this moment, Dagon thought Manho was going to fight him fairly. But instead, he saw Manho grab a dustpan and throw it directly at him. Dagon quickly dodged, but saw that Manho had already taken the opportunity to charge, once again witnessing Manho's despicable nature. Although Dagon had no chance to counterattack now, Manho's attacks couldn't hit him either, angering Manho to curse, "Stop moving around." Suddenly Manho shouted, "Stop! This guy is my opponent." Dagon thought someone was sneaking up on him, but when he turned to look, he only found an ordinary student. Manho took advantage of Dagon's distraction and threw a punch, but it was blocked by Dagon. "Damn it, you punk, you're really annoying." However, Manho unexpectedly used another dirty trick, trying to poke Dagon's eyes, but all were dodged. Dagon was speechless and decided not to hold back anymore. A direct left hook made Manho's nose bleed. The next second, he passed out, lying motionless on the ground. Hojong and the blonde were stunned. "Looks like the boss of Class 1 is going to change." Dagon looked at the two and said, "Go wake him up. When he's conscious, the three of you come to me." Everything that happened here was clearly seen by Sami Lee. "Your performance didn't disappoint me. I'm looking forward to what you do next." But Sami Lee was recognized by a female student. "The planning director of the Education Foundation, why is she at the school?" Meanwhile, Dagon had started educating Manho and the others. "You three brats, you'd better behave from now on. Otherwise, I can be your friend, or I can be your demon." Then Dagon told the whole class, "If they bully you or anyone else in the future, tell me, and I'll be responsible for tearing them apart." The news of Dagon becoming the boss of Class 1 quickly reached the ears of Class 3. Despite this, they didn't take Dagon seriously, because in their eyes, Manho was just someone who used dirty tricks and sneak attacks. The boss of Class 3, Sangbo Shim, stood up and said, "Don't count on them. Come practice with me first. Where's the punching machine?" Then Sangbo was seen walking up to a student. "It's your turn today." The next second, Sangbo punched the student in the abdomen. Then he asked the beaten student to rate his punch. The student had just said 800 when he began to vomit. "How disgusting, I told you not to eat. Prepare a few more sandbags for me at noon. Let me warm up before teaching that transfer student a lesson." At this time, class had just ended, and Hojong yawned and asked if anyone would run errands for him. Hearing this, Dagon turned his head to look at Hojong, startling him awake. At this moment, the blonde quickly came to remind Hojong, "You'd better go yourself, consider it exercise." But the next second, he was scolded by Hojong, "Mind your own business," only to realize the blonde was riding on another student. The blonde just noticed and hurriedly jumped off the man. At this point, Hojong also complained, "This school is impossible to attend. No one runs errands for me anymore." The blonde then suggested, "Why don't we get the transfer student to fight outside school?" Hojong asked Manho, "You can definitely win, right?" A girl nearby couldn't help but mock, "What a bunch of cowards." Then she came to Dagon, fawning, "Big brother Dagon, you're so good at fighting. If possible, could you practice jujitsu with me?" The woman then realized Dagon was actually looking at the notes on the blackboard, but Dagon completely ignored the woman, staring frantically past her. The woman then realized Dagon was actually looking at the notes on the blackboard, feeling greatly humiliated that he had ignored her. She stopped bothering Dagon and vented on Manho and the others. "Useless guys, you should study hard too. Don't think about revenge." Speaking of revenge, Manho suddenly thought, now that he had been defeated by Dagon, Myungjung Kim from Class 2 and Sangbo Shim from Class 3 would definitely come looking for trouble with Dagon. Now they don't need to fight with me anymore. If they defeat Dagon, we'll also become their underlings. Hojong heard this and became anxious. We need to think of something. I would rather die than become their underling. But the next second, the boss of Class 2, Myungjung Kim, suddenly appeared. Looking gloatingly at Manho, he mocked, "How are you still alive? I heard you were beaten half to death. Didn't you sleep well yesterday? I heard you fell asleep after getting beaten." Hojong immediately became agitated. "Are you here to mock us?" Manho also stood up and said, "If you want to fight, just say so." Then he picked up a pen from the table. "I'll make you experience the feeling of wetting your pants again." Myungjung Kim sneered, "You punks still dare to act tough with a weapon." Manho was too lazy to waste words with him, and walked forward saying, "Just wait to get beaten." Myungjung Kim replied, "It's not certain who will get beaten this time," just as the two were about to fight. A voice suddenly came, "Damn it, you guys are really noisy." Dagon adjusted his glasses and said, "You're disturbing my studies." Seeing this, Manho immediately deflated and returned to his seat. Myungjung Kim looked at Dagon and said, "So this is the transfer student who defeated Manho." Then he said to Manho, "Looks like I don't need to waste time on you." Hojong was furious, wishing Dagon would teach him a good lesson. Myungjung Kim and his followers slowly walked to Dagon. He pointed at Dagon and asked his underling, "Is it this guy? He looks like an ordinary bookworm, wearing glasses like a loser." Then he bent down to Dagon and said, "What did you just say? Say it again if you dare." But Dagon completely ignored Myungjung Kim. Myungjung Kim thought he had scared Dagon, so he reached out to grab Dagon's hand that was taking notes. But the next second, he was suddenly gripped by Dagon, who bent his fingers back hard. The intense pain made the veins on Myungjung Kim's face bulge. He shamelessly begged, "Please let go, it's killing me." Dagon said, "I need to organize my notes during this break. If you don't want your fingers broken, come find me next time." Hearing this, Myungjung Kim just said, "Understood." Dagon then released him, but the next second, Myungjung Kim swung his fist. Seeing this, Dagon leaned back and then stretched out his hand to block Myungjung Kim's fist. Then he slapped Myungjung Kim in the face and sent him flying. Unexpectedly, he was knocked out directly. Then Dagon said, "So this is the boss of Class 2? Why did he come looking for trouble so eagerly? I was thinking of dealing with him next time." Then he told Myungjung Kim's underling, "When he wakes up, tell him if I see him slacking off again, I'll finish him." After they carried Myungjung Kim away from Class 1, Dagon felt like he was dreaming. "I didn't expect to resolve Class 2 just like that." Manho and the others were also stunned. Hojong immediately said, "They say forgiving others is 100 times cooler than revenge. I've decided to forgive the transfer student." Even the blonde said, "I also think studying hard is more important." But they didn't see that people from Class 3, including Sangbo Shim, had also come. Sangbo Shim called out as soon as he entered, "Manho, I heard you got beaten up." Hojong was speechless. This familiar feeling, did you two arrange this? But Sangbo Shim directly said, "Don't worry, I'm not interested in you." Then they came directly to Dagon and surrounded him. Dagon helplessly said, "Looks like I'll have to take notes next time." Sangbo Shim patted Minsu Kim and said, "Can you get lost? We have business with the person next to you." Then Sangbo Shim sat beside Dagon and teased, "Are you studying? Is your character setting that of a good student?" "I'm Sangbo Shim from Class 3. I heard you defeated Manho, and I'm really worried you might start bullying everyone." Hearing this, Dagon took off his glasses and said, "You guys are endless, really annoying, just get to the point. Someone like you who always brings a bunch of underlings can't be that strong. You don't think you're strong, do you?" Hearing this, Sangbo Shim laughed. "You're interesting, you seem to have guts." But Sangbo Shim didn't choose to fight at that moment, instead saying, "See you after school. You'd better be prepared. I'm not like that loser Manho." With that, he left with his followers. Dagon couldn't help but be speechless. "Am I so popular on my first day at school? Looks like I can't enjoy school life properly." At this moment, Manho suddenly walked over to Dagon. Coming to his side, he asked, "Can I sit here?" But Dagon directly refused. However, Manho still pulled out the chair and prepared to sit down, saying, "Sangbo Shim is right. He's different from us. That guy is a real fighting expert." Dagon replied indifferently, "So what? Besides, I didn't say you could sit here." Manho said, "I want to help you." Dagon looked at him suspiciously. "What are you planning?" Manho said, "I can help you defeat Sangbo Shim." But Dagon replied, "No need." Manho continued as if he hadn't heard, "Sangbo Shim has been practicing boxing since he was very young. But this guy has no interest in boxing competitions. He practices boxing for only one reason. That is, he likes hitting human punching bags." Soon, lunchtime arrived and Dagon went to the cafeteria to eat. This also made Dagon drool. He hadn't eaten at a cafeteria in a long time. Recently, he had been eating expired food from the convenience store. And Dagon's handsome appearance also attracted a lot of attention, including bullies from other classes. Sung Woo, the leader of Class 7's PE specialist class, and Do Sik Kwak, the leader of Class 8's entertainment class. The news of Dagon defeating Manho and Myungjung Kim had already reached everyone's ears, but they didn't immediately go looking for trouble with Dagon. Everyone knew that Sangbo Shim would fight Dagon after school. Then they would know if Dagon really had the skills. And at this time, Manho and the others were also sitting with Dagon eating. Manho was still trying to persuade Dagon to be careful of Sangbo Shim, but Dagon didn't take it to heart. Then he asked Manho, "Didn't you win when you fought him before? Why are you still so afraid? And why are you helping me?" Manho sighed and said, That's because my fight with Sangbo Shim wasn't really over. In the last fight, I was almost completely beaten up by him. This guy is very good at long-distance fighting, and his footwork is very agile, making it impossible for me to hit him, but he always found opportunities to attack me. And just when I was about to be defeated, I successfully cornered him. To win, I had no choice but to use my long-sealed secret technique, the groin attack. Sangbo Shim, caught by his weakness, was forced to surrender to me. But later, this guy didn't accept his defeat. I swear I didn't do anything to betray myself, but no one seems to acknowledge my victory. Daegun couldn't help but be speechless after hearing this. That's obvious, no one would acknowledge that. Manho continued. Since then, Sangbo Shim has never sought a rematch with me. As for why I'm helping you, that's because if you're defeated, we'll all be forced to become his underlings. At this moment, two insignificant figures suddenly walked towards Daegun. Daegun immediately recognized them as Sangbo Shim's underlings. But unexpectedly, as they passed Daegun, they threw something into his food tray, then quickly pretended to be innocent and apologized. Daegun hadn't said anything yet, but the girl beside him had already yelled, "Are you insane?" But they waved their hands saying, "I've already apologized, calm down, take it or leave it." Then they turned to leave, not forgetting to mock Daegun. At this moment, Daegun suddenly grabbed one of them and said, "Did I say you could leave?" This commotion immediately attracted the attention of other students. Everyone looked eager to see if Daegun really had the skills. The person caught by Daegun became afraid, hurriedly shouting, "Let me go, it's not a big deal, why are you grabbing me?" I already apologized. But the next second, Daegun's grip suddenly tightened. Then he said, "Whether to accept your apology is my business." Just as Daegun was about to teach them a lesson, his phone suddenly received a message. So Daegun temporarily released them to check his phone. It was a message from a woman named Sami Lee. Seeing this message, Daegun was shocked. Sami Lee was the girl who had him return to school. As long as Daegun successfully graduated from school, he would receive full tuition and living allowances. But the premise was that this plan must be carried out secretly, also to constrain Daegun's behavior. If the mission failed due to Daegun's behavior or words, then Daegun would return to his previous life. Seeing Sami Lee's message, Daegun immediately deflated, guessing she meant he shouldn't draw too much attention. The two underlings, seeing that Daegun's attention was not on them, quickly ran away, and Daegun didn't chase them. Instead, he rubbed his forehead thinking he should keep a low profile. If the plan succeeded, he could live the life he had always dreamed of. Besides, this was his first day at school, and he had already beaten enough people. Better to let those guys go for now. The other bullies in the cafeteria found this disappointing, while also seeing that Daegun wasn't a simple-minded person. Daegun then got up and left the cafeteria. Manho and the others didn't know what had happened to Daegun, how he seemed to change completely after looking at his phone. After leaving the cafeteria, Daegun was still thinking about whether he had been too flamboyant today, and what Sami Lee would think of him. Just as Daegun decided not to fight anymore today, he suddenly saw the underling who had caused trouble in the cafeteria. When the other person saw Daegun, he quickly made a smooth turn to escape. Daegun grabbed him. "You still want to run?" The person hurriedly said, "You just transferred today and may not know the rules yet. You can't randomly attack people from other classes. You must first defeat our class's Sangbo Shim to order me around. Otherwise, you'll become the target of the whole school." Daegun was speechless. What kind of bullshit rule is this? Then he said to the man, "Let's go somewhere private to talk. You don't want to get beaten up here, do you?" When they arrived, Daegun directly taught him how to behave, then found that this place seemed very suitable for fighting. Then he told the man, "Go get your class boss. According to what you said, as long as I defeat Sangbo Shim now, I can beat you up freely, right?" The man replied, "Theoretically yes, but he's probably busy right now. He's hitting the punching bag." Daegun's face darkened. "You mean he's using other students as punching bags?" The man was stunned. "How did you know? Have you done it too?" Getting a confirmation, Daegun couldn't hold back anymore. "I was thinking too naively. The most important thing now isn't to be discreet." Then he directly went to Sangbo Shim's class 3. Through the window, he saw a student being beaten. Sangbo Shim also noticed the figure at the door. He immediately sent an underling to see who it was. As soon as the door opened, they saw Daegun's grim face. Sangbo Shim said, "Didn't I tell you to meet after school? Are you coming here now because you want to fight right away?" Then he told the students nearby, "You punching bags, get out of the way." But then he saw those beaten students limping away to the side. Sangbo walked up and put his arm around one of them saying, "Stop pretending, you punk. Are you planning to go back and tattle?" The guy, terrified, quickly explained, "I just twisted my ankle on the way home. It's all my fault." Daegun scanned the surroundings. He knew all too well that feeling of being used as a punching bag while being powerless to do anything about it. It was because Daegun had experienced the same thing before, having been bullied by school thugs himself. But now he had the ability to fight back. And wasn't this why he returned to school? Then Daegun said to Sangbo, "Stop taking your anger out on those weak punching bags. If you've got guts, challenge someone stronger." Hearing this, Sangbo's face darkened. "Are you saying that stronger person is you?" Daegun pointed at Sangbo's lackey and said, "You must be tired after beating punching bags for so long. If you think it's unfair, let this guy be my punching bag instead." The guy who was pointed at instantly became furious. "You punk! You dare to call me your punching bag?" He immediately swung his fist at Daegun, but Daegun dodged with a sidestep, grabbed the guy's arm and collar, and threw him away. While the guy was still disoriented, Daegun raised his fist and struck. Like a cannonball, his fist hit the guy's face directly. With just one punch, the guy was knocked unconscious. The students around them were shocked. That punch sounded so loud. Daegun looked at Sangbo and said, "Not bad. Just like hitting a punching machine. Tell me, how many more punching bags should I beat?" Seeing this, Sangbo's face turned black with rage, veins popping on his forehead. Sangbo immediately ordered the students around to move all the desks and chairs away. Seeing this, Daegun didn't try to stop him. He knew Sangbo was a long-range fighter and was doing this to take advantage of the space. Meanwhile, the news of Daegun coming to fight Sangbo had spread throughout the boxing school. Manho No and others rushed over as soon as they heard. Just then, Sangbo had finished preparing and took a fighting stance against Daegun. The next second, Sangbo quickly approached Daegun. He threw a punch at Daegun, which Daegun dodged with a sidestep. Then Sangbo twisted his body and threw a right hook at Daegun. Unfortunately, all these attacks were dodged by Daegun, who couldn't help but admire Sangbo's quick reactions. Every time Sangbo attacked, Daegun could dodge just in time. But Sangbo could also quickly react and attack again. Just then, Daegun found an opportunity to counterattack. But Sangbo immediately noticed Daegun's intention. He hastily took a step back to create distance between himself and Daegun. Seeing this, Daegun frowned to himself. Manho was right, this guy is no ordinary opponent. With innate fighting talent plus targeted training, plus using agile footwork to quickly switch between offense and defense, most importantly, this guy is very fast. By now, Sangbo had launched another attack against Daegun. With extremely fast punches, he seemed to suppress Daegun for a moment. Manho, watching from the doorway, worried for Daegun. I was once beaten by that same combination with no chance to fight back. But the next second, Daegun found a chance to counterattack. His fist appeared in front of Sangbo's face in the blink of an eye, too fast for Sangbo to dodge. The next moment, Daegun's punch sent Sangbo flying back several meters. Luckily, Sangbo had raised his arms in front of his face at the critical moment. But Daegun's punch still caused significant damage to Sangbo. Sangbo was shocked, unable to believe a human could possess such strength. Hojong and the blonde guy watching from the side were dumbfounded, unable to see when Daegun had thrown the punch. Daegun shook his arm and thought to himself, this guy's reaction speed is really fast, instantly choosing to defend. But Sangbo, having taken a punch, grew more confident. He felt he had figured out Daegun's fighting pattern. Then Sangbo began bouncing in place, planning to lure Daegun to punch first, then counterattack. The next second, Sangbo charged straight at Daegun. Daegun hurriedly threw a counterpunch. But the next moment, Sangbo suddenly retreated, dodging Daegun's punch. A mocking smile appeared on Sangbo's face, thinking he had succeeded. But the next second, Daegun delivered a sweeping kick directly to Sangbo's knee. This kick completely confused Sangbo, who hadn't expected Daegun to suddenly use his legs. He hurriedly threw an uppercut, trying to force Daegun back. But after Daegun dodged, he delivered another sweeping kick to the same spot. 2 consecutive kicks to the same spot left Sangbo temporarily unable to stand. Daegun walked up to Sangbo and told him to get up. Hearing this, Sangbo was stunned. "You punks still want to maintain your demeanor in front of me? You're underestimating me too much." But the next second, Daegun delivered another sweeping kick, knocking Sangbo to the ground again. "I told you to get up, can't you understand?" This level of ruthlessness shocked Manho and the other two watching from the side. By now, although Sangbo could still stand, the leg that had been repeatedly kicked was trembling uncontrollably. Seeing this, Daegun mocked, "Why is your leg shaking? If you can't stand up, just lie down obediently." Angered, Sangbo cursed, "Damn it, you don't think you've already won, do you?" Daegun was tired of talking and threw another sweeping kick. Sangbo thought Daegun was aiming for his leg again, and quickly took a defensive stance. But the next second, Daegun abruptly stopped his kick. He switched to a right hook that hit Sangbo directly. Unfortunately, Sangbo reacted in time and barely blocked it. But the next moment, Sangbo was stunned as Daegun put his hand in front of Sangbo's face, blocking Sangbo's vision. Then Daegun delivered a sweeping kick directly to Sangbo's injured leg. Fighting really means targeting the weak leg. Manho was dumbfounded watching from the side. How is this guy using my moves? Not very dignified. After being kicked in the same spot multiple times, Sangbo finally couldn't stand up. The intense pain made him break out in cold sweat. What nobody knew was that the fight between Daegun and Sangbo was being recorded. On the other end of the surveillance was a middle-aged man watching the process of Sangbo and Daegun's fight. The man couldn't help but remark, "Watching others fight is the most enjoyable. These inexperienced punks still fight pretty decently." Daegun now looked at Sangbo and said, "What are you still kneeling for? Get up quickly." But Sangbo could barely stand up, remaining on his knees without moving. At this moment, all the classmates were looking at Sangbo in shock. This made Sangbo feel extremely humiliated. The leader of the PE specialist class nearby said, "Even if he stands up now, he can't continue fighting. His leg is probably ruined. You know, a boxer's most powerful weapon isn't his fists. The truly terrifying part is his footwork, which allows him to maintain the distance he wants from his opponent at all times. If a boxer's fists are like bullets, then his footwork is the gun. But in his current state, he can't utilize his footwork. A boxer who has lost his agility might be worse than an ordinary person. At this moment, Sangbo had struggled to stand up, saying, "It's not over yet, punk." Seeing this, Daegun said, "Very good, it seems you want to continue." He immediately kicked Sangbo again. Sangbo now had lost the ability to fight back and could only block passively. The tremendous force kicked Sangbo several meters away again. Sangbo realized the situation was bad. This guy's strength is too great, I can't block it. But in my current state, I can't dodge either. Now I can only switch to close combat. But before Sangbo could react, Daegun kicked him again. One kick sent Sangbo flying to the corner of the classroom. Seeing the wall behind him, Sangbo felt a sense of dread. Sure enough, the next second Daegun charged forward. Countless punches rained down on Sangbo, who could only defend. But eventually Daegun found an opening and landed a punch on Sangbo's ribs. The rib impact made Sangbo temporarily unable to breathe, his consciousness gradually becoming fuzzy. He could only continue defending on instinct. At this moment, Sangbo was like a punching bag being continuously beaten by Daegun. Finally, after taking 81 punches, Sangbo couldn't hold on and collapsed to the ground. At this moment, he was terrified to the extreme. "I can't beat this guy." Daegun slowly approached Sangbo. "I'll give you 10 seconds, hurry back to your position." But this time, Sangbo lowered his head and chose not to stand up. The students around looked at the scene in disbelief. Why isn't he getting up? Is he giving up? Sangbo's lackey was stunned seeing this. As Sangbo's friend, he knew very well why Sangbo practiced boxing but didn't participate in competitions. And the reason he didn't challenge Manho again even though he could beat him. As well as the reason he was obsessed with beating up punching bags that wouldn't fight back. Though he pretended to be very strong, he was actually terrified of pain. Realizing this, the guy quickly stepped forward to stop Daegun. Stop, we give up." Daegun merely glanced at him, then turned his gaze back to Sangbo and said, "I want you to admit defeat with your own mouth." Seeing this, Sangbo could only say, "I lost. Stop hitting me." The students around couldn't believe what they were seeing. Satisfied, Daegun turned to leave, but not without mocking. "What kind of boxer are you? It's laughable. You're not even qualified to be a punching bag." The students around felt like they were in a dream, unable to believe Sangbo had actually admitted defeat. By now, Daegun had left Class 3. Watching this scene, Manho fell into deep thought. Just how strong is Daegun? Sunghwa Gu from the PE class also realized Daegun was very strong, and this guy definitely hasn't shown his full power yet. We need to observe him for a while longer. As Daegun walked out, he encountered the other guy who had caused trouble in the cafeteria at noon. Seeing Daegun, the guy couldn't help but mock, "What are you doing wandering around outside Class 3? Don't tell me you got scared seeing Sangbo beating punching bags." But the next second, Sangbo's anguished roar came from Class 3, making the guy jump. He quickly ran to the door to check, only to find Sangbo kneeling on the ground, looking like he had just been beaten up. The guy immediately broke out in cold sweat, looking at Daegun in terror. Daegun calmly asked, "Do you have anything else to say now?" Frightened, the guy blurted out, No, good job." Just then, someone suddenly bumped into the guy. It was Manho and his two friends walking out of Class 3. Looking at the guy, Manho said, "Get out of the way, don't block the path." The guy hurriedly moved aside to let them pass. After seeing Manho and the others walk away, he quickly returned to Class 3. Walking to Sangbo, he asked, "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Sangbo glared at him. The guy was startled by Sangbo's glare. He quickly yelled at the watching students, "What are you idiots looking at? Get lost." Sangbo was furious and unwilling to accept defeat, gritting his teeth and saying, "I won't let this matter rest." Meanwhile, in a meeting room, a video of Daegun and Sangbo's fight was being played. One of the men remarked, "This student called Daegun is quite impressive." Standing beside him was Sami Lee, who had brought Daegun back to school. The man continued, "Director Lee, I'm very satisfied with your plan this time. Thanks to your plan, we can carry this out. But those rules are really annoying. Remove them all." Hearing this, Sami Lee became anxious. "You should know what that person did before. If we don't restrain him with rules, we have no idea what he might do." The man waved his hand dismissively. "When did you become so noisy? Don't worry about this. At most, he'll just throw his weight around at school. Outside school, he's still a nobody. He's just helping us deal with those dirty rats hiding in the corners. At most, he's just an obedient little cat. No matter how capable he is, he can't escape our control. What's wrong with letting him unleash his true nature?" By now, the news of Daegun defeating Sangbo had spread to all classes. Coming on his first day and sweeping through 3 classes had shocked many people. Dojin Park, the leader of Class 4, said, "It's none of my business. He can do whatever he wants." Sunghun Lee, the leader of C Class 9's advanced class, said, "I just want to study properly." Won-Eung Kim, the leader of Class 6, said, "I just want to play games quietly." Only Jisok Yu, the leader of C Class 5, was getting a headache. He went to Class 6 to find Won-Eung Kim, wanting to strategize together. Although it's not a big deal that Monho defeated the leader of Class A3, and I don't need to be on guard against him. That new transfer student is different from those weaklings. We need to think of a countermeasure. Just then, a girl nearby said, "I really don't understand what you boys think about all day." She was Suji Baek, the self-proclaimed queen of Class 6. "If you lose, I'll just ask my brother for help." Jiseok Yu immediately objected, "No way. This is our junior grades matter. We can't trouble the senior grade seniors. Soon, Dagon's first day of school ended. After school, Monho and his friends continued following Dagon. Manho warned, "We've always been wary of each other, but now you've ignited the flames of battle. I guess the leaders of other classes are already preparing to deal with you. Whether you like it or not, you'd better be mentally prepared. And the people at this school aren't as simple as they appear." Just then, Hojong said, "We can talk about that later. Let's go to the internet cafe to play League. I just reached silver yesterday." At that moment, Dagon suddenly saw Sami Lee's car parked nearby, immediately understanding she was waiting for him. He told them, "I have something to do today, so I won't join you for games. Besides, I'm gold. I don't play with silver players." Hearing this, Hojong couldn't help but complain, "I knew I still don't like this G-guy." After Dagon got into Sami Lee's car and left, a female student watching from the roadside was suddenly stunned. "That's Sami Lee's car. What is she doing here?" The glasses-wearing girl beside her asked, "Ji-in, what's wrong?" But Ji-in kept staring at Sami Lee's departing car. If I'm not mistaken, this woman Sami Lee must be planning something. Meanwhile, in the car, Dagon was on pins and needles, afraid that Sami Lee might be displeased with him in any way. Sami Lee remarked, "Your first day of school life was quite eventful." Hearing this, Dagon quickly explained, "I just greeted them, and they came at me. This should count as self-defense, right?" But after saying this, he saw Sami Lee's face remain stern. Seeing this, Dagon gave up. Fine, go ahead and say it. What punishment do I need to accept?" But the next second, Sami Lee said there was no punishment. On the contrary, his performance today was very good. "We've observed your actions today and finally decided to reduce the restrictions on you. In the future, we hope you can perform like you did today." Hearing this, Dagon finally smiled. "In that case, I don't have to hold back anymore." But the next second, Dagon realized something was off. He asked, "Sami Lee, how do you know what happened to me today? Are you monitoring me?" To this, Sami Lee adjusted her glasses and said, "That's confidential." Dagon fell into deep thought, suspecting that his desk mate Min-Soo Kim might be an undercover agent. But the next second, Dagon felt it didn't matter. After all, the news had spread throughout the school. Almost everyone knew about today's events. Soon, Sami Lee brought Dagon to an apartment building. She then led Dagon to a door, stating this would be Dagon's residence from now on. Opening the door, Dagon was immediately shocked by the luxurious decoration inside. "I never thought I'd live in such a nice place. You're treating me too well. But it feels like this isn't a new apartment." Sami Lee replied, "Of course it's not new. This is where I used to live." Hearing this, Dagon became uncomfortable, his face reddening. "Do you mean we're going to live together?" Sami Lee's face changed instantly. "What dream are you talking about, punk? Of course we're not living together." Hearing this, Dagon felt a bit awkward, realizing he'd thought too much. Then Sami Lee said, "The Education Foundation is very satisfied with your performance. Although we've reduced your restrictions, you should understand that violence is prohibited outside school. If you break the law, even the foundation can't protect you. Also, most teachers at school don't know about this plan. If your behavior is too conspicuous, it'll be difficult for us too." Hearing this, Dagon couldn't help but feel annoyed. "Isn't this still asking me to walk on eggshells?" Sami Lee casually left a bank card, saying Dagon could use it as he pleased. Then Sami Lee left the apartment. Dagon thought to himself, "Whatever. As long as I handle the school bullies for you, it's fine." After Sami Lee left the room, she didn't leave the building. Instead, she went to another room downstairs. Inside, several large screens stood there, seemingly monitoring Dagon. Today was Dagon's second day back at school. Early in the morning, he was called over by the teacher for a lecture about yesterday's fighting incident. But the teacher spent most of the time mocking Dagon for not having parents, saying that's why he lacked proper upbringing. This made Dagon very angry, but he couldn't lay hands on a teacher in public. Just then, a girl nearby noticed Dagon being lectured. The girl was Ji-in, who had seen Sami Lee's car yesterday. Ji-in also knew about Dagon getting into several fights on his first day after transferring. Seeing this, she couldn't help but wonder if Sami Lee's plan might be related to the transfer student. Meanwhile, in Class 6, Ji-seok-yu was taking photos for Suji Baek, the queen of Class 6. Just then, Sang-bo Shim's two lackeys suddenly came over. "Do you know about Sang-bo Shim? He didn't come to school today and we can't contact him." Ji-seok-yu said, "I know. Let him be absent. Don't worry about that idiot." The guy then asked, "What about that new transfer student? If you leave him alone, won't he?" Just then, Won-eung Kim, the leader of Class 6, turned around and asked, "Won't he what?" Frightened, the guy quickly waved his hands. Nothing. I'm not saying you would lose to him." Seeing this, Won-eung Kim beckoned the guy to come closer. The guy apologized while approaching Won-eung Kim. The next second, Won-eung Kim suddenly struck, landing a punch on the guy's nose. The guy was momentarily dazed by the punch. Then he saw Won-eung Kim beckoning him again. Seeing this, the guy didn't dare resist and approached again. Predictably, he was hit in the nose bridge by Won-eung Kim again. Won-eung Kim then said, "Watch what you say in the future. I'll keep an eye on the transfer student. You can get lost now." The guy hastily fled from the classroom. Ji-seok-yu walked over and said, "You were pretty cool just now, but what they said is true." Won-eung Kim asked, "Do you know why many games have added auto battle modes?" Jiseokyu said he certainly knew, as he also enjoyed games with auto battle features. Won Kim replied, "Why is auto battle so popular?" "Of course, it's because we don't have to do it ourselves." Meanwhile, Daegun had entered detective mode. Since he didn't know how Sami Lee knew about his actions, he strongly suspected that Minsu Kim had been sent to monitor him. The next second, Daegun inexplicably asked, "Minsu, you don't have cameras installed in your glasses, do you?" Minsu Kim was completely confused by Daegun's question. "What cameras? What are you talking about?" Daegun then realized he was being too direct and asked instead, "Why did you suddenly start wearing glasses?" Minsu Kim explained that he had always worn glasses. It turned out that Hojong used to bully people who wore glasses. Afraid of being bullied, Minsu Kim had switched to contact lenses. "But now that you're here, I feel that probably won't happen again. So I started wearing glasses again." Hearing this, Daegun was furious. He stood up, intending to teach Hojong a lesson. Seeing this, Hojong was stunned, not remembering having done such things. Frightened, Hojong quickly said to the blonde guy, "I suddenly feel a bit bored. Let's play on the floor for a while." Then Hojong was seen on the floor, head down and hands behind his back. The blonde guy beside him had no idea what Hojong was doing. Just then, Minsu Kim suddenly adjusted his glasses. This immediately caught Daegun's attention. He said, "Minsu, your glasses adjustment motion looks suspicious." Minsu Kim replied, "I'm just not used to wearing glasses after so long." Hearing this, Daegun could only awkwardly say, "Sorry, I've been a bit sensitive lately." While Daegun was wondering how Sami Lee was monitoring him, a man suddenly appeared at the classroom window. Ji-in appeared at the same time. Both were staring intently at Daegun, but neither could see anything unusual about him. Ji-in was so focused on Daegun that she didn't notice the man in front of her and accidentally bumped into him. The man immediately turned around and scolded her. "Are you blind? Stop wandering around here, get lost." Ji-in quickly apologized. She then left, silently cursing, "What a thug." The man continued looking at Daegun in the classroom. Suddenly, he realized Daegun was looking back at him. The man was startled. He quickly walked away from there. Meanwhile, Ji-in, who had returned to class 9, was questioned by her best friend. "Did you just go to class 1? I thought you were only interested in studying, Ji-in. Turns out you also like looking at handsome guys." Ji-in panicked, wanting to explain something, but her friend said, "I understand. After all, the transfer student is indeed handsome. Many girls are already writing love letters to him." Ji-in didn't know how to explain, but unexpectedly, her good friend Yaro had already gathered all of Daegun's information, even knowing that he would pass through a certain street food alley after school. Ji-in was even more unsure how to explain. Apart from this reason, she didn't seem to have a suitable reason to monitor Daegun. After school, Ji-in began following Daegun. She was eager to know what Daegun and Sami Lee were planning. Meanwhile, the man who had been observing Daegun with Ji-in was now sitting with Won Kim, the leader of Class 6. It turned out they were all from Class 6. Won Kim had gathered them to deal with Daegun. One of the guys said, "Is it appropriate for us to ambush the transfer student? After all, he's now the leader of classes 1 to 3, and we're not even leaders." Won Kim replied, "What's the problem? Besides, weren't you guys pretty good fighters before? If you hadn't met me and Jiseok, Class 6 would probably be yours by now. Or are you concerned about those supposed rules between classes? Anyway, in the end, the whole grade belongs to me and Jiseok. There's nothing wrong with you taking action. In short, you just need to take down the transfer student. Don't worry about the rest. After it's done, remember to call me." With that, Won Kim left. The group stayed behind, waiting for Daegun to appear. Soon, they spotted Daegun passing by. The leader immediately dropped his milk tea and followed. Daegun immediately sensed their ill intentions. He turned and walked into a secluded alley. The group followed closely behind Daegun. Meanwhile, Ji-in, who had been following Daegun, was stunned. She didn't understand why these guys were following Daegun. Ji-in quickly followed, wanting to see what was happening. But the leader suddenly noticed Ji-in behind them. Ji-in quickly pretended to be on a phone call. The man told the others to continue following Daegun while he approached Ji-in. He said to Ji-in, "Stop pretending. I know you're not on a call. You've been following us, haven't you?" The man then recognized her as the girl who had bumped into him earlier. "I get it," the man suddenly understood. "It seems you like me." He immediately started harassing her, saying, "If you like me, just say so. Why secretly follow me? So cute." He put his arm around Ji-in and said, "But I'm a bit busy now. I can let you watch us handle something. After we're done, I'm thinking of getting a room. Want to join me?" This frightened Ji-in, who pushed the man away and cursed, "Are you crazy?" The man was immediately enraged. He slapped Ji-in. "Weren't you the one who liked me and followed me?" Ji-in retorted, "What are you talking about? How could I possibly like a gorilla like you?" But the next second, the man's friends heard his screams. Not understanding what had happened, they could only turn back to check. The man was covering his eyes and howling in pain. "You crazy woman, what are you trying to do?" Ji-in was holding a can of pepper spray, saying, "Who told you to touch me first?" By now, the man's friends had returned. The man told them to grab the girl. Several men surrounded the girl. Ji-in backed away in fear. Just as the men were about to act, Daegun suddenly appeared and called out to them, "What are you punks trying to do?" They were about to tell Dagon to mind his own business, but the next second, they realized something was off. Dagon said, "You guys have been following me, haven't you? If you have something to say to me, let's talk somewhere else." Jinmo, realizing they had been discovered, agreed. Then Jinmo and the others led Dagon to a secluded alley, but they found people already there, apparently from neighboring Bongyun High School. They recognized one as Jinwoo Cha from Bongyun. The other was Jungman Lee from Bongyun High School. Both were junior grade fighters. Jinwoo Cha asked, "You're from Golden Dragon School. Haven't seen you before." Jungman Lee added, "Haven't seen them before. Must be weaklings." Jinmo awkwardly said, "Do you know Won Ung Kim? He sent us to handle something." Hearing this name, the two said, "So it's WW Won Ung Kim. If it's him, we'll leave this place to you." Seeing this, Jinmo felt very embarrassed but didn't dare say anything. Meanwhile, in an internet cafe, Won Ung Kim and Ji Seok-yu were still gaming. When Ji Seok-yu learned that Won Ung Kim had sent Jinmo and others to deal with Dagon, he felt it was a bit unreliable. Won Ung Kim assured him, "No problem. Wouldn't it be more embarrassing if the transfer student got beaten by a bunch of thugs? Those guys might be stupid, but they're pretty strong." Back with Dagon, Jinmo and his group had surrounded him. Ji-in hurriedly said, "I don't think I have anything to do with this, so I'll be going now." Jinmo was the first to object. "I said I wanted to show you my prowess." Dagon looked at Ji-in thoughtfully. "This girl has been following me since school ended. Could she be sent by Sami Lee to monitor me?" He then said, "Let her go. This has nothing to do with her." Unexpectedly, after hearing this, Ji-in didn't want to leave. Jinmo said, "Who do you think you are? Can't you see the situation? You're about to get beaten up, you know?" He then approached Dagon with a cigarette, intending to blow smoke in his face. Dagon immediately said, "You better not blow smoke at me, or you might not see tomorrow's sun." But Jinmo ignored him and prepared to blow smoke at Dagon. The next second, Dagon suddenly acted, grabbing Jinmo's face. He then tripped Jinmo with his leg. While Jinmo was still disoriented, Dagon threw a punch at him. His speed was so fast that Jinmo couldn't react. The next moment, Dagon's fist smashed into his face. One punch actually knocked Jinmo unconscious. The other three watching were dumbfounded, never expecting Dagon to be so strong. The three of them understood that if they didn't defeat Dagon Kwon, Won Ung Kim definitely wouldn't let them go. So the three immediately prepared to attack together, but none of them dared to make the first move against Dagon Kwon. Seeing this, Dagon Kwon said, "If you won't make a move, then I'll go first." With that, Dagon Kwon charged forward. He punched one of them. The person next to him reluctantly joined the fight, but Dagon Kwon simply dodged with a sidestep. He immediately targeted the person at the back. Before the guy could react, Dagon Kwon sent him flying with a punch. With just one punch, the guy passed out. The boy who hadn't been hit yet froze, thankful that the other boy still had some fight left in him, giving him some confidence. But the next second, his pupils contracted. He was kicked in the chest by Dagon Kwon and slammed against the wall behind him. The man instantly lost all strength and fell helplessly to the ground. The only one left unharmed was stunned, surprised at how strong Dagon Kwon was. But the next second, the man still reluctantly charged forward. However, he was easily blocked by Dagon Kwon. Then a punch hit the man hard in the ribs. The man immediately coughed violently, but Dagon Kwon didn't give him a chance to breathe, tripping him in one motion. He then aimed a knee kick at the man's face. However, just as he was about to make contact, he stopped. Seeing this, Dagon Kwon sighed with relief. "That was close. I almost couldn't control myself and would have finished you off." Meanwhile, Won Ung Kim, who was still playing games at the internet cafe, suddenly received a call from Jungman Lee. Won Ung Kim answered the phone without thinking much. But the next second, he was stunned. Apparently, Jungman Lee had told him about Jinmo and the others being defeated. At this moment, back with Dagon Kwon, Jinmo finally regained consciousness. Opening his eyes, he saw Dagon Kwon staring at him intensely. He also saw that his good brothers all looked beaten up. Dagon Kwon immediately kicked him and said, "Get up quickly, go stand with them." Then Dagon Kwon started lecturing the group. This scene was clearly witnessed by Jungman Lee and others hiding nearby, who couldn't believe that the Golden Dragon School had such a monster. On the other end of the phone, Won Ung Kim was also in disbelief that Dagon Kwon was so strong. At this moment, Dagon Kwon patted Jinmo's shoulder and asked, "Who sent you? Was it that Won Ung Kim you mentioned?" Jinmo initially wanted to deny it, but the next second Dagon Kwon suddenly gripped Jinmo's collarbone. "If you don't admit it, you think I'm stupid?" Jinmo immediately cowered. It's him, please don't tell him I said so." Although Won Ung Kim was scary, this guy was terrifying too. At this point, Dagon Kwon turned his gaze to Ji-in and asked, "Why did this girl follow you?" Jinmo immediately said, "She has a crush on me." This angered Ji-in, who cursed, "Are you crazy? I've told you I don't like you and I actually really hate you. Don't you ever look in the mirror? You look like a gorilla. It's truly disgusting. Worse than socks unwashed for a week." Jinmo immediately felt what it meant to be emotionally destroyed, then apologized to Ji-in. "I'm sorry, but you were following us at that time." Hearing this, Dagon Kwon became interested. Ji-in stammered nervously, "You've watched too many movies. Why would I follow you?" Anyway, I don't want to be associated with savage, violent behavior. And with that, Ji-in left. Daegun Kwon watched Ji-in leave without trying to stop her. After leaving, Ji-in ran into Jungman Lee and his friend who hadn't left yet. Jinusha said to Jungman Lee, "Isn't this girl pretty? She's nothing like the girls at our school." By now, Daegun Kwon had taken down Jinmo's phone number. He then said, "Tomorrow, bring Won-ung Kim to me." Time quickly moved to the next day, but after waiting for a long time, Daegun Kwon didn't see Jinmo bringing Won-ung Kim. Checking his phone, he found that Jinmo couldn't find Won-ung Kim. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon decided to go see what was happening himself. Soon Daegun Kwon arrived at class 6. Upon entering, he saw Jinmo playing with his phone. Daegun Kwon walked up and asked where Won-ung Kim was, but since Daegun Kwon was wearing glasses, Jinmo didn't recognize him. Daegun Kwon then gripped Jinmo's hand tightly, and a familiar feeling immediately came over him. This commotion also attracted the attention of others in the class. At this moment, Suji Baek walked in. She immediately questioned Daegun Kwon. "Who are you? Why are you causing trouble in someone else's class? And you, Jinmo, don't embarrass yourself. Shake him off." But Jinmo said, "I can't." The next second, Suji Baek realized it was Daegun Kwon, grabbed him and said, "Do you know where you are?" Daegun Kwon replied, "Who are you? Mind your own business." The next second, he was slapped in the face by Suji Baek, his glasses flying off. Suji Baek said, "Show some respect. Do you know who I am?" Daegun Kwon darkly replied, "Who you are doesn't matter to me, but you slapping me does." Suji Baek then said, "Whatever, you just transferred, so you probably don't know. Do you know Soo-hyuk Baek, the senior leader of Golden Dragon?" But Daegun Kwon just looked at Suji Baek and said, "I don't know him, so what?" But the next second, Suji Baek saw Daegun Kwon without his glasses, and involuntarily called him brother, quickly explaining that Soo-hyuk Baek was her brother. She hadn't expected him to be so handsome without glasses and accidentally called him that. Daegun Kwon said, "So what?" But his attention was drawn to someone who suddenly appeared. That person walked in and immediately kicked Jinmo, then slapped Jinmo several times, and Jinmo didn't dare to fight back. Daegun Kwon was stunned by this scene. Jinmo held his face and said, "Won-ung, I'm sorry." Daegun Kwon then realized this was Won-ung Kim and asked, "Are you Won-ung Kim?" Won-ung Kim immediately said, "That's right, I'm Won-ung Kim. I heard you were looking for me." Seeing this, Daegun Kwon didn't waste time and said, "It seems you are Won-ung Kim. I'm looking for you today." But Won-ung Kim said, "We don't seem to have any connection. Why are you looking for me?" Daegun Kwon then rubbed his forehead and said, "Looking for you of course is for." The next second, Daegun Kwon suddenly swung his fist at Won-ung Kim. Won-ung Kim was shocked, not expecting Daegun Kwon to suddenly attack. Fortunately, Ji-seok-yu stepped in to block it. Ji-seok-yu then said, "Everything was fine just now. Why did you suddenly attack?" Daegun Kwon asked, "Who are you?" Ji-seok-yu was stunned, then said, "I'm Ji-seok-yu from class 5. Although I have no right to interfere in other classes' affairs, I can't stand by when you're causing trouble like this." With that, Ji-seok-yu suddenly extended his leg to trip Daegun Kwon, then used force to try to knock Daegun Kwon down. But the next second, Ji-seok-yu was shocked, veins bulging on his face. He maintained his position but couldn't move Daegun Kwon at all. At this point, Ji-seok-yu couldn't help wondering if he was weakening. He had used all his strength, but Daegun Kwon showed no signs of falling. Meanwhile, Daegun Kwon casually said, "Not bad strength. Were you trying to knock me down?" Hearing this, Ji-seok-yu awkwardly released Daegun Kwon, then said, "That's not important. Although students here often fight, we have the right to know your reason, right?" At this moment, Won-ung Kim put his arm around Jinmo and said, "Is it because of yesterday's incident?" Then he grabbed Jinmo's hair and said, "You stupid idiot. You better explain yourself properly." But just as Jinmo was about to speak, Won-ung Kim suddenly slapped him hard in the face, then kicked Jinmo saying, "The more I think about it, the angrier I get. You stupid idiot. You caused trouble using my name." Jinmo didn't dare fight back, just kept apologizing. But Won-ung Kim wouldn't stop, angrily saying, "Did water get into your brain? You made me misunderstood by others." Then Won-ung Kim stopped beating Jinmo. Turning to Daegun Kwon, he said, "I admit I didn't control my people well, but isn't it a bit much for you to question me without evidence?" Daegun Kwon was completely confused. Looking at Jinmo, he said, "I guess there's no evidence." Seeing this, Won-ung Kim stepped forward and cursed, "Punk, stop pretending." But Ji-seok-yu quickly stopped him, saying, "Calm down, he probably knows he wrongly accused someone." Then told Daegun Kwon, "You probably got the wrong person. We're not interested in the so-called power rankings." Just then, the bell for class rang. Daegun Kwon was confused, feeling like he had been misled. In this situation, Daegun Kwon knew he couldn't rashly attack, so he left class 6. Behind him, Won-ung Kim smiled and said, "Ji-seok-yu, your acting was quite convincing." Ji-seok-yu also said with lingering fear, "I was actually quite nervous just now, but that guy is really strong." "You're right. It's best not to get involved personally." Won-ung Kim then took out his phone and said, "In that case, there is only one option left." Meanwhile, in class, Daegun Kwon was still thinking about what had happened. He knew this was Won-ung Kim's plan, but their behavior just now was distancing themselves from the incident. If he had taken action, he would probably have been seen as the villain. But now their attitude was ambiguous, and he couldn't find legitimate grounds to beat them up. At this moment, the teacher on the stage suddenly mentioned war, saying that wars are waged for self-interest, but even so, a public justification is needed. Hearing this, Dae-gun Kwon suddenly had a revelation. It seemed he would soon have a way to deal with them. Meanwhile, Won-ung Kim was still disciplining Jinmo and the others, who were angry but dared not speak. Jinmo could only complain internally, "You don't even dare to fight the transfer student one-on-one, yet you're lecturing us." At this moment, Won-ung Kim was already dialing a number. The person on the other end turned out to be Jungman Lee from Bongyun High School. Won-ung Kim told him about the transfer student. Jungman Lee curiously asked, "What happened to that guy afterwards?" Won-ung Kim said, "It seems that you, Jinyu-cha, and a few brothers need to step in. I originally wanted to deal with him at school, but none of these guys can fight. When you've roughed him up enough, I'll step in to finish him off completely." Jungman Lee said, "No problem. That guy does have some skills, but with our numbers, dealing with him won't be an issue." At this moment, Jinyu-cha suddenly approached and said, "Can we find that girl from yesterday?" Won-ung Kim was confused and asked, "Who is Jinmo talking about?" Jinmo immediately thought of Ji-in. Why did they want to find her? This had nothing to do with her. Then Won-ung Kim asked Jinyu-cha why he wanted to find that girl. Jinyu-cha said, "That girl is just my type, since we're going to deal with a transfer student. Why not have some fun with that girl too?" Hearing this, Won-ung Kim immediately agreed, then told Jinmo that this task was assigned to him to bring that girl over. Jinmo immediately became anxious, thinking that the girl was innocent and should not be involved. After some thought, Jinmo remembered the school rules. You can't touch students from another class without defeating their class leader. He said to Won-ung Kim, "That girl is from class 9. If we touch her, class 9's leader Sung-hun Lee probably won't stand by." Won-ung Kim replied, "Girls don't pay protection fees, so it doesn't matter. Besides, how strong can class 9's bookworm be? After this incident, we'll absorb class 9 too. You just need to bring those 2 people over." Jinmo was immediately confused. How am I going to bring 2 people over? Scene change, Jinmo found Dae-gun Kwon and knelt before him to apologize. Behind him, Man-ho No and others were stunned, having heard that this guy defeated 4 people led by Jinmo yesterday. This guy was really amazing, but unfortunately, there was no chance to build a good relationship with him. Dae-gun Kwon kicked Jinmo and said, "So you know you were wrong, huh?" Dae-gun Kwon wanted to teach Jinmo a lesson, but the more he looked at him, the more pitiful he seemed. So he gave up on the idea. He then started drilling Jinmo and told him to apologize to the girl from yesterday. Jinmo said, "I'll go apologize in a bit. Also, to express my sincerity, I'd like to treat you to some tteokbokki." Dae-gun Kwon was stunned. "You're treating me to tteokbokki? Just the 2 of us?" Jinmo asked, "Is that not okay?" His pitiful appearance moved Dae-gun Kwon. He then put his arm around Jinmo and said, "No problem, let's go eat together after school." Jinmo then found Ji-in and apologized, similarly expressing his sincerity by inviting her to tteokbokki. Ji-in immediately refused. Jinmo quickly explained that he had no other intentions, just wanted to express his apology, and that the transfer student Dae-gun Kwon would also be there. Ji-in's good friend Yaro heard Dae-gun Kwon's name and immediately perked up. She immediately said, "Then let's go together." Hearing this, Ji-in immediately shook her head in refusal. "This is too awkward. If you want to eat, let's go together." But Yaro looked at Ji-in pleadingly and said, "Please, Ji-in, there's no better chance to meet the transfer student." Jinmo also said, "Then bring your friend along, 4 people is good too." Seeing this, Ji-in shrugged and said, "Actually, I don't want to go, but let's go together." Jinmo said he would come find them after school. But after Jinmo walked away, he regretted it. "I'm such an idiot, what am I doing? I actually thought we were really going to eat tteokbokki today, dragging an innocent girl into this. And I kept smiling stupidly." At this moment, Jinmo saw Min-soo Kim. He immediately recognized him as Dae-gun Kwon's deskmate. Then thought they should have a good relationship, right? Time quickly came to after school. Jungman Lee and others from Bongyun High School were already prepared. At this time, Dae-gun Kwon was also with Jinmo, Ji-in, and the others. Both Dae-gun Kwon and Ji-in felt very awkward about this strange combination. Only Yaro was focused on admiring Dae-gun Kwon. After walking for a while, Dae-gun Kwon noticed there were no open shops. He looked at Jinmo and asked, "Is there really a tteokbokki shop here?" Jinmo immediately became nervous and said, yes. Nearby, Yaro also said, "Real gourmet places are usually in secluded alleys. I just didn't know there was a food place here. Never heard of it before." Dae-gun Kwon then looked at Jinmo and asked, "What's the name of that shop?" This scared Jinmo, who immediately looked around nervously. Seeing this, Dae-gun Kwon couldn't help but say, "Why are you panicking? It's like you have ulterior motives." But the next second, Dae-gun Kwon noticed a group of people in the distance. These people were Jungman Lee and his group from Bongun. Dae-gun Kwon immediately understood that Jinmo's apology was just a pretext to lure him here. Angry, Dae-gun Kwon was about to teach Jinmo a lesson. Jinmo quickly knelt down before Dae-gun Kwon, saying he was forced to do this. "After this, you can kill me if you want, but I really had no choice." Nearby, Ji-in and Yaro also realized that they had all been tricked by Jinmo. Ji-in angrily cursed, "You scumbag, at least you shouldn't have involved innocent Yaro." By now, Jungman Lee and the others had approached. Looking at Jinmo, he said, "Why are you kneeling to him? We came to make him kneel." Seeing this, Daegun Kwan had to deal with Jungman Lee and his group first. Telling Jinmo to wait here, he'd settle accounts with him later. At this moment, the other students from Bongun School still couldn't believe that Daegun Kwan alone had taken down 4 people. And that kneeling guy looks so weak. How does he dare to attend Golden Dragon School? Jinwoo-cha warned, "Don't underestimate him. Youngman and I have seen it personally. That guy is really strong." At this point, a big guy stepped forward and said, "If this guy is really that strong, then before we gang up on him, let me try first. Let me see what kind of skills a potential leader at Golden Dragon School has." The bald guy walked up to Daegun Kwan and said, "Let me spar with you first." But Daegun Kwan was a bit confused, not sure if the bald guy was talking to him. It turned out the bald guy had crossed eyes, making it hard for Daegun Kwan to tell if he was looking at him. The bald guy then said, "Don't look around, I'm looking at you right now." Seeing this, Daegun Kwan didn't waste time anymore and said, "Hurry up and make your move." The bald guy immediately took a stance and said, "Through my own unique training method, I've developed extraordinary vision. These unfocused eyes of mine will soon make you suffer in agony, because no one who has seen these eyes has survived my hands." And with that, he rushed towards Daegun Kwan. Nearby, Jungman Lee couldn't help but be speechless. When did I become a corpse? But this guy's eyes are indeed something. Eyes without focus make it difficult to judge his attack direction, which gave me quite a bit of trouble back then. In the end, I subdued him using wrestling techniques. I wonder how the transfer student will handle it, but it probably won't be easy. But the next second, they saw the bald guy being firmly choked by Daegun Kwan. Jungman Lee was stunned. What's going on? I couldn't even see how he did it. Now he's completely locked in a rear neck choke, probably can't break free. I don't know if this guy is still conscious. Jungman Lee cursed. With this guy's crossed eyes, you can't tell if he's still conscious. Jungman Lee immediately shouted, "Baldy, give up, it's over." But the next second, he saw the bald guy's arm fall limply. The others were stunned by this scene. Daegun Kwan said, "You don't think I'll let you go just because you surrender, do you? Didn't you all come with the intention of taking me down? And you've even involved innocent people. Since you've done this, you should be prepared to be finished by me." The Bongun guys were unhappy hearing this. This bastard is really acting tough. They immediately shouted, "Don't you understand the situation? There are 9 of us here. Do you think you can beat all of us?" Daegun Kwan handed his bag to Yaro, asking her to hold it for him, saying he could quickly resolve them and they should stay far away. Then he walked alone towards the Bongun group and said, "Don't come at me one by one. If you've got guts, come all at once." Seeing this, the Bongun guys didn't waste time, quickly spreading out to surround Daegun Kwan. Daegun Kwan had already made his judgment. He first rushed towards the person closest to the wall. With a diving tackle, he slammed the man hard against the wall, then punched the man in the face. The others rushed over. Daegun Kwan grabbed a handful of dirt, throwing it in the face of the nearest person to block his attack. At this moment, a blonde guy had already kicked towards Daegun Kwan. Daegun Kwan quickly got up, grabbing the blonde guy's leg. Then, with a sweeping leg, he knocked the blonde guy to the ground. Then he dodged another person's attack with a sidestep. Finding an opportunity, he delivered an uppercut to the man's chin. The blonde guy on the ground tried to get up, but Daegun Kwan was faster, delivering another sweeping kick to the blonde guy's face. Nearby, Jinmo was amazed. Although he knew this guy was strong from the beginning, he didn't expect him to be this powerful. Perhaps this guy could really defeat Won Ung Kim and Jiseok Yu to become the boss of the entire first year. No, he definitely could. Nearby, Jinwoo-cha saw the battle going badly and urged the remaining people to quickly take action. The two didn't hesitate, heading straight for Daegun Kwan. Daegun Kwan charged at them immediately. Dodging the first wave of attacks, he got to the man's side, then delivered a left hook to the man's ribs. While the man was in pain, he followed with a right hook to the man's face, leaving him frozen in place. In the blink of an eye, only one person was left. Daegun Kwan struck first, kicking the man in the abdomen, sending him flying. That kick nearly made the man throw up his dinner from the previous day. Daegun Kwan followed with a spinning kick to the man's head, sending him flying several meters away and knocking him unconscious. In less than 2.5 minutes, Daegun Kwan had dealt with 7 people. Even Daegun Kwan felt a bit strained. Looking at Jungman Lee and Jinwoo-cha, he said, "Now it's just you two left. Make your move." Jinwoo-cha was both shocked and afraid. "You're incredibly strong, it's unbelievable." Nearby, Jungman Lee quickly reminded Jinwoo-cha, this guy must have dealt with multiple attackers before. Just now, when 2 people rushed over together, he first occupied a position in a straight line with those 2. This way, the person behind would be blocked by the person in front, unable to attack, creating a one-on-one situation. And at the beginning, he first attacked the guy against the wall for the same reason. Obviously, he knows how to create one-on-one opportunities in this situation. Just then, the sound of dense footsteps came over. In the distance, more people from Bong-eun approached. Daegun Kwan was stunned. How could there be so many people? The newcomers were surprised to see everyone lying on the ground. This guy was really that strong, but luckily they had brought baseball bats. At this moment, Jungman Lee said to Daegun Kwan, "You are indeed very strong, but we never said we only had 10 people. No matter how strong you are, what can one person do against so many of us?" Daegun Kwan felt a bit of pressure, but just a bit. At this moment, a voice came. "Who says this guy is alone?" Daegun Kwan turned around and was stunned. He didn't expect to see Manho No and others, and Daegun Kwan's deskmate Minsu Kim. Manho No said, "I didn't expect our Class 1 leader to be fighting alone, but now we're here to help you." Daegun Kwan asked how they knew he was here. At this moment, Minsu Kim said it was Jinmo who told them. This scared Jinmo, who quickly explained, "I was just talking to myself, I didn't expect you to hear it." Nearby, Jungman Lee became angry. "You punk? Are you playing us? We came because of you. This really pisses me off. Anyway, Won Kim won't let you go. You and that Daegun Kwan just wait." Seeing this, Jinmo dropped the act, glancing at Jian and saying, "I've disliked that guy for a long time, and I'm not some random weakling. I also don't want to stay under that gangster Won Kim anymore. The ones who should be prepared are you Bong Yoon trash." Jungman Lee and Jin Cha were so angry they nearly spat blood. Nearby, Manho No said to Jinmo, "So you're on our side, that's good. We gain another fighter, because the other side has 7 or 8 people, and those 2 should be their leaders." Then Manho No said, "So Daegun Kwan can focus on dealing with those 2, we'll handle the small fry." At this moment, Jungman Lee also recognized Manho No as the former leader of Class 1, but he didn't expect him to be so underhanded, calling Jinmo for help. Daegun Kwan then said, "I'm very grateful for your help. I know I shouldn't interrupt when you're trying to act cool, but each of you will have to handle at least 2 people. And they're all armed, are you sure you can handle it?" Manho No smiled contemptuously. "I'm Manho No, the fighter Manho No. What's the big deal about weapons? That's actually perfect for me." Then Manho No put down his bag and said, "Let's begin." Then they saw Jungmin rummaging in his pocket for something. Hojong opened his small bag, and Manho No was also searching through his bag. He actually took out an 80-centimeter long iron rod, while Jungmin put on military-grade brass knuckles. Hojong also took out a wrench. Then Manho No, along with the other 2, struck a pose and said, "We may have lost to you at school, but we're different outside of school." Daegun Kwan was speechless. These guys all had weapons in their bags. What were they going to school for? Manho No pointed at the Bong Yoon guy with the baseball bat and said, "Kid, do you know how to use that thing? Let me teach you a lesson." The bald guy was unhappy. "You little punk, be careful I don't beat you to death." But Manho No wasn't worried at all. "Come and try if you've got the guts." The bald guy couldn't hold back anymore, charging forward, raising his baseball bat and swinging it at Manho No. Manho No had already figured out his move. This guy is right-handed. He'll likely swing diagonally from the upper right. The next second, Manho No actually threw chalk dust at him. Kids these days have no honor. Then Manho No swung his iron rod, hitting the man in the abdomen, then delivered a kick to the groin, bringing the man to his knees, followed by a kick to the head, successfully taking down the bald guy. The other Bongun guys were stunned. This guy was so underhanded. Manho No had already picked up the man's baseball bat. Looking at the others, he said, "You small fry don't think about interfering in the battle between the leaders." But the Bongun guys were scared by Manho No's underhanded tactics, hesitating to make a move. Seeing this, Manho No said, "If you don't move, I'll come to you." The Bongun guys had to reluctantly charge forward. But the man's attack was easily dodged by Manho No. Then came a bat, hard, to the man's butt. A nearby chubby guy tried to sneak attack Manho No, but was blocked by Hojong, who punched him away. The chubby guy was still complaining about the sudden intervention, when Hojong had already raised his wrench and struck down. The remaining guys panicked. "These guys are all crazy, quickly find weapons from the ground." A nearby guy picked up a beer bottle, but while he was still wondering if a beer bottle would be too dangerous, Youngmin had already delivered a thrust, his brass-knuckled fist hitting the man hard. A nearby guy immediately prepared to sneak attack Jungmin. At this moment, Jinmo also made his move, kicking the guy away. Jin Yucha was speechless. These guys were fighting in such a mess. Daegun Kwan said, "Your numerical advantage is gone. Now let me see your abilities." Jin Yucha and the other decided not to watch anymore. But Youngman Lee said, "I learned wrestling. Single combat suits me better. Let me fight him alone first, test his strength. If things look bad, you can help me." He then took a wrestling stance. The next second, he quickly approached Daegun Kwan's lower body, wanting to execute a leg takedown. But then he was stunned. Daegun Kwan simply pressed his head, negating his leg takedown. Jin Yucha rushed in, with a kick quickly aimed at Daegun Kwan, who had to release Jungman Lee to dodge. But just as he dodged, he found himself grabbed around the waist by Jungman Lee. Jungman Lee revealed a victorious smile. "You should know what it means to be grabbed by a wrestler." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan quickly twisted his body, trying to break free. But the next second, Jungman Lee exerted force and lifted Daegun Kwan up. If he was slammed down, his head would hit the ground, and he'd be out for at least 2.5 minutes. Daegun Kwan quickly extended his arm. At the last moment, he grabbed the nearby wall. Jungman Lee couldn't slam Daegun Kwan over. With his center of gravity unstable, he fell to the ground. But even so, Jungman Lee still held Daegun Kwan tightly. Knowing he had caught Daegun Kwan's weak point, he absolutely couldn't let go. Daegun Kwan quickly rolled, successfully breaking free and pinning Jungman Lee beneath him. Then he raised his fist, ready to deliver a fatal blow. At the critical moment, Jin Yucha rushed in again, with a horizontal kick aimed at Daegun Kwan. Daegun Kwan had no choice but to create distance to dodge the attack. Daegun Kwan was a bit troubled now. These two guys had such good teamwork, it was hard to find a breakthrough. At this moment, the two switched to Jin Yucha attacking. Jinucha quickly approached Daegun Kwan, starting with a flying kick which Daegun Kwan dodged by ducking. Then Jinucha delivered a spinning kick, again aiming at Daegun Kwan. At this moment, Daegun Kwan chose to defend rather than blindly attack. Finally, Daegun Kwan noticed that Jinucha's core attacks were all leg-based. The next second, he quickly approached Jinucha, trying to close the distance. Jinucha sensed Daegun Kwan's intention and quickly retreated. After observing the situation briefly, Daegun Kwan saw that Jungman Lee would intervene when he showed a weak point or gained the upper hand. Now he understood their attack pattern a bit. Then Daegun Kwan quickly approached Jinucha, planning to deal with him first. When Jinucha's attack came, he quickly dodged to the side, exposing a weakness. Jinucha swung his fist, but Daegun Kwan avoided it with rapid movements. The next second, Jinucha saw a punch emerge from under his arm, flying towards him. 2.5 seconds later, Jinucha realized he'd been hit. By then, Jungman Lee was already standing in front of him. Jinucha then realized he had momentarily lost consciousness. Thankfully, Jungman Lee was there, or he would have been finished. Now he could only use this gap to adjust his state and find a way to exploit Daegun Kwan's weakness. At this moment, Jungman Lee suddenly crouched, attempting to grab Daegun Kwan around the waist again. But the next second, Daegun Kwan caught him by the neck. Your feint is too obvious. Anyone can see you're trying a takedown. Nearby, Jinucha saw the situation deteriorating and charged in again. This time, Daegun Kwan pushed Jungman Lee out in advance, just as Jinucha's kick reached Daegun Kwan's face. The next second, Daegun Kwan suddenly ducked, followed by a slide tackle, taking out Jinucha's other leg. Jinucha immediately lost balance and fell. Daegun Kwan quickly raised his foot and kicked Jinucha hard in the face. Jinucha quickly raised his hands to block. But then Daegun Kwan raised his fist. Through the gap, he directly hit Jinucha's head. With one punch, Jinucha passed out. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan brushed his hair aside, looking at Jungman Lee and saying, "Now, it's just you left. Will you leave on your own, or should I help you leave?" Daegun Kwan slowly approaches Jungman Lee, said that this farce needs to end. At this moment, Jungman Lee is completely shocked, unable to find a way to defeat Daegun Kwan. But even so, he charges toward Daegun Kwan. The next second, Kwan's fist is right in front of his eyes. Jungman Lee can't react in time. He's knocked back by Daegun Kwan's punch. After one punch, Jungman Lee can barely stand. Immediately, Daegun Kwan lunges forward, grabbing Jungman Lee around the waist. With one takedown, he slams him to the ground. Then he straddles Jungman Lee. Jungman Lee tries to break free but can't muster any strength. Daegun Kwan raises his fist, aiming at Jungman Lee. Without hesitation, he strikes Jungman Lee. After a beating, Jungman Lee finally gives in. "Please stop hitting me. I won't dare interfere with Golden Dragon High's affairs again." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan becomes even angrier. He lands another heavy punch on Jungman Lee's face. Then he grips Jungman Lee tightly. "You think I'll stop just because you ask? Today you'll pay the price for helping One Kim. Why would you suffer like this for that guy? Who do you think will rule Golden Dragon in the end? One Kim or me, who's pinning you down right now?" Meanwhile, Manho No and others have finished dealing with the rest of the people. Daegun Kwan releases Jungman Lee and says, "You'd better think carefully in the future. Take your friends and disappear quietly." At this moment, Jungman Lee is filled with extreme regret. He never imagined the gap between him and Daegun Kwan would be so large. After handling everything, Daegun Kwan says he's leaving. Manho No then says, "I happen to bring weapons today. Do you want to teach that despicable One Kim a lesson while we're at it?" But Daegun Kwan replies, "Let it go. I'm a bit tired today, and thank you all for today." Hearing this, Manho No, Hojong, and Jungmin all blush simultaneously, saying it's nothing after all. They're all the same kind of people. Then Daegun Kwan turns his gaze to Jinmo, who immediately stands at attention. At this moment, Jinmo is also very afraid, thinking Daegun Kwan is going to deal with him next. But then Daegun Kwan says, "I won't deal with you today. I'll take care of you another time." He then asks if JG-in and Yaro are hurt. Seeing that the situation is over, Yaro suddenly goes weak in the knees and is about to fall. Daegun Kwan quickly reaches out to support Yaro, asking, "Are you okay?" Being held, Yaro is extremely embarrassed, her face turning as red as a baboon's bottom. She quickly steadies herself and says, "I'm fine." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan says, "That's good. I'm sorry about today's incident, getting you involved." Yaro responds, "It's okay. In the end, it's all that Jinmo's fault." But the next second, Jae-jin says, "It's your fault. Your very existence is a mistake. Not only do you fight everywhere, but you also bully innocent people around you. You're no better than those people lying on the ground. None of you are good people. In my eyes, you're no different from thugs, always resolving issues with your fists. People like you should find a corner to fend for yourselves." After saying this, she pulls Yaro away from there. Although the group felt hurt by Ji-in's words, they couldn't find any reason to refute them. After leaving Daegun Kwan's group, Ji-in apologizes to Yaro. "Sorry, I couldn't control myself just now. You know how much I hate troublemakers? Although they saved us, I really can't see them as good people." Ji-in also gives up on continuing to observe Daegun Kwan. Whether or not he has a relationship with Sami Lee, it shouldn't affect her plans. Then she says to Yaro, "Let's part ways here. I'm planning to visit Ji-un at the hospital today." Seeing this, Yaro doesn't say much. just waves goodbye to Ji-in. At the same time, Yaro understands Ji-in's unusual reaction today. It turns out that Ji-in's brother, Ji-un, was once bullied by school tyrants, resulting in him becoming a vegetative state. Looking at her brother in the hospital bed, Ji-in doesn't understand those school bullies. Don't they know they're causing harm to others? She really doesn't know what's going on in their heads. Do they think it's just a game? If they suffered the same pain, would they still act this way? Meanwhile, after the two left, Daegun Kwon puts his arm around Jinmo, asking, "How should I deal with you?" Jinmo understands he was wrong and says, "Deal with me however you want, but I'd like to apologize to the people from earlier." Seeing this, Daegun Kwon smiles. "Indeed, you should apologize. After all, they're innocent people. But the real villain is someone else. Who do you think is responsible for this whole chain of events?" Meanwhile, Won Kim is still waiting for news from young man Lee in the park. The next second, Jinmo and others appear. Seeing this, Won Kim asks, "Why are only you guys here? Where's young man Lee and the others? And take your hand out of your pocket. Who do you think you're acting tough in front of?" Jinmo looks at Won Kim with anger. He walks directly to Won Kim, looking down at him. The next second, Jinmo throws a punch. Won Kim quickly dodges. Then he lands a punch on Jinmo's ribs. But the next second, Jinmo's lackeys charge forward. Won Kim can't handle being surrounded by several people. Soon, someone finds an opportunity to kick him in the chin. Then Won Kim falls into a disadvantage, being surrounded and attacked. Seeing the situation turn bad, Won Kim runs away. But running too hastily, he accidentally trips over a roadblock. Seeing this, Jinmo pounces on him. But the next second, he's punched away by Won Kim. Fortunately, Jinmo's lackeys rush in with a timely kick. This finally corners Won Kim. Several people surround Won Kim. Seeing this, Won Kim knows he's in trouble. The next day, news of Won Kim being beaten by Jinmo spreads throughout the school. Jinmo finally feels vindicated, becoming more confident. He also naturally becomes the leader of Class 6. While Jinmo is showing off, about to select classmates to run errands for him, Daegun Kwon suddenly appears. Frightened, Jinmo quickly sits up straight, asking, "Daegun, why are you here?" Daegun Kwon says he's here to congratulate Jinmo on becoming the leader. Jinmo immediately deflates, saying it's all thanks to him. But the next second, Daegun Kwon asks, "Do you want to fight me as a leader, or just take one punch and be done with it?" Hearing this, Jinmo stands up straight and says, "Please hit me lightly." Seeing this, Daegun Kwon swings his fist toward Jinmo. A punch lands heavily on Jinmo. Jinmo feels like he's flying. This is more comfortable. Just keep flying to the goddess's side. Unexpectedly, with Daegun Kwon's punch, Jinmo passes out. Then Daegun Kwon looks at the others. "Do you want to try too?" Frightened, they quickly say, "We're not with him." Daegun Kwon pats one of them. "Don't play the school bully game together anymore. It's best if you all stay quietly in the corner." Hearing this, they quickly shout, "Understood." Then Daegun Kwon leaves Class 6. By now, Daegun Kwon is the leader of Classes 1, 2, 3, and 6. In just a few days, he successfully conquered 4 classes. Manho No and the other 2 are very happy about this, surrounding Daegun Kwon and trying to please him. But the next second, they're swatted away with a book. Daegun Kwon says, "Don't disturb my studies here." Surprisingly, Hojong says, "That was gentler than last time." "Daegun, when will you take us to an internet cafe? I recently reached Gold in League." Seeing this, Daegun Kwon helplessly adjusts his glasses. "You guys are really annoying, but I suppose I could go with you once." Hearing this, the 3 are immediately excited. Only Manho No awkwardly says, "I think I'm still bronze." Hojong quickly tells him to shut up. Nearby, Jungmin also says, "If you dare drag Daegun down, I'll attack your chin with brass knuckles." At this moment, Yuri Park suddenly says, "I want to go too." Jungmin immediately says, "You want to play games? I'm embarrassed to expose you." The next second, she's punched in the face by Yuri Park, who says, "Why are you talking so much? I'll just play go-karts next to you guys." Nearby, Manho No and Hojong quickly stop Yuri Park. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon also shows a satisfied smile. At this time, Class 5's leader, Ji-seok-yu, is still trying to contact Won Kim, but many calls go unanswered. Nearby, Suji Baek says, "He wouldn't have dropped out of school, right? It can't be that bad. He didn't really lose to the transfer student, did he?" Ji-seok-yu recalls Won Kim's words, thinking that guy probably won't come to school anymore. Thinking about Daegun Kwon makes Suji Baek's heart race. This guy is not only handsome, but also so good at fighting. Then she asks Ji-seok-yu if he plans to fight Daegun Kwon, but Ji-seok-yu isn't confident he can win. Suji Baek then suggests, "Why don't you team up with leaders from other classes?" Ji-seok-yu says, "I've thought about teaming up, but now there are only classes 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9 left. But weren't you not interested in these power rankings? Why do you seem so invested this time?" Suji Baek recalls the first time she saw Daegun Kwon, involuntarily calling him brother. Thinking about this makes Suji Baek feel ashamed. She wants to find a chance to bully Daegun Kwon a bit. After school, Daegun Kwon and the others go to an internet cafe to play. However, Daegun Kwon's skills don't seem that strong. The group keeps losing games. Jungmin can't help but taunt, Daegun, are you really gold rank? You didn't hire someone to boost your account, did you? Hearing this, Juri Park intervenes. It's just a game. Why are you guys so excited? Daegun, don't mind them. They're just a bunch of guys who go crazy over games. But the next moment, Juri Park starts smashing the keyboard after losing a game. This scene leaves Daegun Kwon completely bewildered. In the end, because they kept smashing keyboards, they were kicked out by the owner. The next day, the group is still bitter about their losing streak. Daegun Kwon awkwardly says, if the owner hadn't kicked us out, I would have eventually revealed my true skills. Then Daegun Kwon gets up and says, I'm not talking to you guys anymore. I'm going to take a tour of the other classes. Daegun Kwon knows that returning to school isn't just about defeating those bullies, but implementing management to reorganize the school. Daegun Kwon then goes to class 2 to find Myung Jung Kim. As soon as he enters, he hears Myung Jung Kim say, I've been living a quiet campus life as you said. Daegun Kwon then asks, that's good, how's your hand? Hearing this, Myung Jung Kim demonstrates some fancy finger movements, indicating his hand is fine. The next second, he's interrupted by Daegun Kwon. Have you forgotten what I told you? Don't act cocky in front of me. But your performance is not bad. Just keep it that way in the future. If I hear any bad news, you know the consequences. Then Daegun Kwon goes to class 3. However, after Songbo Shim and others were beaten, they haven't returned to school. So the atmosphere in class 3 looks good. Meanwhile, in class 6, several students are making a commotion at the front. Jinmo suddenly slams the table. You guys are really annoying. You're disturbing my studies. Can you be a bit quieter? Nearby, Jinmo's friend asks, why did you start studying? Is it because you got beaten up and went crazy? In Jinmo's mind, Ji-in's image appears. Now I know Ji-in is actually the top student in the school. To be worthy of her, I also need to study hard. At this moment, Suji-baek says, if you want to study properly, just shut up and do it. Jinmo doesn't dare to be unruly with Suji-baek. He awkwardly says he understands. Suji-baek is still bothered by calling Daegun Kwon brother. She calls Jinmo over. Jinmo doesn't dare to hesitate and quickly runs over. Suji-baek then says, you remember what happened that day, right? When I accidentally called Daegun Kwon brother. You should know I was trying to say Soo-hyuk-baek is my brother. Jinmo, looking at the book in his hand, says, I know. Seeing Jinmo's attitude, Suji-baek gets angry and raises her comb to hit Jinmo. You dare to brush me off. Frightened, Jinmo quickly says, no, I'm listening to you seriously. Seeing this, Suji-baek stops and says, I'll let you off this time, but listen carefully. What I mean is, but before she can finish, she sees Daegun Kwon coming to class 6. Jinmo also quickly runs over. Seeing Daegun Kwon, Suji-baek's face turns red, and she's momentarily speechless. Daegun Kwon just gives Jinmo a few instructions and leaves. Then Jinmo quickly returns to Suji-baek and says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to run away. After all, Daegun Kwon is my leader. What were you about to say? Seeing this, Suji-baek calmly says, take off your glasses first. Jinmo, terrified, takes off his glasses. The next second, Suji-baek frantically hits Jinmo with her book. You dare to leave before I've finished talking. Jinmo doesn't dare to fight back, just repeatedly saying, I was wrong. After hitting him a few times, Suji-baek stops, not because she's letting Jinmo off, but because she's afraid of sweating and ruining her makeup. Then Suji-baek calls over Jinmo's lackeys. Suji-baek, with a gloomy face, says, you guys step on him hard. The lackeys, without hesitation, drag Jinmo out. They start taking turns stepping on Jinmo. Sorry, Jinmo, we have no choice. At this time, Suji-baek is still thinking about how to deal with Daegun Kwon. Seeing that they've beaten him enough, she tells them to call Jisuk-yu over. Soon, Jisuk-yu comes to class 6. Suji-baek immediately asks, how's the thing I talked to you about last time? You mean teaming up with other leaders? I'm thinking about it, but why do you care about this? Suji-baek says, no reason. I just want to bully him. Jisuk-yu says, then why don't you just tell your brother? But Suji-baek, with a shy face, says, no way. If I do that, he might really get killed. I just want him to submit to me, to worship me like a queen. You get it, right? I just want to see him submit to me. Think of a way for me quickly. Seeing this, Jisuk-yu is also helpless. Now it seems the only option is to team up with other leaders. We must eliminate Daegun Kwon no matter what. Plan to unite with leaders from other classes to deal with Daegun Kwon. At this moment, in the storage room on the school roof, leaders from the remaining classes have gathered. Class 5's leader, Jisuk-yu. Class 8's leader, Do-sik Kwak. Class 7's leader, Sung-hwa Gu. Class 4's leader, Do-jin Park. And Class 9's leader, Sung-hun Lee. Jisuk-yu proposes the idea of uniting to deal with Daegun Kwon. Unexpectedly, Sung-hwa Gu rejects without thinking. I'm not interested in rankings, and I don't think I would lose to Daegun Kwon. Do-sik Kwak also says, I don't think our relationship is good enough for an alliance. I don't understand your purpose in proposing this union. Are you afraid of that transfer student? Hearing this, Jisuk-yu is displeased. I'll let it go this time, but watch your words in the future. But Do-sik Kwak says indifferently, even if you don't let it go, what can you do? At this point, Sung-hwa Gu also provokes, why don't you two fight now? After all, you didn't determine a winner last time. Class 4's leader, Do-jin Park, immediately says, sounds good, let's add a bet. I'll put 500,000 on Do-sik Kwak to win. Seeing this, Jisuk-yu is speechless. I shouldn't have organized this meeting, but at this moment Sung-hun Lee says, I agree with the alliance. Do-sik Kwak immediately asks, even if we ally, what can we do? Sung-hun Lee then says, before I express my opinion, let's hear what Jisuk-yu has in mind. Ji Seok-yu then says, as you can see, Daegun Kwon is rapidly conquering various classes. Since the original ranking has collapsed, I think we need to form a counterbalance to Daegun Kwon to some extent. But the next second, Sung Woo-gu says, how boring. Let you weaklings handle the alliance thing. Dojin Park also says, I don't like sharing money with others, so I'm not planning to ally either. Seeing this, Dusik Kwok doesn't hesitate and also prepares to leave. As he leaves, he doesn't forget to mock. How could an alliance ever happen? Someone should use their brain. Ji Seok-yu can't hold back. You stand right there. I said I wouldn't let you off next time. Dusik Kwok is not intimidated at all. He beckons with his finger. I'll give you a chance to vent. Let's see if you can take it. As the two are about to fight, Sung-hun Lee quickly steps forward. Now is not the time for internal strife. Listen to my analysis first. The next collection day is coming soon. This is the main reason we want to become leaders. And Golden Dragon's large-scale collection will definitely attract many strong individuals. Although I'm not clear about your two's reasons. Sung Woo-gu and Dojin Park's goals are clear. Their desire for money exceeds others. Although they pretend not to care, they're likely to take action before the collection day. So we just need to observe for now and take action after the collection day. Meanwhile, Class 4's Dojin Park has returned to his class. He's playing a gambling-like game with classmates. But Dojin Park seems to have bad luck, losing a lot of money in no time. Seeing Dojin Park getting frustrated, the guy quickly says, you don't have to pay me. Let's call it a day and continue tomorrow. But Dojin Park looks at his hand, lost in thought. The next second, he suddenly slaps the guy. The guy is caught off guard and flies away. Seeing this, Dojin Park feels much better. I feel my luck is good now. Let's try again. Meanwhile, Ji Seok-yu has just returned to his class. Suji Baek comes over. She asks if Ji Seok-yu has allied with leaders from other classes. Ji Seok-yu then explains Sung-hun Lee's thoughts. Hearing this, Suji Baek is speechless. In other words, you're doing nothing. There's no other way. I'll have to take matters into my own hands. After school, Dojin Park and a few friends gather in the park to rest. A lackey asks Dojin Park, the collection day is coming soon. Should we conquer more classes? That way we can collect more money. Hearing this, Dojin Park smiles. I was just thinking about that. Now the transfer student controls 4 classes. We just need to take him out. The lackey immediately says, then I'll open a betting pool for you guys. Dojin Park says, no problem. Give me high odds, then bet everything on me. We'll definitely make a killing. At this moment, a few men walk over. Dojin Park and his group stand up and bow respectfully. Dojin Park then asks, big brother, how have you been lately? I heard after you dropped out, you joined an organization. The man says, that's right, but it seems a bit difficult now. Then the man looks behind him and says, customer, I didn't expect your target to be my junior. Unexpectedly, it's the student who lost money to Dojin Park earlier. The man was specifically hired to teach Dojin Park a lesson. At this point, the big guy says, don't worry, little brother. Since I've taken your money, I'll naturally do the job. Consider it educating a junior. Dojin Park also understands, it seems big brother, you've been paid to teach me a lesson. The big guy confirms, that's right, this is a field I've just entered. It's just a job, so cooperate, okay? Hearing this, Dojin Park holds his stomach and laughs loudly. This is killing me. You think you can throw your weight around just because you joined an organization? In the end, you're just acting as a thug for students. What a disgrace. Hearing this, the big brother gets angry. You're becoming more and more disrespectful. You should know who I am. I'm Ja Young-yuk of Tiger Construction Company. The big brother pats Dojin Park. You're really disappointing me. Looks like I need to teach you a good lesson today. Then the man swings his fist. Unexpectedly, Dojin Park doesn't dodge, but even moves closer. Big brother, your fist has gotten fatter. It's so soft. At this rate, who's teaching whom is still unclear. The next second, Dojin Park suddenly strikes, landing a punch on the man's abdomen. The man can't straighten up after this punch. Dojin Park then presses the man's head down and says, your stomach's impact response is terrible. You should exercise more. I don't even want to hit a pig-like body like yours. He then lands a punch on the man's face. The big guy flies several meters away, landing heavily on the ground. Dojin Park seems unsatisfied and says, come at me all at once. Hearing this, the others get angry, but Dojin Park doesn't waste words and charges forward. These people are no match for Dojin Park. In just a few rounds, they're all taken down. The client is stunned, too scared to say a word. Dojin Park now turns his attention to him. Frightened, he runs away. Dojin Park is about to chase after him. But at this moment, the big brother suddenly attacks, raising his baseball bat and swinging it at Dojin Park. Dojin Park has to give up chasing the man and raises his arm to block the bat. The big guy wants to continue attacking, but he's hit from behind by Dojin Park's friend. Seeing this, Dojin Park quickly charges forward. He lands a punch squarely on the man's face. This time, the big guy flies away and passes out completely. Dojin Park then looks for the student who ran away, but by now, he's long gone. Dojin Park has to give up. The next day, as soon as Daegun Kwon arrives at school, Manho No and others find Daegun Kwon and tell him about the upcoming collection day. You're now the leader of 4 classes and will soon receive an operational fee. I think that's why you became a leader, right? Daegun Kwon is confused. What operational fee? How did money get involved? At this moment, Myung-jung Kim suddenly appears and says, they call it an operational fee, but it's actually a protection fee that flows into the hands of various class leaders. The more classes you control, the more money money you receive. Hearing this, Daegun Kwon says, from now on that's not happening anymore. None of you are allowed to collect money. Monho No and others immediately become anxious. That won't work. Some of the collected money goes to the second-year students, and some goes to the third-year students. If you don't pay, you're basically against the whole school. The consequences are very serious. Hearing this, Daegun Kwon falls into thought. If it involves the entire school, the risk is indeed quite high. But isn't that why I came here to clean up this place? Whatever. At this time, Jinmo also suddenly comes over, saying someone wants to see Daegun Kwon. Daegun Kwon is a bit annoyed. Why do people always want to see me? But unexpectedly, the person who wants to see Daegun Kwon is Suji Baek. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon immediately grabs Jinmo by the throat. Do you have a death wish? I told you not to bother me with these small matters. Suji Baek walks up to Daegun Kwon and says, you'd better let go before I get angry. Although this guy's done a lot of annoying things, only I can beat him up. Hearing this, Daegun Kwon bluntly says, what nonsense are you talking? According to your rules, Class 6 is now mine, so I'll deal with him as I please. Hearing this, Suji Baek steps forward and grabs Jinmo's hand. Stop pretending to be a big shot. I'm above all those rules you mentioned. Then Suji Baek yanks hard, trying to pull Jinmo over. But he's firmly held by Daegun Kwon, who says, I won't let him go. Do as you wish. Hearing this, Suji Baek becomes anxious. You're really arrogant. Then the two begin fighting over Jinmo. In the heat of the moment, Suji Baek hugs Jinmo's arm. The sensation on his arm makes Jinmo beam with joy, feeling incredibly good. At this moment, Daegun Kwon looks at Jinmo and says, what are you doing? Your expression is really creepy. Suji Baek also realizes she's being taken advantage of. Immediately, with a disgusted look, she quickly lets go of Jinmo. Jinmo suddenly feels a killing intent. The next second, Suji Baek chopped Jinmo's neck with her hand. She sends Jinmo flying several meters away. Then, looking at Jinmo, she says, I'll give you 3 seconds to disappear from my sight. Hearing this, Jinmo runs away without a word, his speed rivaling a world champion. But right now, Jinmo is overjoyed in his heart. Suji Baek now approaches Daegun Kwon and says, I called you out for something else. Then Suji Baek grabs Daegun Kwon's collar, forcing him against a nearby lamppost. Suji Baek is about to say something, but when she sees Daegun Kwon's eyes, she shyly lowers her head. Right now, Suji Baek's heart is racing and she can't say what's on her mind. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon says, if you have something to say it quickly. I don't have time to play with you. Hearing this, Suji Baek suddenly raises her head and shouts, brother! Suji Baek is immediately stunned, not expecting to involuntarily call him brother again. She quickly explains, I mean, last time I called you brother, I wasn't calling you. You might not know since you just transferred, but with one word from my brother, everyone in the school has to listen to him. Hearing this, Daegun Kwon is speechless. You called me over just for this? He then removes Suji Baek's arm. With a twist, he restrains Suji Baek. Suji Baek is stunned, finding herself locked by him. But no matter how hard she tries, she can't break free. Daegun Kwon now says, don't bother. Just call your brother out. I'd like to meet him too. Hearing this, Suji Baek is stunned. Are you crazy? If you meet Soo Hyuk, you're done for. That absolutely cannot happen. While the two are still struggling, a few people walk over from a distance. One of them is Class 4's leader, Dojin Park. One of the bald men recognizes Suji Baek. What are you two doing? A boy and a girl pulling and tugging in broad daylight? Hearing this, Daegun Kwon retorts, what are you saying, Baldy? Upon hearing this, Dojin Park behind almost laughs out loud. The bald man's face darkens. What did you just say? Seeing the man's reaction, Daegun Kwon raises a hand in apology. Sorry, I shouldn't have joked about your hair volume. Hearing this, Dojin Park bursts into laughter. You're really funny. Ja-ok didn't lose his hair. He shaved it off himself. So it's no problem to call him Baldy. At this moment, a nearby man says, stop laughing. Ja-ok is indeed balding. The man waves at Daegun Kwon. First-year kids, go cool off somewhere else. Daegun Kwon asks Suji Baek, do you know these guys? Why are they ordering me around? Suji Baek says, this guy is called Gung Ju, and the bald one in front is the second-year leader, Ja-ok-1. Hearing this, Daegun Kwon has a plan in mind. He says, we were here first. If anyone should leave, it's you guys. Hearing this, Suji Baek says, what are you saying? Are you crazy? Ja-ok-1 also doubts his ears. Seeing this, Dojin Park exclaims, transfer student, you really are crazy. Ja-ok-1 is about to teach Daegun Kwon a lesson, but Suji Baek suddenly receives a call from her brother Soo Hyuk Baek. Nearby, Gung-myung-ju quickly stops Ja-ok-1 who wants to take action. Then Suji Baek is heard saying, brother, you're coming over in a bit? Then I'll wait for you here. Daegun Kwon also asks if Soo Hyuk is coming over. But Suji Baek ignores Daegun Kwon. Looking at Ja-ok-1 and his group, she says, if you don't have anything else, I'll take this guy and leave. I still have business with him. Gung-myung-ju stands in front of Ja-ok-1 advising, calm down. If Soo Hyuk sees us beating up her friend in front of Suji Baek, we're done for. Then he waves at Suji Baek. Suji, you take him and go. Remember to say hi to big brother Soo Hyuk for us? Then Suji Baek leads Daegun Kwon away from there. Looking at the two leaving, Gung-myung-ju can't help but sigh. Having a good brother really is nice. Ja-ok-1, watching this scene, is also red with anger but doesn't dare to act against Suji Baek. Then he says to Dojin Park, you've really picked a good opponent. Deal with him quickly in the coming days. But Dojin Park, looking at Daegun Kwon's departing figure, falls into thought. Damn it, I can't hold back anymore. I don't want to just let him walk away. At least let me test him first. Nearby, Gongmyung-ju advises, let it go. With Suji Baek around, we can't make a move. But the next second, Dojin Park charges forward regardless. Daegun Kwon is the first to sense Dojin Park's sneak attack. He quickly pulls Suji Baek aside to dodge. They narrowly escape Dojin Park's attack. Dojin Park then makes a sharp turn and attacks Daegun Kwon again. Due to Suji Baek being nearby, Daegun Kwon can only dodge for now. After avoiding several of Dojin Park's attacks, Daegun Kwon finally finds an opportunity. He lands a slap on Dojin Park's face. Normally, this slap would knock Dojin Park unconscious. But not only is Dojin Park unfazed, he's even more excited, charging at Daegun Kwon again. Daegun Kwon is secretly shocked, not expecting Dojin Park's resilience to be so strong. But because Suji Baek is behind him, Daegun Kwon can't fight freely. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon continues to dodge while creating distance from Dojin Park. Finally, Daegun Kwon finds a chance to lock Dojin Park's arm. Unfortunately, Dojin Park notices it first. Without hesitation, he kicks Daegun Kwon away. Dojin Park then says, "What are you doing? Just dodging?" At this moment, Daegun Kwon sees that Suji Baek has moved far away and sighs in relief. Now he can finally fight without holding back. At this moment, Dojin Park was still taunting. "Why do you seem so pathetic? You're nothing like the rumors said." But before he could finish speaking, Daegun Kwon had already thrown a punch at him. Before Dojin Park could react, Daegun Kwon followed up with a kick. He kicked Dojin Park several meters away. The powerful blow made Dojin Park curse involuntarily. But the next second, Daegun Kwon kicked him again. This kick sent Dojin Park flying. Dojin Park quickly rolled and got back up. This time, Dojin Park finally realized Daegun Kwon's terrifying strength and couldn't help saying, "You really are fucking strong." While Daegun Kwon asked, "Is your arm okay?" Only then did Dojin Park feel the pain in his arm. He suddenly remembered what happened last night. He thought it was nothing, but it seemed he had underestimated the situation. Daegun Kwon took off his jacket and said, "You'd better hope your arm is fine because you might be about to get beaten up." But suddenly, Suji Baek shouted, "Daegun Kwon, why are you taking off your clothes?" Daegun Kwon was speechless. "I'm just taking off my jacket." Suji Baek responded, "But you shouldn't do that in front of so many people." Hearing this, Daegun Kwon realized that many people had gathered around. It seemed they couldn't have a proper fight now. Dojin Park also said that while it was a pity, they had technically fought already. So let's end it here for today. Wait for me to come find you next time. I'll show you what I'm really capable of then. After saying this, Dojin Park pushed through the crowd and left. Nearby, second-year student Gongmyung-ju said, "You seem disappointed. Don't worry, you'll meet again soon." Daegun Kwon immediately replied, "I hope you'll be there next time too. It would be troublesome to beat you up separately." Hearing this, Gongmyung-ju became angry. How dare a first-year student be so arrogant? He was about to rush over and settle things with Daegun Kwon, but Ja-ok-won stopped him, saying, "You're a second year after all. Getting provoked by a first year is unbecoming." Hearing this, Gongmyung-ju had to give up on confronting Daegun Kwon and left with Ja-ok-won. Daegun Kwon didn't stop them, as it wasn't appropriate to fight more now. Nearby, Suji Baek scolded Daegun Kwon for being crazy enough to anger a second-year boss. "Though you're quite strong, you shouldn't casually provoke second years. It's dangerous. Also, thank you just now, but next time don't grab a girl's waist so forcefully." Daegun Kwon helplessly said, "I don't feel it's dangerous, and I thought I was being gentle." "By the way, didn't you say Soo-hyuk Baek would come?" Suji Baek responded, "I said that to save you. I was lying to them. After all, you were very unfriendly to the second years just now. And why do you keep wanting to meet my brother? You'll probably be finished if you meet him. Just deal with the first years for now. The bosses from other classes are all talking about taking care of you." After saying this, Suji Baek left first. Daegun Kwon was helpless. It seemed he wouldn't meet Soo-hyuk Baek today. If I'd known, I should have dealt with that second-year baldy. But I still need to see Soo-hyuk Baek about the protection money issue. That Dojin Park guy was quite unusual though. I could tell from his shoulders he's not someone to mess with. Anyway, I'm surprised he could take my punch. Maybe I haven't found my previous feeling yet. Hopefully next time he can last a bit longer, so I can get back my previous feeling. Scene change. Daegun Kwon and his group are sitting together studying. While Daegun Kwon was immersed in the studying atmosphere, Dojin Park suddenly came over with a book. Monho-no and others instinctively thought Dojin Park was coming to cause trouble. Dojin Park walked up to Daegun Kwon and complained, "Geez, I wanted to talk to you, but there's no seat left." Then he looked at Jinmo sitting across from Daegun Kwon and said, "Get up and give me your seat." Jinmo thought to himself, "I'm in trouble now. Although I know I can't beat him. With so many people watching, getting up just like that would be too embarrassing. The authority I've worked so hard to build would be gone." Then Jinmo stood up and said, "Why should I give you my seat?" Jungmin nearby was shocked and quickly said, "Jinmo, you're quite brave. Daegun Kwon won't help you." Seeing this, Dojin Park smiled instead of getting angry and raised his hand to scare Jinmo. Jinmo instinctively dodged. Realizing what he'd done, Jinmo felt incredibly embarrassed and quickly explained it was a reflex, not fear. But Dojin Park said, "I wasn't going to hit you. Let's play rock, paper, scissors." Jinmo immediately felt relieved. They played rock, paper, scissors, and unsurprisingly, Jinmo lost. Jinmo, with a righteous demeanor, said, "Well, I lost. I'll give you the seat." After saying this, Jinmo left the seat, secretly relieved that he'd not only given up the seat but also saved face. But the next second, Dojin Park patted Jinmo's shoulder and asked, "Where are you going?" Then Dojin Park slapped Jinmo hard across the face. I didn't say the stake was this seat. Since you lost, you have to accept punishment. Jinmo was slapped and flew backward. Nearby, Manho No and others couldn't help but comment, this guy is really unlucky. After dealing with Jinmo, Dojin Park sat down across from Daegun Kwan. Daegun Kwan thought Dojin Park had come to fight him. But Dojin Park said, I didn't come to fight you this time. But we'll have to fight sooner or later, so why not set some conditions and make a bet? Meanwhile, in second year Gongyeongju's location, Seungwa-gu, the boss of Class 8, was also there. Gongyeongju asked if the venue was ready, and Seungwa-gu replied that everything was prepared. They could just have everyone go to the gym directly. Gongyeongju approved, but asked, have you seen the transfer student fight? How good is he? Seungwa-gu replied he hadn't seen him, but since he could defeat Sungbo Shim, he must be quite formidable. Gongyeongju then asked, what do you think of Dojin Park? Dojin Park is an interesting guy with a one-man army aura. Just looking at him makes people feel scared, especially since he has unique advantages. His body's flexibility and elasticity give him formidable power. But people like him who rely on physical qualities tend to be technically deficient. Meanwhile, Dojin Park was questioning his life again. He hadn't won a single round playing the coin-flipping game with Daegun Kwan. Unwilling to admit defeat, Dojin Park wanted to play a few more rounds. But Daegun Kwan said, I'm done playing. Even if you won, I'd agree to all the things you said earlier. Hearing this, Dojin Park was dissatisfied. What do you mean even if I won? But the next second, Dojin Park realized the issue. Now wasn't the time to argue about winning or losing. Then Dojin Park stood up and prepared to leave, saying, remember what you said, don't go back on your word. See you this Friday at the gym. Daegun Kwan immediately replied, no problem, but you should get your arm fixed first. I don't want to see you whining. After Dojin Park left, Manho No quickly asked Daegun Kwan, although I don't know why you deliberately lost to him, was it necessary to agree to the bet? Even if you two will fight eventually, doing it on second-year territory seems suspicious, doesn't it? Daegun Kwan naturally saw that this might be a trap, but this way he could also deal with the second years. But at this moment, someone else came looking for Daegun Kwan. Daegun Kwan asked what they wanted. The man hesitated but finally said, could you help us beat up Dojin Park, but could you lose to him? Daegun Kwan was stunned. What are you saying? The man explained, Dojin Park's bet with you is to open betting. Many people are betting on who will win between you and Dojin Park. The second years are doing the same, but besides that, I also have a reason why you must lose. Daegun Kwan was even more confused. I think it's really hard for me to lose to him. What's your reason? The man stammered, but finally explained. It turned out the man had previously paid someone to teach Dojin Park a lesson but failed, and Dojin Park held a grudge. Just last night, Dojin Park found the man. After a lesson, he made the man pay him protection money. Then he took the man to get back the 500,000 won he'd paid the hired muscle. But when they got there, the person was nowhere to be seen. However, a loan shark advertisement on the wall caught Dojin Park's attention. In the end, the man was forced by Dojin Park to take out a high-interest loan. Dojin Park said he would return the money if he won. So, if you win, I won't get my money back, and I'll still owe a loan shark. After the man finished, before Daegun Kwan could speak, Jury Park got upset. You want to beat up Dojin Park that badly? Why don't I beat you up first? But Daegun Kwan said, I can't possibly lose to him, but I'll help you beat him up. Are you good at English? If so, come find me after school. After school, Daegun Kwan followed the man to the loan shark's place. Then he said, I'll go up and have a look. You go back first. Daegun Kwan had just gone up. Someone asked what he was there for, if he wanted to borrow money. Then he followed the man inside. The man asked which grade Daegun Kwan was in, and how much he wanted to borrow. Daegun Kwan naturally wouldn't tell him, and wouldn't borrow money either. He quickly made an excuse and was about to leave. The man got angry, grabbed Daegun Kwan and asked, Are you playing with me, kid? You don't look like you're here to borrow money. Who are you? Daegun Kwan grabbed the man's arm. Feeling the pain in his arm, the man couldn't help but start trembling. Daegun Kwan then said, I said I'm leaving. I'll let go of you, but don't follow me out. The man reached for an ashtray on the table to hit Daegun Kwan, but Daegun Kwan slapped it away. Then he delivered a chop to the man, who immediately collapsed unconscious. Daegun Kwan was about to leave, but the documents on the table caught his attention. After flipping through them, he found Do Hyun Kim's loan information. But the next second, Daegun Kwan was stunned. He saw a photo of Chairman Lee here, which confused him. At that moment, there were sounds from outside. Daegun Kwan quickly prepared to leave. Just as he reached the door, someone walked in. The leader saw Daegun Kwan and asked who he was. But then he was distracted by the unconscious man, thinking he was asleep. Daegun Kwan said, I've got to go, and left. But as soon as Daegun Kwan left, the people inside realized something was wrong. Their boss had been knocked out. Hearing the commotion, Daegun Kwan hurried away. Fortunately, he ran fast enough not to be caught. Once safe, Daegun Kwan was about to take out his phone to call Sami Lee and ask why Chairman Lee's photo was there. But in the end, Daegun Kwan gave up, deciding to resolve Dojin Park's matter first. He checked the weather on his phone. It's going to rain on Friday? I don't really like that. Time quickly reached Friday. Dojin Park and his group arrived at the gym early. Seungwa-gu and others were preparing the venue. Soon the second years also arrived. The leader was the second-year boss, Ja Ok-won. On the other side, Daegun Kwon was already on his way, along with Manho No and others. Daegun Kwon didn't want Manho No and the others to come along, but they were worried about him going to second-year territory alone. Their backpacks were all filled with weapons. Daegun Kwon was speechless. Just then, Jungmin said he had found a way to deal with Dojin Park, but Daegun Kwon replied indifferently that he had already known when playing the coin-flipping game with him. Jungmin and Hojong behind him were bewildered. But just then, Daegun Kwon's phone received a message. After reading it, Daegun Kwon helplessly said, "Looks like you'll have to go ahead. I've got something to handle, but I'll be back soon." Manho No and others could only arrive at the gym first. Seeing this, Ja Ok-won and others couldn't help but taunt, "Is Daegun Kwon scared?" Manho No immediately replied, "No way, Daegun Kwon isn't that kind of person." Nearby, Gung Youngju recognized Manho No and said, "You guys can find a place to sit." Jungmin secretly sighed in relief. Thanks to Manho No's brother, we're safe. The pressure from these gang followers of the middle way is really strong. Just then, the gym doors opened again and more people arrived. A group of students in uniforms walked in. They were the second year's second-tier bully group, the Sacred Ties. The boss of the Sacred Ties said, "It's just a first-year fight. Is such a grand setup necessary?" At this point, Class 9's boss Sung Hun Lee said, "There's no choice. After all, the transfer student isn't an ordinary first year." Hojong and others hadn't expected Sung Hun Lee to come. Ja Ok-won told everyone to find a place to sit. Giseok Ma, the boss of the Sacred Ties, found a place to sit with his group. After sitting down, he asked when the so-called transfer student would arrive. Manho No and others were getting anxious, hoping Daegun Kwon would show up soon. After an unknown period of waiting, Dojin Park finally couldn't stand it anymore and threw his phone, cursing, "Why the fuck isn't he here yet? I'm bored to death. Anyone, first year or second year, come out and fight me now." His friend quickly tried to restrain him. Ja Ok-won also said, "Indeed, we should find some entertainment. We can't waste time waiting." Then Dojin Park turned his gaze to Manho. "No, since Daegun Kwon isn't here, you come out and warm up with me first." Hearing this, Jungmin panicked and asked Manho No what to do now. Manho No said it didn't matter. Daegun Kwon being late is our class's responsibility. Since that's the case, I'll face this guy first. But just then, Sung Woo suddenly stood up and said, "This won't do. Both sides must be in their best condition for a fair fight." Hearing this, Dojin Park was displeased and cursed. "What does a bald guy like you know? I need to warm up first." But Sung Woo still refused, saying he would have two students from his class with special skills fight instead. Just then, someone pushed the door open and said, "Am I late?" Manho No and others quickly turned around, thinking Daegun Kwon had arrived. Dojin Park was also extremely excited, eager to start fighting. But it wasn't Daegun Kwon, it was Myungjung Kim. As soon as he entered, he shouted, "No one's stupid enough to bet on Dojin Park winning today, right? Be careful, you won't even get your principal back." Hearing this, Dojin Park exploded with anger. What did this guy mean? Nearby, Jungmin hurriedly scolded, "You idiot, shut up!" But Myungjung Kim seemed to not hear and asked, "Who do I give the money to if I want to bet? There's no one here who can't handle losing, right?" By now, Dojin Park was furious and said viciously, "Myungjung Kim, you used to be the boss of Class 2, right?" Myungjung Kim still hadn't realized the seriousness of the situation, and boasted that while he was once battle-hardened, he now served Daegun Kwon. But the next second, Dojin Park rushed over and punched him. Myungjung Kim was stunned, but Dojin Park didn't plan to stop. He grabbed Myungjung Kim's head and threw him away. "Today I'll teach you what it means to beat a person who doesn't fight back, especially one who doesn't have eyes." Myungjung Kim wanted to say something, but Dojin Park didn't give him a chance, going straight for a kick. Nearby, Manho No was shocked. "What's going on all of a sudden?" Ja Ok-won said, "Indeed. Before the main course, we need an appetizer." Myungjung Kim had no chance to fight back against Dojin Park's beating and was thrashed. "This guy really can't take a hit. I haven't even finished warming up." Then he shouted, "Manho No, it's your turn now." But just then, a voice came from the gym entrance. "What's going on? Weren't you supposed to fight me? Are you already impatient?" It was the fashionably late Daegun Kwon. Dojin Park immediately shouted, "Daegun Kwon, you finally arrived!" Manho No and others were relieved to see Daegun Kwon. Daegun Kwon symbolically said, "I'm sorry I'm late." Dojin Park replied, "If you had come any later, your friends might have all been lying down. But this Myungjung guy probably isn't your friend, right?" Daegun Kwon didn't speak. Instead, he took off his outer clothing and said, "I'm not sure, but since you've already beaten one person, you should be warmed up." Dojin Park wanted to say something, but Daegun Kwon threw his clothes at him, blocking his vision. The next second, Daegun Kwon suddenly attacked, giving each of Dojin Park's friends a punch. Then Daegun Kwon said, "I've also warmed up using your friends. Last time we didn't fight satisfactorily, which was a pity. Today, you'd better be prepared. I won't hold back." Everyone looked expectant. Ja Ok-won had people clear away the guys lying on the ground to make space. Dojin Park was excited. "Daegun Kwon, I really like you. Interesting toys like you are too rare." Saying this, Dojin Park charged forward. "Now I can't wait to tear you apart." He swung a punch at Daegun Kwon. But no matter how Dojin Park attacked, he couldn't hit Daegun Kwon. This made Dojin Park furious and he shouted, "I don't know what you're doing. Are you just going to keep dodging? Have the guts to trade blows with me, don't just dodge." Jungmin and others were confused too. Why was Dojin Park just swinging wildly with so many openings? And why was Daegun Kwan just dodging? At this point, Minsu Kim said, maybe Daegun Kwan is analyzing his opponent. Based on past experience, whenever Daegun Kwan fights one-on-one, he first focuses on dodging the opponent's attacks, and only counterattacks after generally understanding their strength. Sure enough, after dodging Dojin Park's attack, Daegun Kwan began to counterattack. Finding an opportunity, he punched Dojin Park in the ribs. Dojin Park hurriedly swung back, but couldn't hit Daegun Kwan. While dodging, Daegun Kwan caught Dojin Park's leg with a kick to stabilize himself. Then he bounced back and hit Dojin Park with a punch. Dojin Park was sent backward by this punch. But the next second, Dojin Park did a kip up and stood up. Then he launched an even fiercer attack. But no matter how Dojin Park attacked, he couldn't hit Daegun Kwan. Instead, he was hit by Daegun Kwan countless times. Daegun Kwan found an opportunity and slapped Dojin Park across the face. While Dojin Park was stunned from the slap, Daegun Kwan followed with a horizontal kick to his abdomen. One kick sent Dojin Park flying several meters. After rolling several times, Dojin Park stabilized himself. Everyone was shocked. Being able to kick someone as sturdy as Dojin Park flying, while Dojin Park couldn't even touch him. Sungwoo commented, if Dojin Park continues with just large sweeping attacks, he'll never be able to hurt Daegun Kwan at all. Now Dojin Park couldn't help but complain, you really hit hard. Daegun Kwan then said, I didn't expect you to be so durable. Looks like you'll give me a good warm-up. Dojin Park was stunned. Are you saying you're still warming up? That's great. Because I am too. And with that, Dojin Park charged again. But the result was the same. No matter how Dojin Park attacked, he couldn't hit Daegun Kwan. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan smiled. This guy still hasn't realized? Continuing like this, he can't win against me. Too bad he hasn't discovered what's truly important. As long as he doesn't realize it, no matter how powerful his attacks are, the results will be the same. He can only take hits. Now the spectators finally noticed something was off. And now Manhono also saw why Dojin Park kept getting hit. Although Dojin Park had an unusual body, unfortunately, he was used to relying on the power his physique provided. This made his attacks completely lacking in technique. Although previously his physique could compensate for the technical gap. This time his opponent was Daegun Kwan, who had both power and technique. Now Dojin Park was starting to question his life. He couldn't understand why his attacks couldn't hit Daegun Kwan. While Daegun Kwan casually said, put in more effort, I'm getting sleepy. Didn't you say you wanted to tear apart what you like? Meanwhile, at Suji Baek's location, having just learned from Jiseok Yu that Daegun Kwan was fighting second years, she hurriedly wanted to rush over. Suji Baek thought Daegun Kwan was crazy. If this guy was still speaking rudely to second years like before. Thinking of this, Suji Baek quickened her pace. Meanwhile, after hearing Daegun Kwan's words, Dojin Park couldn't help but slap himself twice. Trying to adjust his state, he thought, I've lasted this long, it should be my turn to attack now, right? With this in mind, Dojin Park charged again, but the result was still being kicked away by Daegun Kwan. Undeterred, Dojin Park quickly got up and charged again, but he still couldn't change the outcome. Unable to hit Daegun Kwan, he was continuously beaten one-sidedly by Daegun Kwan. Finally, after taking who knows how many punches, Dojin Park completely lost the ability to resist. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan grabbed his head and slammed it into the ground. Everyone was stunned, not expecting Dojin Park to lose like this. Daegun Kwan then turned his gaze to Jaok-1 and said, thanks to this guy for warming me up. Now it's your turn, Baldy. However, behind him, the fallen Dojin Park stood up again. Did I allow you to call the next person? The battle has just begun. Everyone was shocked, not expecting Dojin Park to stand up again. But Dojin Park's appearance made everyone hesitate whether to step in. Daegun Kwan helplessly said, you should wipe the blood from your mouth first. Dojin Park replied, now I know why I couldn't hit you. You saw through my fighting pattern, right? But what will you do if your body can't keep up with your mind? Sungwoo calmly said, it seems the fight is just beginning. Now Dojin Park only has the obsession with victory left. In this situation, like characters in movies, he might gain power beyond his normal limits in extreme situations. Dojin Park took a sprinting posture. Then with an explosive start, he charged toward Daegun Kwan. But the next second, he was hit in the head by Daegun Kwan's punch. What are you talking about, brat? Dojin Park was stunned. Why wasn't it following the script? Nearby, Sungwoo awkwardly said, it seems movie scenes don't happen in reality. Daegun Kwan then turned his gaze to Jaok-1. I heard you're all collecting protection money from students. Are you gangsters? Who gave you permission to collect protection money? Aren't you students too? From now on, no one is allowed to collect protection money, or you'll end up like Dojin Park. On stage, Jaok-1 said, seems you still don't understand. Collecting protection money is just a form. It's to provide people with spiritual freedom. But before he could finish, Daegun Kwan interrupted, what kind of monk are you pretending to be, Baldy? Come down, and I'll let you taste what it's like to be head-butted. Jaok-1 hadn't said anything yet. Nearby, Gong Myung-ju couldn't sit still and cursed, who do you think you are? At this point, the boss of the Sacred Ties calmly said, young people these days really have no manners. A mere first-year student daring to think about abolishing the tradition of collecting protection money. Never mind, I won't explain to you anymore. Let your body remember. As soon as he finished speaking, all members of the Sacred Ties stood up. They unhesitatingly began to surround and attack Daegun Kwan. Seeing this, Manhono panicked and wanted to help Daegun Kwan. But the next second, he saw a figure fly past him. Daegun Kwan said, "No need to help, just watch." These second-year small fry were no match for Daegun Kwan. In an instant, most were dealt with. Now it was Gung Myung-ju and others turned to be shocked. They didn't expect one person to be able to handle so many. Just then, someone tried to sneak up on Daegun Kwan with a bench. Manho-no quickly warned Daegun Kwan and wanted to help. But the next second, he saw that person being slapped away. Manho-no was stunned. What was going on? It turned out the one who acted was Dojin Park, who had stood up again. The second-year guy was furious. "What are you doing?" He tried to attack Dojin Park, but he was directly slapped away by Dojin Park. Now Dojin Park seemed like a different person, smiling ferociously at Daegun Kwan, saying, "It's not over yet." Gung Myung-ju shouted, "Are you crazy? Why are you attacking second years?" But Ja Ok-won noticed that Dojin Park's state was off. Daegun Kwan smiled, "No wonder I always felt you were different from others. Ordinary people couldn't last this long under my hands. So you can enter the flow state, huh?" And I was still holding back. Nearby, Sung-hun Lee fell into thought when he heard flow state. Daegun Kwan continued, "But seeing your condition, you can probably only withstand one last attack. So I'll specially show you my true strength." Manho-no was surprised to see Daegun Kwan take a fighting stance for the first time. Hearing this, Dojin Park was a bit confused. "I don't know what you're talking about, but I feel my body is extremely light right now. In my current state, I can definitely tear you apart," and he charged at Daegun Kwan again. But Daegun Kwan wasn't worried at all, his eyes fixed on Dojin Park. Just as Dojin Park was about to reach Daegun Kwan moved second, but struck first with an uppercut. The uppercut directly hit Dojin Park's chin. Dojin Park didn't even see Daegun Kwan's fist before passing out. Daegun Kwan still maintained his fighting stance. Ja Ok-won was shocked by this scene. How is this possible? How do I see in him what's only present in that person? The boss of the Sacred Ties was also stunned. What just happened? Why was there a gunshot sound? Daegun Kwan thought to himself, looks like it's finally over. Jungmin warned Daegun Kwan not to say that, in case Dojin Park got up again. But this time Dojin Park was truly finished, lying motionless on the ground. Daegun Kwan assured them, "Don't worry, that punch was probably his limit." Then Daegun Kwan turned his gaze to Dojin Park's friends, telling them to take him away. Now Ja Ok-won looked at Daegun Kwan and couldn't stop trembling. One leg was even shaking so much it left after images. He muttered, "How can he have the same aura as that person?" Gung Myung-ju was stunned. That person. Could it be SSU Hyuk-baek? At this point, JJ Ok-won was lost in memories, recalling the scene when he first met Soo Hyuk-baek. Gung Myung-ju quickly slapped Ja Ok-won to bring him back to reality, and asked Ja Ok-won what they should do now. But Ja Ok-won said, "It's useless. My skill level can't see through his aura, but I know no one here is his match." Now Daegun Kwan said, "From now on, no one is allowed to collect protection money. Anyone who disagrees can come down." But no one dared to move. Daegun Kwan was helpless. "Since you won't come out, I'll just pick randomly. Whoever I point to, come out." But just then, Daegun Kwan suddenly received a call from Sa-mi Lee. As soon as he answered, he heard Sa-mi Lee say, "From now on, please follow my instructions." Nearby, Jungmin and others were confused why Daegun Kwan was suddenly taking a call. By now, Sa-mi Lee had finished giving instructions and said she would call back later. Daegun Kwan had to put his phone away and say, "Let's end it here for today. I have something else to do, so I'll let you off for now." Then Daegun Kwan signaled Manho-no and others to leave. Seeing Daegun Kwan leave, everyone sighed in relief. But the next second, Daegun Kwan turned back and said, "I heard you're going to collect protection money next week. If you dare, I absolutely won't let you off." Everyone was angry but afraid to speak up. Just as Daegun Kwan opened the gym doors, he bumped into someone coming in. It was Soo Ji-baek, who had rushed over worried about Daegun Kwan's safety. As soon as she saw Daegun Kwan, she anxiously asked, "Are you okay?" Daegun Kwan assured her he was fine. Soo Ji-baek was stunned. "But I heard there were many second years here." But the next second, Soo Ji-baek saw people lying all over the place. Seeing this, Soo Ji-baek asked incredulously, "Daegun Kwan, did you do all this?" But Daegun Kwan didn't answer her question, instead giving his jacket to Soo Ji-baek to wear. Soo Ji-baek's face immediately turned red. Though verbally resistant, she honestly took the jacket. The next second, Daegun Kwan personally put the jacket on Soo Ji-baek. To Soo Ji-baek, it felt like wearing a wedding dress. While Soo Ji-baek was still lost in romantic thoughts, Jinmo suddenly brought her back to reality. "Suji, aren't you coming? We're leaving." Seeing this, Soo Ji-baek quickly caught up. At this point, the boss of the Sacred Ties was speechless. What's the relationship between this transfer student and Soo Ji-baek? This makes him even harder to deal with. Nearby, Sung-hun Lee suggested, "It seems this guy isn't someone second years can handle. Why not use his relationship with Soo Ji-baek to involve SSU Hyuk-baek?" Manho-no and others, who had already walked 3 kilometers, realized Myung-jung Kim still hadn't come out. Daegun Kwan said, "Sorry, could you take care of Myung-jung? I have something to do, so I'll go first." After leaving, according to Sa-mi Lee's instructions, Daegun Kwan returned to the loan company. He stated that he had recently received an anonymous text message with his photo attached. But despite coming many times, he hadn't found his information. Now he could only come to confirm and personally clean things up. But the next second upon entering, Daegun Kwan saw a group of men in suits standing there. He immediately hung up the phone. Several men surrounded him and asked who he was, but Daegun Kwan just stood there without speaking. One man tried to slap Daegun Kwan, but the next second, Daegun Kwan suddenly acted, slapping the man away. The other men were furious and prepared to surround Daegun Kwan. But the next second, a man walked out and told everyone to stop, saying this guy was dangerous. Then the man walked up to Daegun Kwan and said, "Long time no see. How have you been recently?" Looking at the man before him, Daegun Kwan said, "I didn't expect to see you here, Huijin Park." Afterward, Daegun Kwan and Huijin Park went to the rooftop to catch up. Daegun Kwan said, "So that text message the other day was from you. I rushed over, only to find everything in chaos. That was your doing too, right?" Huijin Park replied, "These guys have been investigating us behind our backs. I heard about you when I was dealing with them, and I thought it must be you who started suspecting us and digging into our background. But don't worry, only I know about this. What are you doing now? You're wearing a school uniform, right?" Daegun Kwan replied, "Do I even need to answer that? I'm in school. But don't ask too much. I have my own difficulties." Huijin Park said, "Though I don't know what you're doing, I know you're connected to that woman, Sami Lee. You'd better not trust her too much." Daegun Kwan replied, "I don't want to get involved in these complicated matters. I just want to live a normal life. Study well, graduate smoothly, get into a good university, live the ordinary life everyone lives." Then Daegun Kwan prepared to leave, telling Huijin Park, "It was nice seeing you today, but next time I won't be so friendly. Don't come interfere with my daily life." But just then, Huijin Park suddenly asked, "Daegun Kwan, are you able to focus on your studies?" Hearing this, Daegun Kwan remembered he wasn't even as good at studying as Jinmo, and immediately felt annoyed. He turned to look at Huijin Park and said fiercely, "Don't appear in front of me again." But after walking for a while, Daegun Kwan realized something strange. Huijin Park said he had already handled my information, so how did he know about my connection with Sami Lee? Since Daegun Kwan defeated Dojin Park, he entered a brief weekend break. That day, he went to the baseball stadium with Manho No and others to relax. Upon seeing Daegun Kwan, Manho No immediately took out a pen and gave it to Daegun Kwan. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan thought Manho No was encouraging him to study hard. But Manho No said, "What nonsense, this is for you to use as a weapon." After saying this, Manho No went into the baseball stadium ahead of him. Nearby, Gyuri Park then stepped forward and held onto Daegun Kwan, saying, "Let's go up too." When they went up, they saw that Manho No and the others had already started playing. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan was looking forward to watching Manho No play baseball. After all, this guy even fought with a baseball bat. But the next second, he saw that Manho No didn't hit a single ball. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan couldn't help but mock, "You're playing terribly." Manho No immediately replied, "What's the rush? This is a new bat. I was just testing the feel. Alright, now I'll use that one." The next second, a baseball flew straight over. But this time Manho No hit it precisely, a perfect home run. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan was very surprised, not knowing how Manho No suddenly became so good. Manho No proudly explained, "That's thanks to the baseball technique I researched. Actually, it's very simple, you just need to do one thing, which is to look at the ball with a squint. This way, the focus of your eyes becomes blurry, and things in front of you look like two. The baseball is no exception. When the two balls overlap, that's the best timing to hit." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan was speechless. "If you want to fight in the future, just call me, for the sake of humanity's future." At this moment, Hojong suddenly stepped up and said it was his turn. The next second, a ball flew directly out. However, Hojong actually used his stomach to catch the ball. Jungmin nearby immediately asked, "What are you doing? Why aren't you hitting the ball?" Hojong immediately replied, "I'm not here to play ball. I'm here to practice my impact resistance. I, Hojong, am the man who took a punch from Daegun and remained standing. But when I saw that Park Dojin guy take so many hits and still stand, I suddenly realized that my future path is the way of endurance." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan said, "You should have said so earlier. I could have helped you," which scared Hojong into quickly dodging to one side. Then Daegun Kwan also prepared to take a few swings to show off his skills. Suddenly, two girls appeared nearby, looking at Daegun Kwan with infatuation, saying, "I really want to be disciplined by his strong arms." Hearing this, Gyuri Park immediately became unhappy and glared at the two girls. The two girls weren't intimidated. "You dare glare at us, you little brat? Are you tired of living?" At this moment, several boys suddenly appeared asking, "What's going on? Who's glaring at you? Which bastard dares to mess with people from Bongyun High School?" Then they turned their gaze to Manho No and the others, saying, "Is it you punks? Which school are you bastards from? Don't you know we are?" But the next second, after the man saw Manho No's face clearly, he couldn't speak. The man instinctively protected his private parts, obviously recognizing Manho No. Manho No immediately said, "Have we met before? What were you about to say?" Before the man could speak, the guy in green clothes immediately cursed, "What are you saying, you bastard?" Seeing this, the man wanted to pull the green-clothed guy away from here. But the next second, the green-clothed guy got more heated. That guy glared at our Minji. Seeing this, the man seriously said to the green-clothed guy, "If you want to have children with Minji in the future, listen to me. If you mess with that red-haired guy, you might not be able to have children." Manho No and the others were stunned seeing this, wondering what these guys meant. At this moment, one of the girls couldn't hold back. "What are you doing? That guy just glared at me." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan turned his head, not knowing what was happening. Upon seeing Daegun Kwan, the man became even more afraid, immediately breaking into a cold sweat. He quickly pushed the green-clothed guy and was about to leave. At this point, it became clear that this guy seemed to be one of those who was beaten down during a previous fight with Bong-eun. Meanwhile, Dojin Park wasn't doing well. For some reason, he was being targeted by a group of men in black. Dojin Park was also stunned, not knowing who these guys were. He thought these guys might be debt collectors. But these men in black didn't waste words with Dojin Park. They immediately tried to attack. Seeing this, Dojin Park also got angry and started fighting back, easily taking down one person. The group of men in black were stunned by this. Isn't this guy just a student? However, at this moment, Huijun Park suddenly appeared. Let me handle this guy. Dojin Park immediately felt the pressure. Who are you? This isn't your business. But Huijun Park took the same stance as Daegun Kwon and said, since you want to resist, let's make this quick. When Dojin Park saw this stance, he immediately panicked and couldn't speak. Not long after, Dojin Park was defeated. Huijun Park then said, you don't even have money. How are you going to repay us? So you'll have to pay with your body. From that day on, Dojin Park never went to school again. Since Daegun Kwon defeated Dojin Park, he had instructed Do Hyun Kim to investigate the bullying behaviors of the school bullies and report back to Daegun Kwon. This also gave Do Hyun Kim enough face in front of those school bullies. Generally, when school bullies saw Do Hyun Kim, they would be very respectful. And Do Hyun Kim, relying on Daegun Kwon's reputation, secretly established the Bully Violence Committee, gathering those who were bullied from various classes to collect evidence of the bullies' wrongdoings. However, there were no representatives from classes 7 and 8, and class 9 had no reports of school violence. Meanwhile, in class 9, someone was idly harassing other students. Faced with warnings from male classmates, he didn't care. He even mocked, you nerds, all you know is studying all day, and your grades aren't even that good. At this moment, Ji-in, who was watching from the side, couldn't stand it anymore and said, if you have nothing to do, just go outside. The man didn't take it seriously and said, top student of the school, just keep studying and don't meddle. Ji-in immediately became unhappy. You're making so much noise, how are we supposed to study? The man immediately couldn't stand it anymore. You annoying bitch, if you weren't a girl, I would have beaten you up already. However, at this moment, Sung-hun Lee suddenly appeared and said to the man, so you're here. Come out with me for a moment, I have something to discuss with you. Sung-hun Lee turned around and took the man to a corner and gave him a severe beating. You idiot. Why are you disrupting such a good study atmosphere? Stop acting like you're something special. The man was beaten so badly he didn't dare to fight back, continuously apologizing to Sung-hun Lee. Then Sung-hun Lee said, just get out of here. I don't want to see you today, go home first. Sung-hun Lee then took out his phone and made a call. Do you want to meet now? After all, there are only 3 of us left, we can still work together. Sung-hun Lee then went to the rooftop. At the same time, Jiseok Yu and Do-sik Kwak also came there. The two knew that Daegun Kwon even dared to fight second-year students, which was very shocking, and that the second-year leader Ja Ok-won remained indifferent. Do-sik Kwak immediately said, what do we do now? This guy is calling for no one to collect protection fees. Jiseok Yu also said, that's right, we're about to collect protection fees now. We should deal with him before that. Sung-hun Lee immediately said, Daegun Kwon is indeed strong, but he's crossed the line. Now it's like he's against the whole school. But you don't need to worry, I've already thought of a countermeasure. Daegun Kwon will be dealt with in advance, we just need to collect the protection fees according to plan. Meanwhile, at Daegun Kwon's location, Do Hyun Kim was reporting to Daegun Kwon. At this moment, Suji Baek suddenly came looking for him. She returned Daegun Kwon's clothes and explained, I accidentally got makeup on it, so I washed it. Giri Park immediately said, how would it get makeup on it if you just wore it? I think you buried your face in it and inhaled deeply. Suji Baek immediately blushed and defended, what are you talking about? But in her heart, she couldn't help but think she actually guessed it. The two women immediately started arguing. At this moment, Manho No asked Daegun Kwon, if those guys continue to collect protection fees, are we really going to deal with them? After all, this matter involves the interests of the third-year students. Aren't we making too big a deal out of this? Daegun Kwon replied, it's fine, this is exactly what I want. At the same time, he thought to himself, isn't this why I came to this school? Let the scene you want to see officially begin. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, Jiseok Yu was still contemplating whether to listen to Sung-hun Lee and continue collecting protection fees. After all, he didn't believe he could beat Daegun Kwon, and neither could Sung-hun Lee and Do-sik Kwak. But after thinking for a while, Jiseok Yu still decided to continue collecting protection fees. After all, there was still Sung-hun Lee. If he wanted to survive, he would have to handle Daegun Kwon's matter well. Do-sik Kwak didn't think much about it. He returned to the classroom and instructed his underling to start collecting protection fees. This underling kindly reminded, Do-sik Kwak, do you really want to collect protection fees? Do-sik Kwak was displeased upon hearing this. It seems you've also heard about the transfer student not allowing protection fees. Saying this, he poured his drink on the underling's head. It's really annoying. Do you think I would lose to Daegun Kwon? Then Do-sik Kwak prepared to leave the classroom, stating, collect the protection fees by tomorrow. Meanwhile, Sung-hun Lee didn't take any action. The vice class monitor couldn't help saying, I'm sorry, Sung-hun, I haven't heard you say anything about collecting protection fees. Even though I'm the vice class monitor, I can't help you much. Do you need me to collect it for you? Sung-hun Lee replied, it's fine. After all, this is the class monitor's job. Thank you for your concern. but I can tell you, our class isn't planning to collect protection fees. At this time, Dusik Kwok was still calling the second-year students, stating that he would collect the protection fee soon. At this moment, Sung-Hun Lee suddenly came looking for him. Dusik Kwok asked, "Do you have something to discuss with me?" Sung-Hun Lee immediately asked, "Have you collected the protection fees?" Dusik Kwok replied, "I've already started collecting," and then asked, "Have you dealt with Daegun Kwon?" Sung-Hun Lee immediately said, "Don't worry, just act as usual." Meanwhile, Daegun Kwon had already received news that Dusik Kwok and Jisok Yu were collecting protection fees. He was preparing to go to Class 8 to talk to Dusik Kwok. Soon, Daegun Kwon arrived at Class 8 and asked, "Who is Dusik Kwok?" A yellow-haired guy was stunned to see Daegun Kwon, not expecting him to come looking. The person next to him seemed very excited to see Daegun Kwon. At this moment, two girls said to Daegun Kwon, "Dusik Kwok isn't here right now. What do you need him for?" Seeing this, Daegun Kwon said, "Since he's not here, forget it," and prepared to leave. Seeing Daegun Kwon about to leave, the man panicked, thinking, how can he leave just like that? At least teach the yellow-haired guy a lesson. At this moment, the two girls suddenly stopped Daegun Kwon and said, "You're so handsome. Can we take a video with you?" The man was relieved to see this, thinking it could buy some time. But the next second, he saw Daegun Kwon unhesitatingly reject the girl. The man was stunned again. This guy actually rejected the goddess's request. "There's no other way. I have to do this." Then the man was seen pointing at the yellow-haired guy, saying, "You're really ugly. Although I don't have the right to say you're ugly, you're too disgusting. Every day you force me to tell you if you're handsome. To be honest, you're extremely ugly." The two girls were stunned by this. What's wrong with our class monitor? Has he finally gone crazy? The yellow-haired guy stared at the class monitor, who was pointing at his nose and insulting him, momentarily stunned. The next second, he burst into laughter. "You're really funny." But the next second, the yellow-haired guy's expression changed, and he stood up from the desk. "You punk, don't you know that you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want?" Seeing this, the man wasn't panicked at all. In fact, he felt extremely satisfied, finally saying what was on his mind. But the next second, the yellow-haired guy's fist landed on the man's face. The yellow-haired guy unhesitatingly started beating the man. Yet the man wasn't panicked at all. He believed Daegun Kwon would save him. But the next second, he saw Daegun Kwon standing still, not moving. The man was immediately stunned. Didn't Do Hyun Kim say Daegun Kwon would deal with the school bullies? However, at this moment, Daegun Kwon was looking at the girls' phones in front of him. It turned out that the girls' phones were live streaming. And in this situation, Daegun Kwon couldn't easily teach the yellow-haired guy a lesson. But Daegun Kwon also couldn't just watch and do nothing. He then stepped forward to stop the yellow-haired guy, stop hitting him. Although what he said was very offensive, it doesn't warrant going this far. Unexpectedly, the yellow-haired guy didn't give Daegun Kwon any face. "Mind your own business and get lost." At this moment, one of the girls said, "Yeon Woo-cha and the transfer student standing together look so ugly." Originally, the class monitor could have been his companion, but now he doesn't even have a companion. These words fell unfiltered into the yellow-haired guy's ears, immediately triggering him. He cursed at Daegun Kwon. "Who do you think you are? Don't meddle." Seeing this, Daegun Kwon said, "Regardless of how you look, I didn't expect you to be so bold." Saying this, Daegun Kwon directly gripped the yellow-haired guy's hands. "You really don't know how to control your emotions." Seeing this, the yellow-haired guy immediately became angry. "What are you doing, punk? Let me go immediately." Daegun Kwon then said, "I'm giving you a chance now. You'd better return to your seat and attend class properly. Otherwise, you might get your face damaged in front of these girls." At this moment, the girl said again, "Yeon Woo-cha's hands are controlled. I didn't expect him to not even be able to break free from the transfer student's fingers." Hearing this, Yeon Woo-cha became upset again, since his hands were useless. He aimed his mouth at Daegun Kwon, intending to spit on him. The next second, Daegun Kwon slapped him, knocking Yeon Woo-cha's head to the side. But unexpectedly, this spit landed on one of the girls. In shock, the girl dropped her phone. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon thought, here's the opportunity. Without hesitation, he punched Yeon Woo-cha. With one punch, Yeon Woo-cha passed out. At this moment, Dusik Kwok suddenly returned and asked, "Daegun Kwon, why are you here?" Daegun Kwon immediately said, "So you're Dusik Kwok. You weren't at the gym last week." Dusik Kwok asked, "Did you beat up Yeon Woo-cha on the class monitor?" Daegun Kwon immediately replied, "You can assume I did." Seeing Daegun Kwon personally come looking for him, Dusik Kwok instantly realized he had been tricked by Sung-Hun Lee. Meanwhile, Sung-Hun Lee had found Do Hyun Kim and expressed that he was also joining the Support Daegun Kwon Association. He directly told Do Hyun Kim, "From now on, let me lead this team as chairman." Do Hyun Kim wanted to argue. But the next second, Sung-Hun Lee's expression changed as he said, "Don't you trust my abilities?" Seeing this, Do Hyun Kim immediately backed down, saying, "Sung-Hun, from now on you're the chairman." Meanwhile, Daegun Kwon didn't waste words and directly said to Dusik Kwok, "You weren't at the gym last time, so I'll give you a chance. As long as you return all the protection fees by tomorrow, this matter will be over. After all, I don't want to beat you up." Of course, Dusik Kwok wouldn't submit, immediately saying, "That's impossible because I've already spent the money. Thanks for your suggestion, but you should just leave." Seeing this, Daegun Kwon didn't pursue it further, only saying, "I've delivered the message. You'd better change your mind by tomorrow. After all, if you want to be a performer, it wouldn't be good if your face gets injured. Hearing such threatening words, Dusik Kwok couldn't help but laugh angrily. He immediately executed a spinning kick toward Daegun Kwon. Daegun Kwon quickly retreated and rotated to dodge it. But this kick forced him directly into the corridor outside. Dusik Kwok immediately said, "I really don't know why everyone thinks I would lose." Daegun Kwon immediately mocked. "That's because everyone has eyes and can tell who's stronger and who's weaker." Hearing this, Dusik Kwok no longer hesitated and charged straight at Daegun Kwon. Dusik Kwok's strength was indeed decent, which sparked a bit of interest in Daegun Kwon. But people were constantly filming with their phones nearby. This caused Daegun Kwon to be unable to concentrate. He was constantly trying to avoid being filmed. The girl filming also noticed something was off. No matter where she filmed from, she could only capture Dusik Kwok's back. At this moment, the yellow-haired guy suddenly appeared, cheering for Dusik Kwok. This successfully drew Daegun Kwon's attention, who immediately abandoned Dusik Kwok and charged at him. With one hand, he directly grabbed the yellow-haired guy's head. Using full strength, he threw him toward the filming girl, successfully knocking the girl down and toppling her phone. It must be said that the yellow-haired guy was quite fortunate with the ladies. Dusik Kwok had already taken advantage of this opening to charge forward. "You punk, at a time like this, you still have time to worry about others?" But Daegun Kwon suddenly ducked, unexpectedly avoiding this attack, then stated, "I won't hit your face." Saying this, he landed a punch directly on Dusik Kwok's ribs. The intense pain immediately contorted Dusik Kwok's face. Daegun Kwon then followed with another punch to his abdomen. With these two punches, Dusik Kwok fell to his knees, losing the ability to fight back. Daegun Kwon immediately said, "If you don't return the protection fees by tomorrow, your face will turn into a pig's head." Hearing this, Dusik Kwok had lost his previous temper and knelt in place without saying a word. After dealing with Dusik Kwok, Daegun Kwon set his sights on Jiseok-yu from Class 5. At this time, Jiseok-yu still didn't know what was about to happen. He was still trying on expensive clothes bought with protection fees. At this moment, a nearby girl suddenly said that Dusik Kwok had been beaten, and that the transfer student was coming this way. "Could he be looking for you?" Hearing this, Jiseok-yu felt uneasy and realized that he and Dusik Kwok had been set up by Sung-hun Lee. He immediately said he had something to do and would leave early. But just as he reached the door, he saw Daegun Kwon walking in. Daegun Kwon immediately said, "School isn't over yet. Where are you going?" Seeing this, Jiseok-yu looked back at his girlfriend, then said to Daegun Kwon, "Let's talk outside." Jiseok-yu then took Daegun Kwon to a place where no one was around. At this point, Jiseok-yu was still calculating ways to defeat Daegun Kwon. But after thinking for a long time, whether it was a sneak attack or other tactics, Jiseok-yu felt he couldn't win against Daegun Kwon. Jiseok-yu had no choice but to reluctantly say, "You're here about the protection fees, right? Although I don't know what you want to do, I'll do whatever you say." This way, Daegun Kwon easily resolved the issues with Jiseok-yu and Dusik Kwok. Now only Class 9 and Class 7 didn't have any activity, and then there were the second and third year students. Going to each one individually to ask would be too troublesome. What if they collected fees but denied it? That would be difficult. It would be nice if someone could bring all these guys to me. Meanwhile, at Sung-hun Lee's location, he was also preparing to pack up after school. At this moment, Dusik Kwok suddenly came looking for him, questioning, "Sung-hun Lee, you bastard. What do you mean by this?" Sung-hun Lee replied, "There are many people here. Do you really have to make such a scene? It's quite embarrassing." Dusik Kwok was stunned by these words. "What are you saying, you punk? Have you gone mad?" At this moment, Jiseok-yu also came looking for him. Sung-hun Lee said, "I remember you two never got along well. Are the two losers planning to team up against me?" Dusik Kwok immediately became angry hearing this. "You punk, you've really gone mad. I can handle you myself." Saying this, Dusik Kwok charged forward, but was intercepted by Sung-hun Lee, who kicked him in the face. One kick sent Dusik Kwok flying. Jiseok-yu was stunned by this, not expecting Sung-hun Lee to be so capable. But the next second, Sung-hun Lee's fist landed on Jiseok-yu's face, directly making him stagger backward. Sung-hun Lee mocked, "What are you staring at? At a time like this, you should attack directly. No wonder you're bullied everywhere." Jiseok-yu became angry hearing this. He charged directly at Sung-hun Lee, but all his attacks were dodged. Sung-hun Lee seized the opportunity and restrained Jiseok-yu, then delivered a knee kick to Jiseok-yu's head, almost kicking him out of the classroom. But the next second, he was grabbed back by Sung-hun Lee. Soon, Jiseok-yu was completely defeated. Dusik Kwok had also been knocked unconscious by that one kick. Sung-hun Lee immediately said, "Now you know your own strength. You just need to know that I want to make Daegun Kwon the boss. You don't need to worry about anything else." Meanwhile, Daegun Kwon was still worrying about how to resolve the others all at once, when he suddenly noticed someone following him. Daegun Kwon immediately turned into a parking lot. Before the person could follow, he quickly ran back. Then he jumped over a wall and landed behind the person. Daegun Kwon stood behind the person and said, "What are you doing running to an empty parking lot?" But the next second, the person turned around, and it was actually Yaro. Daegun Kwon was also surprised and asked, "Are you following me?" Yaro immediately said, "Actually, I originally intended to follow for a short while, but I noticed someone else was following you." So I wanted to follow and see, but that person disappeared at some point. Dagon Kwan said, "Anyway, now it's you who's following me, right?" Yaro immediately explained, "I didn't mean anything by it. It's just that you saved me last time, and I couldn't find an opportunity to thank you." Dagon Kwan immediately took out his phone. "If you have something to say, I'll give you my number and you can contact me later." Then Dagon Kwan said, "It's getting dark. Let me walk you back." On the way back, Yaro also took the opportunity to thank Dagon Kwan. Dagon Kwan said, "No need to thank me. It was my fault for accidentally involving you guys." Yaro immediately said, "Also, Ji-in was very rude last time. Ji-in actually feels very sorry, but I can't tell you the reason. In short, she's too busy to care about much else right now, but she will apologize to you eventually. I hope you don't hate her." Dagon Kwan immediately said, "I won't. Compared to that, I actually have a question for you. I heard your class is an advanced class. What's the study atmosphere like in your class?" Yaro immediately stated that initially there were a few noisy girls, but they were all disciplined by Ji-in. As for the boys, it seemed Sung-hun Lee handled it, though Yaro didn't know how he did it. By the time Dagon Kwan returned home, it was completely dark. The current situation also gave Dagon Kwan a headache. Since Won Kim, people have been constantly following him. Now things are getting bigger and bigger, completely beyond just kids fighting, especially with the appearance of Huijun Park, which was completely beyond his knowledge. This probably has something to do with Sami Lee, but he told me not to trust Sami Lee. The current situation is really confusing, but I don't care about these things. I just need to focus on one thing. The next day, Sung-hun Lee found Dagon Kwan. He asked, "Dagon Kwan, can we talk?" Dagon Kwan said, "Of course we can. I was just considering whether to talk to you with my fists." Sung-hun Lee quickly said, "I didn't collect protection fees." Then he grabbed Dagon Kwan's hand and said, "I think you're really amazing. Thanks to you, I don't have to collect protection fees. After all, I was previously the leader of Class 9, and to protect my classmates, I had to collect protection fees, while also being unable to escape the stigma of being a school bully. But I've been waiting for an opportunity. After seeing you, I feel I've found this hope. So can you give me a chance to help you?" Meanwhile, Do Hyun Kim still wanted to find Dagon Kwan to seek justice for himself. But as soon as he entered the door, he saw Sung-hun Lee and Dagon Kwan chatting happily, and was immediately stunned. Dagon Kwan immediately said, "You've worked hard before. From now on, your matters will be handled by him." Do Hyun Kim immediately said, "Dagon, you should know he's the leader of Class 9, which simply means he's a school bully." Sung-hun Lee immediately said, "Are you saying that being a leader means being a school bully? By your logic, Dagon is also a school bully." Do Hyun Kim quickly shook his head, indicating that wasn't what he meant. Dagon Kwan immediately said, "I know what you're worried about. But after our conversation, I've already felt his sincerity. That's enough. No need to say more. You two shake hands." Sung-hun Lee immediately stated that before formally starting, they should first gather everyone together. At this moment, on the school rooftop, Sung-hun Lee had called over all those following Dagon Kwan and was preparing to introduce everyone to the Bully Violence Committee. Jungmin and Hojong were stunned, not knowing when Dagon Kwan and Sung-hun Lee had become close. Myungjung Kim also asked what this committee was for and if they could make money. Sung-hun Lee immediately explained that this committee didn't have much meaning. Its ultimate purpose was to catch all the school bullies and beat them up. That's basically it, though maybe I shouldn't be telling you this. Manho No immediately said, "All of this doesn't matter, but why are you hosting?" Dagon Kwan said, "I commissioned him. I want to abolish the evil practice of collecting protection fees in school." Sung-hun Lee also said, "I could say I'm like-minded with Dagon, and I believe I will become Dagon's right-hand man. I'm not only the leader of Class 9, but also the class monitor. You should know that protection fees are usually collected by class monitors, and I have contacts with almost all classes in the school, so I know exactly which classes are collecting protection fees. So I know clearly who we need to beat up next. If Dagon is a sniper rifle, then I am the scope that helps him aim." At this moment, Jungmin suddenly said, "First explain why you were with the second-year students before." Sung-hun Lee immediately said, "That was indeed a misunderstanding. I was just going to watch the excitement with them after attending a meeting with teachers and class monitors." At this point, Dagon Kwan stated, "Don't talk about these irrelevant things, just tell us your plan directly." Sung-hun Lee immediately stated, "If we want to abolish the collection of protection fees, we can only find the third-year leader Soo Hyuk Bak. But for some reason, Soo Hyuk Bak and the third-year cadres are not at school now. So we can only deal with the second-year students first, cutting off the second-year fee collection behavior connected to the third year. This way, we can draw out the third-year guys hiding in the shadows and then catch them all at once. Of course, the matter of protection fees and dealing with scum should be separated. Have all the first-year students been taught a lesson yet? Only Sung Woo from Class 7 is left, right? That guy is a scumbag, and he also collects protection fees. He needs to be taught a good lesson." At this point, Do Hyun Kim raised a question. "I haven't heard of Sung Woo doing anything these days. He just focuses on sports after school and doesn't really bully students, right?" Sung-hun Lee immediately said, "It seems I need to explain what he does after school. His type of evil without malice is the purest. His obsession with technique has turned him into a demon. His sports class is full of students skilled in sports, so he uses this to satisfy his desires. For example, he makes those people fight, while he analyzes on the side the different types of combat, what technical characteristics they have, and how they are applied in actual combat. Do Hyun Kim was completely confused and asked, why would he do this? Sung-Hun Lee explained, that's because he's no longer satisfied with just honing his own techniques. He wants to perfect his techniques through the blood shed by others in combat. So I guess he will be the first to come looking for Daegun. The reason is that he saw your fighting technique against Dojin Park, as well as how Dojin Park was pushed to break through his own limits. A weirdo obsessed with technique, seeing a technique he's never encountered before, and an opportunity to break through limits. How could he resist? He's probably already obsessing over your fight with Dojin Park. Soon, the day passed. Manho No and the others were walking together when Jungmin suddenly looked back and said, I really don't know why I dislike Sung-Hun Lee so much. I always feel like this guy is particularly sneaky. Manho No immediately said, but Sung-Hun Lee wasn't wrong. He can indeed help Daegun Kwan. Jungmin immediately said, I know all this, but it still feels strange. Anyway, let Daegun do what he wants. Meanwhile, Sung-Hun Lee went to the second-year territory to find the leader of the second-year bully gang. Sung-Hun Lee immediately asked, how's it going? Have you seen Soo-Hyuk Baek? The leader of the bully gang sighed, can't see him. Sung-Hun Lee immediately said, I told you earlier that you wouldn't find him. That guy's mind is now focused on studying other things. He hasn't been to school for a long time. The man immediately asked, forget about him for now, what's your plan, tell me about it. Sung-Hun Lee immediately said, don't worry, everything is under my control. I'll give you a signal after some time. You just need to prepare everything before then. After all, we're about to face a storm. Meanwhile, at Sungwa-gu's location, it was indeed as Sung-Hun Lee had described. He was directing his classmates to fight each other, while sitting on the side recording something. But at this moment, Sungwa-gu felt it was meaningless. Now it's just like studying the physical condition of ordinary people. Someone nearby said, they're not ordinary people. We're studying our class's sports specialists. What's wrong with you? You've been off since last time. At this point, Sungwa-gu stood up and stopped those who were fighting, and then gathered all the top 10 sports specialists. Soon, a group of people gathered in front of Sungwa-gu. Sungwa-gu immediately asked a person named Ikube, what did you feel when I choked you unconscious last time? Did you feel your limits? Or did you have a feeling of transcending something? It seems you didn't feel anything, but it doesn't matter. Next, you will play a special role. Sungwa-gu, in order to better observe Daegun Kwan's fighting techniques, deliberately had his classmates pretend to be beaten up, and then had them message Sung-Hun Lee saying they were being bullied, who would then message Daegun Kwan to come to their rescue. And after receiving the message, Sung-Hun Lee immediately notified Daegun Kwan. Daegun Kwan received Sung-Hun Lee's message and rushed to the scene right away. But then Sung-Hun Lee called saying he had something to do and might arrive late. Yet Sung-Hun Lee actually arrived before Daegun Kwan, and was already positioned at a perfect vantage point to see Daegun Kwan and Sungwa-gu's group. When Daegun Kwan was on the phone with Sung-Hun Lee, Do Hyun Kim was standing beside him, and immediately told Manho No and others about the situation. They all rushed to the abandoned construction site. Just as Daegun Kwan arrived at the construction site, Sungwa-gu, hiding in the shadows, spotted him. By the time Daegun Kwan arrived, everyone was still enthusiastically acting out their roles, though it was tough for the student pretending to be beaten up, as they were really getting hit. Daegun Kwan randomly called out to the group, you guys really know how to pick a spot, huh? As it happens, I like places like this too, where no one will discover us no matter how much fighting goes on. But after looking around, Daegun Kwan realized there was no sign of Sungwa-gu. However, Daegun Kwan wasn't in a hurry. He figured once he took down all these guys, Sungwa-gu would naturally appear. Meanwhile, Sungwa-gu was hiding in the shadows with binoculars to observe, while a boy next to him asked why he was doing this. Sungwa-gu explained, ordinary people can't break through their limits, only the chosen ones can. The boy then said, these guys may be second only to us in class 7, but are they really that strong? Sungwa-gu replied, no, they'll be defeated soon. What I'm looking forward to is collecting Daegun Kwan's fighting techniques through them, and making myself stronger. Just then, a voice came from behind them. You're really a bastard, using your own friends as sacrifices. Surprisingly, it was Song Bo-shim. Song Bo-shim asked, am I late? Sungwa-gu replied, just in time. Meanwhile, Daegun Kwan had prepared himself for a group fight, but only one person stepped forward, ready to face Daegun Kwan one-on-one. According to Sungwa-gu's introduction, this guy was a mobile boxer like Song Bo-shim. He said Song Bo-shim lost to Daegun Kwan because he didn't understand his opponent well enough, and Daegun Kwan had already learned about him from Manho No. Song Bo-shim agreed with Sungwa-gu's insight, and confidently claimed he wouldn't lose to Daegun Kwan under equal conditions. Sungwa-gu then said, so today is the opportunity for revenge that I've prepared for you. Let's watch for now. At this point, the boy next to him was confused, as Sungwa-gu surely knew about Dojin Park's situation, so this Song Bo-shim guy definitely wouldn't be a match for Daegun Kwan. Meanwhile, Daegun Kwan was ready to fight. He immediately recognized the man as a mobile boxer. The man didn't waste words with Daegun Kwan and charged forward with one step, Such an attack naturally couldn't hit Daegun Kwan. The man's familiar attack style reminded Daegun Kwan of Sangbo Shim. With just a slight counter, he forced the man back. Then he stepped forward and landed a kick on the man, making the man stagger. Then Daegun Kwan landed another punch on the man. It took merely 2.5 seconds to defeat him. Then Daegun Kwan took off his jacket and set his sights on everyone else. Shouldn't the PE specialist class be the strongest? But this is too disappointing. Let's end this quickly. I don't have much time to play with you. After saying that, Daegun Kwan charged forward, landing a punch on the lucky guy in front. Seeing this, everyone rushed toward him at once. But these people were no match for Daegun Kwan. Like moths to a flame, they rushed toward Daegun Kwan and were easily taken down one by one by Daegun Kwan. In less than 2.5 minutes, Daegun Kwan had dealt with almost everyone. Only one person remained standing motionless. Seeing everyone defeated, this man finally prepared to make his move. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan said, "I had some expectations for you guys, but these people are too weak. I hope you're different from them." At this point, Sangbo Shim on the building across was stunned, unable to tell if the opponents were too weak or if Daegun Kwan was just that strong. Then Sung Woo reminded him, "Watch this last guy carefully, you should know him too. He's the strongest in Class 7 apart from me, and unlike you, he's a speed-type boxer." But Sung Woo never expected to be proven wrong in the next second. The man had already rushed quickly toward Daegun Kwan. But in the next second, Daegun Kwan moved even faster, reaching the man first. Then he landed a punch on the man's face. With just one punch, the man was sent flying. After taking this punch, the man actually passed out. Seeing this, Daegun Kwan sighed. "I thought there might be something different, but it's all the same." Then Daegun Kwan began to interrogate them about Sung Woo whereabouts. At this time, Manho No and others had also arrived at the construction site. Jungmin was questioning why Sung Hun Lee only notified Daegun Kwan and not them. Hearing this, Manho No fell into deep thought, but couldn't do anything about it. Suddenly, Jungmin spotted Sung Woo's position. They didn't waste any more time and prepared to go find Sung Woo. Meanwhile, at Sung Woo's location, Sangbo Shim was preparing to take action himself after seeing Daegun Kwan defeat everyone. Sung Woo wanted to warn Sangbo Shim, but Sangbo Shim wouldn't listen. At this point, Sangbo Shim was deceiving himself. "It must be because these guys are too weak. This time I'm prepared. And his fighting style isn't fully developed yet. He has good judgment, but you can tell he hasn't had formal training." Just as Sangbo Shim went downstairs, he ran into Manho No and his group. Seeing Sangbo Shim, Manho No stepped forward and demanded, "What are you doing here?" Seeing this, Sangbo Shim taunted, "What are you useless people doing here? If you don't want to get beaten up, get lost." Manho No then said, "Looks like you're also planning to go after Daegun Kwan." Hearing this, Sangbo Shim mocked, "Looks like you guys are close, huh? How's it been? Running errands for him? You guys are right. I'm going to beat up Daegun Kwan now, and after I take him down, you'll be my sandbags." Hearing this, Manho No laughed, "You're dreaming. Even if you're lucky enough to beat Daegun Kwan, you're no match for me anymore." Sangbo Shim suddenly remembered the feeling of being dominated by Manho No before, and angrily said, "You should know that was unsportsmanlike." Manho No then said, "So what? I'm different outside of school than I am inside." Sangbo Shim then mocked, "Just a stupid idiot who knows how to swing weapons around? Let me warm up by taking you down first." Seeing this, Jungmin and Hojong wanted to team up with Manho No to deal with him. But Manho No said it wasn't necessary. "We should still have some dignity. I'll handle him myself." In the next second, Sangbo Shim rushed forward with a quick step. His speed almost shocked Manho No. He quickly stabbed forward with the pen in his hand, but Sangbo Shim dodged it with a sidestep. Then Sangbo Shim landed a punch on Manho No's ribs. With this hit, Manho No was temporarily at a disadvantage. Facing Sangbo Shim's storm-like attacks, he had no chance to counterattack. In desperation, Manho No quickly swung the pen in his hand, forcing Sangbo Shim back. But Sangbo Shim charged forward again and gave Manho No another punch. Manho No hurriedly swung the pen in his hand to counterattack, but all were dodged by Sangbo Shim with a stride. After the stride, Sangbo Shim delivered a charged punch to Manho No. This cycle repeated countless times. Sangbo Shim couldn't help but mock him. "With such childish moves, you think you can defeat me? I'm having a hard time here." Standing on the high platform, Sung Hun Lee was confused by this. Is Manho No really that stupid? It's obvious his attacks are meaningless. The swinging motion of the pen was too wide before it could hit Sangbo Shim. He would already be hit by Sangbo Shim first. At this point, Manho No seemed to realize this too and changed his attack strategy, but Sangbo Shim moved too fast, making it hard to hit him. In the next second, Manho No suddenly kicked, hitting Sangbo Shim's lower leg. This kick successfully made Sangbo Shim step back a few steps. Then Sangbo Shim said, "This scene is so familiar. This is how Daegun Kwan defeated me back then. Unfortunately, your strength is far less than Daegun Kwan's. This kick didn't affect me at all, but my fists are different for you." But in the next second, Sangbo Shim suddenly felt a sharp pain in his hand. The next second, Manho No rolled up his sleeve, revealing both arms covered in watches. "I'm very sensitive about time, so it's normal to wear several watches, right?" Seeing this, Sangbo Shim charged forward again. "You're a real psycho." Manho No tried to use the same technique to attack Sangbo Shim, but unfortunately, Sangbo Shim detected it beforehand and charged forward first. Then he landed a punch on Manho No. Manho No entered the beaten state again. Sangbo Shim couldn't help but mock, "You're still as weak as ever." Meanwhile, Jungmin and Hojong had reached the upper floor. Sung Woo-gu was a bit confused about how they found him, then said, "Are you looking for Dae-gun Kwon? He's on the building across." Hearing this, they were about to call Dae-gun Kwon to tell him Sung Woo-gu's location. The man beside Sung Woo-gu charged forward. A flying kick aimed at Jung-min, who was about to make the call, directly kicking Jung-min away. Then he landed steadily on the ground. Then with a turn, he kicked back Ho-jung, then said, "You don't need to call Dae-gun Kwon. We finished our business today." Suddenly being ambushed, Ho-jung was completely furious, cursing, "Bastard, what are you trying to do?" But the man said, "It's useless to tell you. Once you're knocked out, you won't remember anything." Hearing this, Ho-jung wasn't convinced. "Am I someone you can just knock out whenever you want?" At this point, Sung Woo-gu said, "Sung Bo-shim's battle is almost over, let's hurry up." The man immediately said, "Don't worry, dealing with a big idiot like him is my specialty." At this time, the battle between Man Ho-no and Sang Bo-shim was also nearing its end. Man Ho-no gripped the pen in his hand tightly and said, "It's time to end this." Hearing this, Sang Bo-shim sneered, "I don't plan to end it yet." Then he charged forward again. Man Ho-no hurriedly swung the pen in his hand, forcing Sang Bo-shim back. Sang Bo-shim saw an opportunity and was about to counterattack. But in the next second, he was kicked in the ribs by Man Ho-no. Seeing this, Sang Bo-shim sneered, "Have you forgotten that your kicks have no power at all?" But in the next second, a sharp pain came, making Sang Bo-shim fall to his knees. This stunned Sang Bo-shim. "What's going on?" Man Ho-no then said, "Did you really think I'm that stupid? This time I kicked you with my toe, and I'm wearing very hard Martin boots. I can't even imagine how painful this kick is. No matter what, I win this time, which means you can't beat Dae-gun Kwon." Seeing this, Sang Bo-shim said, "Don't joke around. It's not over yet." And seeing this, Man Ho-no was about to go for another kick, scaring Sang Bo-shim into begging for mercy. But in the next second, a wave of pain still hit his brain. At this time, Man Ho-no was also heavily injured, almost losing his ability to move. Just as Man Ho-no was worried about Jung-min and Ho-jung, Dae-gun Kwon suddenly appeared here and asked, "Man Ho-no, what are you doing here?" Meanwhile, at Sung Woo-gu's location, seeing Sang Bo-shim defeated, he felt a pity that he couldn't see the second round between Sang Bo-shim and Dae-gun Kwon. Then he prepared to leave with his friend, but turning around, he found the man still fighting with Ho-jung. No matter how the man attacked, he couldn't knock down Ho-jung, who took this opportunity to send a text message to Dae-gun Kwon. Seeing this, Sung Woo-gu walked over. "Don't tell me you're deliberately dragging this out." The man quickly explained, "This guy has something, my attacks can't knock him down." Sung Woo-gu then said, "That's because your attacks are ineffective." Saying this, he grabbed Ho-jung, who was still texting, and said, "When dealing with someone with strong resistance to hits, you must find a way to cause effective damage." Saying this, he lifted Ho-jung by the waist, then performed a shoulder throw, slamming him heavily to the ground. Only with this did Ho-jung fall into temporary unconsciousness. The man next to him said, "This guy is really tough. It's definitely not because I'm weak that I couldn't knock him down." After saying this, he turned his gaze to Jung-min, only to find that Jung-min had already woken up. Seeing this, the man rushed over, wanting to knock out Jung-min again. But in the next second, someone suddenly appeared and kicked the man away. Then the newcomer went up and gave the man a punch, knocking him out. Jung-min was stunned by this scene. In the next second, the person turned around, and it was actually Sung-hun Lee. Sung-hun Lee then said, "Why did you guys come? I didn't call you." Jung-min immediately explained, "Of course, because we're concerned about Dae-gun Kwon's safety." Sung-hun Lee immediately interrupted Jung-min, "That's exactly why I didn't call you. You're so weak you'll just get in the way." Jung-min was speechless for a moment, then asked, "Where's Dae-gun Kwon now? If what you say is true." Jung-min hadn't finished. When he saw Dae-gun Kwon supporting Man Ho-no coming up, Dae-gun Kwon then said, "Are you guys having a party without me?" Sung-hun Lee then said, "Looks like Sung Woo-gu is up to something." Dae-gun Kwon then set his gaze on Sung Woo-gu, asking, "What's the situation now?" Sung Woo-gu didn't hide anything and said directly, "Nothing, just called the top 10 from our class, led you here for a fight, and analyzed your combat information. Now I've collected enough. I'll organize this information and make an appointment later." Dae-gun Kwon naturally wouldn't let him go, saying, "Don't even think about leaving. Today is your death day." Seeing this, Sung Woo-gu understood he couldn't leave, and said, "Then let's change the location. I also want to fight you." Seeing this, Dae-gun Kwon couldn't help but sigh, "You're really troublesome." Sung Woo-gu was confused. "Don't you prefer a spacious venue? And I'll use grappling techniques based on your wrestling." But in the next second, Dae-gun Kwon's shoe flew towards Sung Woo-gu. After catching it, Sung Woo-gu was stunned. "What are you doing?" But Dae-gun Kwon kicked his other shoe over too. It flew directly into Sung Woo-gu's face. "Too much talk. Come on, let's go. As you wish." In the next second, Sung Woo-gu took a fighting stance. "I hope you'll use all your strength to fight me." In the next second, Sung Woo-gu charged toward Dae-gun Kwon. He swung a punch at Dae-gun Kwon, but this was just Sung Woo-gu's feint. His goal was to grab Dae-gun Kwon's legs for a takedown. Dae-gun Kwon was about to dodge when he saw Sung Woo-gu swing another punch, but this was also a feint. Fortunately, Dae-gun Kwon reacted quickly and dodged. After missing a hit, Sung Woo-gu didn't give up and attacked Dae-gun Kwon again. Seeing this, Dae-gun Kwon was stunned. "Didn't you say you were going to use grappling techniques? Why do you keep attacking?" At this point, Man Ho-no, watching from the side, couldn't help but sigh. Sung Woo-gu's destructive power from his abnormal physique, plus such aggressive attacks, makes him an absolutely formidable offensive fighter. At this point, Sung Woo-goo's companion had woken up and said Sung Woo-goo was an MMA fighter who could use all fighting techniques. This means he's an all-around fighter proficient in both offensive and grappling techniques. So there's no suspense in this fight. No matter how skilled Dae-gun Kwon is without his offensive ability, before he could finish, he saw Dae-gun Kwon's fist gently caressing Sung Woo-goo's face. Then Sung Woo-goo happily flew out. The man was stunned seeing this. But at this point, Sung Woo-goo still wasn't panicking and said, "I know you haven't used your full strength. Similarly, I haven't used my best style either." Seeing this, Dae-gun Kwon slowly approached Sung Woo-goo. "I suddenly want to let you try because I'm quite curious about the technique you mentioned. I heard your close combat is a bit stronger, so I'll get closer to you and try." Hearing this, Sung Woo-goo paused for a moment, saying, "I really appreciate your confidence. Then I won't hold back. The technique I mentioned that can instantly throw an opponent to the ground is the judo back throw." After saying this, Sung Woo-goo charged forward, but in the next second, he took a solid punch from Dae-gun Kwon. Dae-gun Kwon then grabbed Sung Woo-goo's arm, then gripped Sung Woo-goo's head, and smoothly threw Sung Woo-goo to the ground. Sung Woo-goo was confused for a moment, but then realized it doesn't matter who gets thrown down. Then Sung Woo-goo's legs suddenly lifted up, ready to lock Dae-gun Kwon. However, Dae-gun Kwon didn't care at all, directly raising his fist and striking down at Sung Woo-goo. One punch made Sung Woo-goo stop his movement. Then Dae-gun Kwon jumped back, and Sung Woo-goo immediately panicked, guessing that Dae-gun Kwon was preparing to attack him with his knee. If he got hit, it would be over. Then with his legs, he kicked Dae-gun Kwon away. Then Sung Woo-goo charged forward again, swinging his fist. But this punch was just a diversion. Then Sung Woo-goo deliberately fell to the ground, directly entangling Dae-gun Kwon's legs. But just as he was about to exert force to take Dae-gun Kwon down, he was kicked away by Dae-gun Kwon. The bystanders were stunned. Sung Woo-goo weighs around 90 kilograms, and he was just kicked away like that? Dae-gun Kwon couldn't help but mock. "Are you here to sweep the floor? You keep rolling around." At this point, Sung Woo-goo realized that Dae-gun Kwon had been countering by instinct. Thinking of this, Sung Woo-goo charged forward again. "In terms of technique, I won't lose to anyone." But he was quickly punched in the kidney by Dae-gun Kwon. However, his attacks could never hit Dae-gun Kwon, let alone the idea of taking Dae-gun Kwon down. But Sung Woo-goo didn't give up on trying to grab Dae-gun Kwon. After 81 attempts, he finally caught Dae-gun Kwon and successfully brought Dae-gun Kwon to the ground. But Dae-gun Kwon wasn't panicked at all, even waiting for Sung Woo-goo's next move. In Sung Woo-goo's eyes, he had the upper hand, as if the person being pinned down was Dae-gun Kwon. But soon he found something wrong. Even though he shook Dae-gun Kwon's center of gravity with his legs, he still couldn't completely flip Dae-gun Kwon over. He was always interrupted by Dae-gun Kwon's punch at the critical moment. He finally caught one of Dae-gun Kwon's arms, but was hit by Dae-gun Kwon's other fist on his arm, causing the entire arm to lose strength. Realizing something was wrong, Sung Woo-goo wanted to kick Dae-gun Kwon away again. But this time, Dae-gun Kwon dodged. Then what Sung Woo-goo faced were fists like a downpour. Finally, after who knows how long, Sung Woo-goo was completely defeated by Dae-gun Kwon, and Dae-gun Kwon and his group had already left the construction site. From now on, Dae-gun Kwon was the undisputed first-year boss. At this point, Sung Woo-goo also reminded, "Dae-gun Kwon, you should be clear, being just the first-year boss isn't enough. This is just the beginning, so tomorrow let's go deal with the second years." Meanwhile, at Suji Bak's room, she suddenly received a call from Ji-seok-yu. Ji-seok-yu said to meet up. He had something to ask her. At this point, Ji-seok-yu remembered a scene from earlier that day. Sung-hoon Lee had come to him, asking about Soo-hyuk Baek. He asked some questions about Suji Baek's preferences, asking him to ask Suji Baek where her brother Soo-hyuk Baek had gone. Although Ji-seok-yu didn't want to follow Sung-hoon Lee's orders, he couldn't beat him, so he had to come ask Suji Baek. At this time, two girls nearby saw Ji-seok-yu. One of them was the girl who was always following Ji-seok-yu. The two came over to chat with Ji-seok-yu. Just then, Suji Baek walked out and asked, "Didn't you say you'd be alone?" Ji-seok-yu then said, "I just ran into them on the way." A girl nearby said, "What's this girl's relationship with him? And she's dressed so skimpily." In the next second, Suji Baek stared at her and said, "Shut up and take your hand out of your pocket." Seeing this, Ji-seok-yu quickly stepped forward and said, "Alright, I didn't call you out to be fierce." But Suji Baek directly shook off Ji-seok-yu's arm, then set her gaze on the girl and said, "Didn't you hear what I said?" Seeing this, the girl was intimidated. She subconsciously took her hand out of her pocket. Then Suji Baek pulled Ji-seok-yu away. Then Ji-seok-yu asked where Soo-hyuk Baek was now, saying he hadn't seen him for a long time. Suji Baek then said, "I don't know either. He said he'd be away for about a month this time. Being away for so long, if the light bulb at home breaks, I can't fix it." Ji-seok-yu then said, "That is quite long, but for fixing a light bulb." Before he could finish, he was interrupted. Suji Baek said, "Let me warn you, don't think about going after Dae-gun Kwon. You're not trying to get my brother to deal with Dae-gun Kwon, are you?" Hearing this, Ji-seok-yu was immediately displeased. "Don't tell me you've fallen for Dae-gun Kwon. Didn't you used to hate him?" Hearing this, Suji Baek was embarrassed and angry. "What are you talking about?" Then Ji-seok-yu said, "You don't need to worry. This guy is now the boss of the first years." Hearing this, Suji Baek was stunned for a moment. Meanwhile, at the office of the chairman, a patrolling security guard found a suspicious person, and this person turned out to be Min-soo Kim. Seeing that he was a student, the security guard escorted Min-soo Kim out. After leaving, Min-soo Kim took out his phone and made a call. And the person on the other end was actually Sa-mi Lee. After hearing Min-soo Kim's report, Sa-mi Lee couldn't help but sigh. This action is too fast. The next day, when Daegun Kwon arrived at school, the entire first year knew that Daegun Kwon had become the boss. After arriving at school, Daegun Kwon immediately went to find Sung-hoon Lee. Jinmo and others also immediately came over, but seeing Daegun Kwon discussing things with Sung-hoon Lee, they didn't dare to disturb. At this time, Suji Baek suddenly walked in. Don't think you're so great just because you became the boss. You're just the boss of the first years now. However, Daegun Kwon didn't pay attention to Suji Baek. This angered Suji Baek, who went forward and grabbed Daegun Kwon's collar, but accidentally pulled off a button, revealing solid muscles. Seeing this, Suji Baek immediately blushed. I didn't mean to undress you. Daegun Kwon looked down and didn't argue with Suji Baek, but asked, do you have something to find me for? Suji Baek immediately resumed her arrogant expression and said, of course I have business with you. Otherwise, do you think I'm that free? You should know that I'm the queen here, right? Since you've become the boss, you should come and greet me first. Sung-hoon Lee nearby laughed. According to tradition, after becoming the boss, you should indeed greet the bosses of the second and third years. But that has nothing to do with you, right? Hearing this, Suji Baek blushed again, saying quietly, you're the king of the first years, so it's only natural to greet the queen, right? Jinmo interjected at this point. Daegun Kwon is the king, Suji Baek is the queen, so what's their relationship? Hearing this, Suji Baek went up and punched Jinmo. Are you crazy? You're bringing this up? Although Suji Baek appeared angry on the surface, she was secretly delighted, fully agreeing with what Jinmo had just said. After hitting him, Suji Baek took out her phone and said, give me your phone number. Don't misunderstand, I want your number so I can boss you around. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon had to give Suji Baek his phone number. After getting the number, Suji Baek left. Sung-hoon Lee nearby pondered this scene thoughtfully. Then he told Daegun Kwon, it's time to set out. As Suji Baek said, go greet the seniors. And the greeting time is limited, so be serious this time when fighting, don't treat them like monkeys. Soon, Daegun Kwon arrived at the second year's territory. At this time, the second years didn't know what they were about to face. Seeing Daegun Kwon, they directly blocked him. And Daegun Kwon didn't waste words either, going straight for a punch. The bald guy in front didn't even know what happened. Before being punched away by Daegun Kwon, you are Ye-gil-oh from the second year gang followers of the Middle Way. I'm here to greet you. The others were immediately angered, not expecting Daegun Kwon to come to the second year to cause trouble. But Daegun Kwon didn't waste words, taking care of the small fry with a few punches and kicks. Ye-gil-oh of the followers of the Middle Way said, do you know who I am? How dare you lay hands on me? Daegun Kwon then took out his phone and looked. Ye-gil-oh, third in command of the followers of the Middle Way, collects protection money from students, often extorts and beats others. You've committed quite a few offenses. Didn't I say no more collecting protection money? Hearing this, Ye-gil-oh charged forward. Don't be too arrogant, you first year dare to command us second years? But in the next second, he was kicked in the lower leg knee. Then his bald head was grabbed and slammed against the wall. You guys really don't listen. The student being bullied by Ye-gil-oh and others was stunned. This guy just one-shot Ye-gil-oh. Daegun Kwon then turned and asked, are you okay? The man was stunned for a moment. Why is he asking me? Is he concerned about me? Just then, another member of the followers of the Middle Way came in. As soon as he entered, he saw Ye-gil-oh taken down by Daegun Kwon. The man was immediately angered. He actually took out a utility knife. In the next second, he charged toward Daegun Kwon. You should have given a heads up if you were coming. At least let me sharpen my knife. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon directly grabbed a chair nearby and smashed it toward the man. Even if you sharpened it, so what? Keep it for cutting craft paper? Before the man could react, Daegun Kwon kicked the man's abdomen, directly kicking him out of the classroom. Daegun Kwon calmly walked to the man. Under everyone's gaze, he gave the man another kick. This commotion quickly attracted onlookers in the corridor. Seeing this, Daegun Kwon said, all members of the second-year followers of the Middle Way come out. The surrounding people were immediately angered. You haven't even grown up and you're going crazy? This is the second year's territory. Saying this, many people rushed toward Daegun Kwon. But Daegun Kwon wasn't worried at all. These people were like ants in his eyes. With just one punch, he knocked a man to the ground. Then Daegun Kwon entered the classroom again. A chorus of wails immediately sounded from inside. The next second, someone was thrown out. Not long after, Daegun Kwon walked out of class 2-2 unharmed. He turned and went to class 2-3. Next is class 3. The people in class 3 also attacked Daegun Kwon immediately upon seeing him. Unfortunately, they lacked strength and were resolved in less than 3 rounds by Daegun Kwon. One of them panicked, quickly taking out his phone to message Gong Myung-ju and Ja Ok-won. The next second, Daegun Kwon appeared in front of the man. Baldy, are you also from the followers of the Middle Way? The man immediately broke into a cold sweat. Are you texting Gong Myung-ju now? That's right, you should have done this earlier. Get all your bald squad members over here. At this time, on the other side, Min-soo Kim suddenly received a call from Sa-mi Lee, asking about the progress of Daegun Kwon's school bully assignment. Min-soo Kim said that now it was the second year's turn, but it should take longer than the first year's. After all, the second year's order was already stable, unlike the first years who hadn't elected a boss yet. Compared to the first years, the second years were more like a gang acting together. Indeed, at this time in the second year area, Gong Myung-ju had already brought people to find Daegun Kwon. As soon as he entered, he saw Daegun Kwon enjoying a massage service. You guys are too late. Is everyone here? Seeing this, Gong Myung-ju was furious. How dare you attack the second years? Daegun Kwon said nonchalantly. "Don't just stand there. Come in." Gong Myung-ju then walked into the classroom. "It seems I, as a second-year senior, need to teach you how to behave. With a compassionate heart, I'll send you to the afterlife." After he finished, the people beside Gong Myung-ju all charged forward. Dae-gun Kwon calmly hugged a fat guy nearby. Then he used the fat guy as a shield in front of him, scaring the fat guy into a cold sweat. In the next second, Dae-gun Kwon punched a man in the kidney. The intense pain immediately made the man fall to his knees. The people charging from behind quickly stopped. One of the men was about to jump up, but in the next second, a figure flew past in front of him. Then the man was grabbed by the collar by Dae-gun Kwon. Then with one punch, the man was sent flying. Gong Myung-ju nearby became anxious. "Bunch of idiots. Who told you to stand in a line and fight him one by one? If the path is blocked, flip the tables and get him." But Dae-gun Kwon was faster, kicking a table. The man on the table immediately lost balance and was about to fall. Dae-gun Kwon quickly went forward and supported him with his fist, then kindly threw him to his companions. Gong Myung-ju became anxious and quickly had others go around through the back door. But as soon as the man ran to the back door, he was startled. The next second, the man flew out and crashed into his companion. Then Dae-gun Kwon stuck his head out, grabbed the remaining person, pulled him in front of himself, while another person swung a chair at Dae-gun Kwon. Both men were startled by this, but the one with the chair couldn't stop. Then the man brought the chair down, successfully taking out his own teammate. Dae-gun Kwon took the opportunity to kick the man, having just dealt with these guys. He looked up to see many more people charging in. Unfortunately, no matter how many there were, none could harm Dae-gun Kwon in the slightest. Gong Myung-ju on the platform was about to wet himself from fear. This guy was too terrifying, and formidable was no longer sufficient to describe him. Facing so many people's attacks, he could not only come up with quick countermeasures, but also use the surrounding terrain and objects to turn group fights into one-on-ones. He could easily handle various situations. If he could truly control everything in battle, then no matter how many people came, it would be the same, unless there were enough to exhaust his stamina. But for a first year to cause the second year's total defeat was already unbelievable. So now they had to win this battle by any means necessary, or the followers of the middle way would lose all face, even if these methods deviated from the middle way. In the next second, Gong Myung-ju took out a utility knife from his pocket and charged forward. But in the next second, Gong Myung-ju froze in place. At this moment, he seemed to have a hallucination before his eyes. A soul-like entity appeared before him. Seeing this, Gong Myung-ju instinctively rubbed his eyes. But in the next second, he saw Dae-gun Kwon already standing in front of him. Gong Myung-ju was startled. His speech became slurred. "Who are you exactly? What was that thing above you just now?" Dae-gun Kwon raised his fist. "I don't know what you're talking about, but you took off your glasses, which means you want to taste my fist." Before Gong Myung-ju could react, the fist was already in front of his eyes. One punch directly sent Gong Myung-ju flying. Meanwhile, Manho No and others had just learned about Dae-gun Kwon going to challenge the second years. They hurriedly ran toward the second year floor. On the other side, Suji Baek had also learned about this from Jinmo. She quickly pulled Jinmo, asking him to take her there to save Dae-gun Kwon. But by the time they arrived, Dae-gun Kwon had already finished fighting. Dae-gun Kwon looked at the information on his phone. "The one I just dealt with is Gong Myung-ju, so only the second year boss Ja Ok-1 is left. I really hope he comes soon." But Dae-gun Kwon was still waiting for Ja Ok-1 to appear, when unexpectedly the teacher arrived first. And surprisingly, the teacher was Min-soo Kim, specifically called over. His purpose was to delay Dae-gun Kwon's progress in dealing with the second-year students. As expected, the teacher called Dae-gun Kwon to the office to criticize him. At this moment, Chairman Lee suddenly appeared in the office. The teacher quickly bowed in greeting, while Chairman Lee spoke to Dae-gun Kwon, asking how he was doing in school and if everything was going smoothly. The teacher was stunned, never expecting that Chairman Lee knew Dae-gun Kwon. At this point, Chairman Lee turned his gaze to the teacher and said, "Teacher Lee, let's have a chat." The scene cuts to the teacher with his head bowed to the floor, with Chairman Lee pointing a golf club at his head saying, "How could you boss Dae-gun Kwon around just because he has no money? Education requires nurturing with love. In the future, be nicer to Dae-gun Kwon. Do you understand my meaning?" Dae-gun Kwon watched in confusion, wondering what was going on. After sending the teacher away, Chairman Lee turned to Dae-gun Kwon. "We met before in the project meeting room, but this should be our first official meeting. Come and chat with me." Meanwhile, in the second year, Ja Ok-1 had appeared. Looking at her fallen companions from the gang followers of the middle way, Ja Ok-1 immediately became furious and asked what happened. The man behind her said it was done by the first-year student Dae-gun Kwon. "I was somewhere else, so I'm fine. But where were you? When the boss wasn't around, everyone got beaten up like this." Ja Ok-1 then said, "I went to see Senior Soo-hyuk Baek. Don't you know?" Hearing this, the man muttered, "So he might have known you weren't here, but there's no spy among us. How could he possibly know?" At this point, Ja Ok-1 was preparing to leave. The man quickly asked what he was going to do. "I need to find a quiet place to think about what that guy is up to." Meanwhile, at Dae-gun Kwon's location, Chairman Lee explained, the school bully management project was Sami Lee's idea. Having a school bully deal with other bullies? How childish, right? But I found it interesting, so I agreed to this project. However, the progress has been so slow that I almost forgot about it. Men should fight and compete. Only by climbing to the top through any means can you prove your worth. A man like you should understand what I mean. Just take out all those school bullies." Dae-gun Kwon then asked, "What about the doors and windows I broke?" Chairman Lee replied, "Don't worry about such trivial matters. Who do you think owns Golden Dragon High School? Doesn't it say I'm the chairman? Everything here belongs to me." Meanwhile, on Manho No and his group side, Jungmin was hungry and headed to the school store to buy some food, but as soon as he opened the classroom door, someone blocked his way. It was Ja Ok-won who had come looking for them. Jungmin was so scared he couldn't speak and said, You seem to be smoking?" But the next second, Ja Ok-won struck, punching Jungmin in the abdomen. Manho No and Hojong quickly rushed over when they saw this. Ja Ok-won threw Jungmin aside and walked towards the two, saying, "So good, reap good. So evil, reap evil. The consequences of your actions is called karma, and what I'm about to do is Daegun Kwan's karma." Manho No and Hojong quickly grabbed their weapons. Facing the second-year boss, the two had no confidence. Manho No said, "We can't run away, so let's attack with the 2 versus 1 formation A." With that, the two charged forward. But the next second, Ja Ok-won suddenly accelerated and bypassed Manho No. Using the momentum of the charge, she grabbed Hojong from behind, then violently slammed Hojong to the ground. Seeing this, Manho No quickly raised his crowbar and charged. The crowbar hit Ja Ok-won solidly, but Manho No panicked even more. The blow hadn't caused any damage to Ja Ok-won. Ja Ok-won stood up and turned to look at Manho. "No, have you heard of the adamant body?" Manho No replied, "Let me think what that is," but then whispered, "Now." Hearing this, JJ Ok-won quickly turned to look at Hojong, only to find him still lying motionless on the ground. Then Manho No swung his crowbar at Ja Ok-won's groin. "Can your adamant body extend to this area?" But before it hit Ja Ok-won, he caught it between her legs. "Your observation skills are strong, but unfortunately I have no intention of becoming a nun." The next second, there was a loud noise, and Manho No was sent flying several meters back. Hojong behind her had also regained consciousness by now. He raised his brass-knuckled fist and charged. Ja Ok-won gripped her prayer beads, then turned to face Hojong with a counter-punch. One punch knocked the brass knuckles off Hojong's hand, then he delivered an uppercut to Hojong's abdomen, almost making Hojong throw up last night's dinner. However, Ja Ok-won wasn't done yet. He raised both hands, and then smashed them down on Hojong's back. After this punch, Hojong completely stopped moving. Then Ja Ok-won slowly walked toward Manho. "Everyone related to Daegun Kwan will be taken out by me. This is his karma." Manho No thought to himself, "This is bad. This person isn't human. I can't beat him. I might really go to hell. My whole life has been like walking on thin ice. Do you think I can make it to the other shore?" Suddenly, a voice interrupted Manho No's thoughts. Gyuri Park had suddenly appeared and looked at Manho. "No, what are you doing lying on the ground?" Manho No quickly said, "Run, it's dangerous here." But by now Ja Ok-won had turned her attention to Gyuri Park. "Are you also with Daegun Kwan? If so, blame Daegun Kwan." Seeing Ja Ok-won clench her fist, Manho No became anxious, shouting for Gyuri Park to run. The next second, Gyuri Park flashed away at lightning speed. Ja Ok-won's punch missed. It was Daegun Kwan who suddenly appeared and saved Gyuri Park. "Ja Ok-won, you've delivered yourself to my doorstep. Good. Saves me the trouble of finding you." Daegun Kwan then told Gyuri Park to leave immediately. While Ja Ok-won slowly walked toward Daegun Kwan, "I've been waiting for you a long time, Daegun Kwan. You've given my gang followers of the Middle Way quite a beating. I wanted to return the favor to your friends. But now that I see you, I can't hold back. Let me send you to hell myself." By now, news of Daegun Kwan and Ja Ok-won's fight had spread throughout the school, immediately attracting many students to watch. Daegun Kwan appeared relaxed. "I said from the beginning this would be the outcome of collecting protection money." At this moment, a voice suddenly came from a nearby door crack. "Daegun Kwan, don't let your guard down. That guy is really strong." Daegun Kwan looked over and realized it was Manho No. Manho No continued, "That guy is very fast and extremely tough. Even weapons can't harm him." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan looked at Ja Ok-won and noticed that his aura was indeed different from last time. He might have already entered a heightened state. At this point, Ja Ok-won was so angry that veins were popping out. "This time, I will definitely send you to hell." Daegun Kwan bent down and said, "Then let me see how you'll send me to hell." Then there was a bang and Ja Ok-won was sent flying. Manho No, watching from inside, was stunned. He can't possibly be unharmed after that, right? Meanwhile, Suji Baek from Class 6 had also heard about Daegun Kwan and Ja Ok-won's confrontation. She hurriedly pulled Jinmo along to save Daegun Kwan. Now Ja Ok-won, after taking a punch from Daegun Kwan, finally understood why Park Dojin couldn't withstand him before. Daegun Kwan said casually, "It seems you have some skill, but it's not enough against me." The next second, Ja Ok-won clasped his hands together. "I have obtained the blessing from the Buddha. I won't suffer any injury." By now, Suji Baek had arrived. Seeing that Daegun Kwan and Ja Ok-won were still fighting, she couldn't help but worry. At this moment, Jungmin suddenly appeared near Ja Ok-won, raising his brass-knuckled fist to sneak attack Ja Ok-won's groin. "This is payback for punching me earlier." But the next second, Ja Ok-won suddenly let out an angry roar, frightening Jungmin into stopping. "Foolish one, I could have crushed you earlier, but you're just an ant. I don't have time to deal with you now. You'll be taken out along with Daegun Kwan anyway." With that, Ja Ok-won raised one foot. stomped hard on the ground and shouted, "The sixth sense, the flash stride!" The next second, Jia Ok-1 rushed to Daegun Kwan's front. This speed surprised even Daegun Kwan, but it wasn't enough to land a hit on him. After dodging, Daegun Kwan immediately raised his fists, raining blows on Jia Ok-1 like a storm. Jia Ok-1 could only put both hands up to defend, but Daegun Kwan's fists were like sniper rifles aimed at Jia Ok-1's head, directly scoring a headshot on Jia Ok-1. However, surprisingly, Jia Ok-1 withstood the blow and could quickly counterattack Daegun Kwan. "Forgot to tell you, my head is just as hard. Don't expect to hurt me." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan narrowed his eyes. The next second, he landed another punch on Jia Ok-1's abdomen. Although he couldn't defeat Jia Ok-1 yet, Jia Ok-1's attacks simply couldn't hit Daegun Kwan. After several rounds, Jia Ok-1 was constantly getting hit. Soon, Jia Ok-1 noticed something wrong. Daegun Kwan's fists didn't feel like fists. They were more like nail guns, directly penetrating his adamant body and causing internal damage. Soon, Jia Ok-1 could no longer withstand the damage and fell to his knees. Daegun Kwan said, "Where's your Buddha's blessing? Didn't you say it was an adamant body? Maybe you were wrong. It wasn't the Buddha at all." Hearing this, Jia Ok-1 was so angry he could have broken his teeth. "Don't insult my middle way." Then he unleashed a Buddha's palm attack toward Daegun Kwan, which predictably missed. Then was caught by Daegun Kwan, who grabbed his arm and violently threw him away. "What Buddha's palm? How long are you going to keep up this fake monk act? If it's real, then ask Buddha to protect you one more time, because I'm not done beating you up yet." No one around expected Jia Ok-1 to be so powerless. Meanwhile, the second year's second-tier group, the Sacred Ties, was also watching this battle. Surprisingly, they had connections with Samuel Kim, the fifth member of the gang followers of the Middle Way. Plus, Sung-Hun Lee was also part of the Sacred Ties. No wonder Samuel wasn't there when Daegun Kwan went to the second year to find the gang followers of the Middle Way. On the other side, with Daegun Kwan, the prolonged beating had put Jia Ok-1 into a flashback. It turned out that Jia Ok-1 was once a rich young man, living a life where everything was handed to him. Whatever he wanted, he got. But one day, Jia Ok-1 discovered he was starting to lose his hair. Seeing his father's bald head, Jia Ok-1 realized he could have everything except his hair. Later one day, Jia Ok-1 accidentally saw a hair transplant advertisement. He immediately went to his father wanting to get a hair transplant. However, at that time, his father was facing financial problems, and the company had gone bankrupt. From that moment on, Jia Ok-1 lost everything. Later, he voluntarily shaved off all his hair, then entered Golden Dragon High School to start making money, always waiting until he earned enough to get his hair back. However, Daegun Kwan's appearance disrupted this plan. Thinking of this, Jia Ok-1 suddenly exerted force, grabbing Daegun Kwan's legs. "I was just about to save enough," he said, trying to take Daegun Kwan down. But he was casually thrown by Daegun Kwan and slammed into the wall. Daegun Kwan remarked, "I didn't expect you still had strength left." While Jia Ok-1 stated, "Right now my strength is more abundant than ever." But Daegun Kwan no longer wanted to continue fighting. "As long as you return all the protection money you've collected, and promise not to cause trouble again, I'll let you go this time." Hearing this, Jia Ok-1 laughed. "Everyone needs protection fee rules. As for the reason, let me tell you myself." Then he assumed an attacking stance again. At this point, Jia Ok-1 seemed to have entered a special state. The late arriving Gong Myung-ju was stunned. Jia Ok-1 has finally reached the state of nirvana. With a low growl from Jia Ok-1, "Complete nirvana, the thousand hands." The next second, Daegun Kwan saw countless palms coming toward him. Daegun Kwan also noticed something off about Jia Ok-1's state. This guy probably doesn't even know he's fully committed now. Nearby, Gong Myung-ju couldn't contain his inner joy. He burst into laughter. Even if Daegun Kwan is strong, he absolutely can't withstand the overwhelming thousand hands attack. Nearby, Suji Baek commented, "This guy is really a middle school student. He's just punching faster, that's all." At this point, Daegun Kwan wasn't rushing to counterattack, only dodging Jia Ok-1's attacks. While Jia Ok-1 had reached a state of selflessness, involuntarily shouting, "You foolish being, why haven't you awakened yet? Before, everything here was peaceful. You're the one who ruined everyone's peaceful life here. Do you know that? Without you, I could collect protection fees, grasp the principle of having nothing, not only get closer to advanced nirvana, but also get hair transplant surgery." With these words, Jia Ok-1 himself was stunned. "Why did I say what's in my heart?" Nearby, Gong Myung-ju was also stunned by these words. He couldn't help but recall how Jia Ok-1 once righteously asked him to shave his head too. Daegun Kwan said, "You've finally spoken what's in your heart. Your mouth speaks of the noble middle way, but your heart is corrupted by profit. I've heard too much desire leads to baldness. Looks like it's true." Hearing this, Jia Ok-1 became furious with embarrassment. "Bastard, what do you know?" Daegun Kwan countered with a punch. Just one punch shattered Jia Ok-1's proud adamant fist. But Jia Ok-1 wouldn't give up. "Even if I lose one hand, I still have 999 more." The next second, Daegun Kwan caught his other hand. "Stop dreaming, humans only have two hands." With that, he punched Jia Ok-1. "Wake up and stop dreaming about your middle way." However, Jia Ok-1 still refused to give up, trying to struggle. But the next second, he seemed to see a giant warrior spirit manifested around Daegun Kwan. Though frightened, Ja Ok-won thought he had Buddha's protection. But the next second, he felt like Buddha had abandoned him. Finally, what awaited him was Daegun Kwan's iron fist, almost punching Ja Ok-won back to his original form. With this punch, Ja Ok-won finally lost his fighting ability, lying motionless on the ground. People nearby couldn't believe their eyes. They never expected Ja Ok-won would lose like this. Nearby, Sung-Hun Lee quickly relayed this news to Samuel. Upon hearing this news, Samuel actually said it was good. Meanwhile, Sung-Hun Lee looked at Daegun Kwan. With Ja Ok-won eliminated, the reorganization of the second year is complete. Now no one in Golden Dragon High School is stronger than Daegun Kwan. Next is to use Suji Baek to draw out Soo Hyuk Baek. Now nearby, Suji Baek saw Daegun Kwan win and immediately blushed, her heart racing. She never expected Daegun Kwan to be so impressive. On the other side, the girls were completely fascinated by Daegun Kwan. Seeing this, Suji Baek quickly took on her boss role and sent these girls back to class. Then she glanced back at Daegun Kwan. This guy really doesn't let people feel at ease. At Sung-Hun Lee's location, he found Samuel from the gang followers of the Middle Way. It turned out Samuel was actually a spy planted within the gang followers of the Middle Way. Samuel, seeing Sung-Hun Lee, immediately asked if he'd found a way to draw out Soo Hyuk Baek. Sung-Hun Lee replied that this matter was simpler than he thought, because Suji Baek likes Daegun Kwan. Then he said, "You should know about Soo Hyuk Baek and that incident." Previously, Golden Dragon High School and Bongyun High School were both giants of D-City, always competing openly and covertly. But midway, something happened. The organization backing Bongyun High School disappeared overnight. And it wasn't because of a battle between organizations, but because of Soo Hyuk Baek leading his 4 lieutenants. Just 5 people eliminated an entire organization. Since then, Bongyun High has never provoked Golden Dragon High again. Soo Hyuk Baek used to never interfere in conflicts between Golden Dragon and Bongyun. He only stepped in that time because someone from the organization had taken an interest in Suji Baek and followed her home. Hearing this, Samuel thought Sung-Hun Lee was suggesting Daegun Kwan should go to Suji Baek's house with flowers and wait, since he didn't know if Daegun Kwan liked Suji Baek. Sung-Hun Lee laughed. "Although your idea is cute, it's too ordinary. We need a more definite bait, like getting Daegun Kwan inside Suji Baek's house." Samuel broke out in a cold sweat. That bait would certainly be effective. But Sung-Hun Lee said this wasn't enough. Daegun Kwan needed to get it to Suji Baek's room. Now because Daegun Kwan ruled the entire first and second years, the whole school's atmosphere had changed. Jungmin, Hojong, and others' status had risen due to Daegun Kwan's influence. When they went to the school store, other students would actively make way for them. The news that Daegun Kwan ruled the first and second years continued to spread, even reaching other schools. Jungmin and Hojong had returned to the classroom to find Manho No, telling him what they'd seen at the school store. Excitedly stating that Daegun Kwan was now the boss of the entire school, and everyone respected them because of Daegun Kwan. Nearby, Daegun Kwan heard this and beckoned to Hojong, then put his arm around Hojong. "Why are you so excited?" Hojong apologized. "Sorry, I'll stop fooling around." At this point, Jungmin said, "Isn't there still the sacred ties in the second year? But we haven't seen them for a long time." Daegun Kwan stated, "It would be best if they just quietly disappeared. I don't even have time to study now." Then Manho No asked, "Daegun Kwan, are you sure your target is the third-year boss Soo Hyuk Baek? But Soo Hyuk Baek hasn't appeared at school for a long time. Besides Suji Baek, no one knows where he is. We can't threaten Suji Baek, can we?" At this point, Sung-Hun Lee suddenly appeared. Finding Soo Hyuk Baek is simple. Just build a good relationship with Suji Baek, then ask her directly. Nearby, Jungmin found this difficult. She considers herself a queen. How can we build a good relationship with her? We'd probably get scolded just by talking to her. He turned to look at Yuri Park. "I remember you two were quite familiar." At this point, Sung-Hun Lee suggested, "I have a brilliant idea. Why not celebrate Daegun Kwan becoming the boss? By inviting Suji Baek to a barbecue party on the rooftop?" Jungmin and Hojong were immediately excited about having barbecue. Even Manho No was looking forward to it. But Daegun Kwan found it troublesome. At this point, Hojong said, "Barbecue must be paired with beer. What do you think, Daegun Kwan?" Hearing about beer, Daegun Kwan recalled his part-time job days when he often had a drink. Daegun Kwan had to admit he was tempted. Seeing this, Sung-Hun Lee quickly added support. "Although we students shouldn't drink yet, this is a special occasion. Let's all go together." Hearing this, Daegun Kwan finally compromised and agreed to the barbecue. Sung-Hun Lee then said, "I'll take care of Suji Baek's side. I'll invite her."